and welcome to the 70th episode of the Funfiltered podcast. I am Jordan. This is Sam.
Hello.
Sam, did you know, irony of ironies, that OJ is actually an old Sanskrit word meaning wife slayer?
No. Coming up.
We review the Full Monty TV show and also kind of the Full Monty film.
We review Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
We review the miniseries Mrs. Davis.
We review Transformers Rise of the Beasts.
And we review season 4 of Succession.
Should we just get straight into it?
Let's get straight into it.
There's a lot to get through this episode.
Another one of those episodes. Another one of those, shit, we haven't recorded for like 9 weeks.
Another one of those, Eddie is gone, so we're back. We're back on form.
Yeah.
No, we're back behaving ourselves, hopefully tighter. So you watched the Full Monty.
I did.
The TV
show,
series.
I should specify.
Yes.
I watched the TV show first, and then I went back to the film.
But you had previously seen the film.
I'd previously seen the film.
Yes, but not for a long time.
Which is why I watched the show. I don't think I would have bothered with the show.
No. Yeah, all the rich allusions back to the film and things that's going to pay off and
I don't know
harken back to.
That's the problem, isn't it? I watched the Full Monty TV show because it was like, oh, I watched the Full Monty.
I have some nostalgia for that
I think
film.
I liked the Full Monty.
Yeah.
I must like the show.
Yeah. I haven't watched it.
You haven't watched it. I think you made the right decision.
Yes.
Especially having gone back to watch the film immediately after seeing the show. Mm-hmm. I knew at the time that I was watching the show that its existence was strange.
Definitely.
But having now gone back to see the film, its existence has now been upgraded to baffling.
Yeah.
Like, utterly, I do not understand why this exists. I don't know who it's for. I don't know what the guy was thinking. Because it is the guy. It's not...
It's the writer, yeah.
It's not some person...
Simon Beaufort.
That Disney went, hey, do you want to fucking write a Full Monty TV show? It's the guy. It's the Full Monty guy.
Okay, so before ignoring the content for now, let's try and break down why it would exist.
Yeah.
Okay? So like, oh yeah, let's cash in on the Full Monty craze.
Successful little British film from 1997.
Yeah, it's from 1997. It's not an anniversary.
No.
I mean, I guess it would have been 25 years last year.
Yeah.
But now it's not.
No.
So it's not an anniversary. It's not back in the culture in some way.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
No, that it's not trending on TikTok. It's not, oh, we need to capitalise on the Full Monty thing. It's not like Chippendales are more prominent than they ever have been.
It's not like any individual actor in the show has seen a renaissance in their career.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, now we'll go back and we'll kind of zero in on that character. Even though it's the Full Monty's a very good film.
It's a very good film.
It's a very good film.
I didn't realise how desperately it needed a rewatch. It's a really good film.
Yeah, it's really good. And, it's lasted in terms of, I have it in my collection. I like it.
Yeah.
I know it,
The Full Monty is still a word in the culture.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what came first. I think that preceded the film.
No, I know it was an existing term. But, the UK knows what
we
you
think
mean
of that, when
you say the Full Monty.
People know the Dole Q scene,
yeah.
The final dance, all that kind of thing. But it's not like it has this massive... It's not like a cult movie.
It's not Shaun of the Dead.
It's not Shaun of the Dead. It's not one of those... It's not Pulp Fiction. It's not one of those 90s films that, even though it was kind of lauded and, awards were heaped on it at the time.
Yeah.
It's not, when you meet a young person in their 20s now, the Full Monty's not like one of their favourite films.
No.
It hasn't lasted in that way.
Yeah.
People who saw it at the time have a fondness for it. And if you're a film person and you've watched it and you're like, yeah. But it's not like, we really need a Full Monty.
Yeah, I do think that it's a film that it's not... it's a product of its time, but it's not locked in its time. Like, you could watch that film now and still get something out of it.
Yeah, it is timeless, yeah.
And I wonder if that's one of the things they were kind of banking off when they went ahead with the show. Because to sort of to fill people in who are not that familiar, The Full Monty, as you said, it's a British film from 1997. Mm-hmm. The idea is that... sort of during the Thatcher era in Britain. It's post-Thatcher era in Britain, but during the Thatcher era, there was this boom of industry. Mm-hmm. And in Sheffield in particular, there was this big push for Sheffield steel. Mm-hmm. Go work at the steelworks, go start your career, go be big and successful and live the dream in...
It was the equivalent of cars in Detroit.
Exactly, yeah. This is the thing that's going to make us...
A manufacturing hub.
Yeah, we are going to be we're going to be on the world stage. And all of that just kind of petered out after a short while. So when the film starts, there's this montage kind of like introducing you to the propaganda and the media of the time that was sort of pushing this.
Like the 70s, like, this is Sheffield, the city on the hill.
Exactly, yeah. And then it hard cuts to an abandoned steelwork.
Yeah.
And you find out that the plot is about these steel workers who've been put out of a job, living in poverty, living on the dole, because they were promised the dream that was then ripped away from them. And they kind of find out that there's like a working men's club in their town, and there are Chippendales there, and it's like women's only. So the men are obviously like, oh, fucking Chippendales, showing, well, what the fuck's that all
No
about?
men allowed in a working men's club.
Yeah, it's a fucking disgrace, And then they find out that the Chippendales are actually making a serious amount of money. Yeah. And they're like, oh, you know what? Maybe there's something to this.
Yeah.
And so that's the premise of the film. It's these out-of-work steel workers.
Out of shape
Steel workers.
Yeah.
Ordinary men, Ginster's pasties, pint of Guinness men, training to become Chippendales so that they can make some money.
And the whole procedure kind of informs arcs in their personal lives.
Yeah.
And like it all informs. They take something from the experience, and as the film goes on, it cultivates and it kind of reignites the sense of community of the area. And that, like, when they eventually do the dance, the police show up to watch them, and all the kind of incidental people they've met throughout the film end up supporting them,
which is.
They basically points they don't think they can legitimately make it as male strippers.
Yeah.
It's the novelty of working men with beer bellies.
Yeah, initially they're in it just for the money.
Yeah.
And then they're in it for that sense of community and because they feel like they owe it to themselves
they owe it
and
to themselves. And the one thing that they have over the Chippendales is that they'll go the full Monty, which is completely nude.
Yes, hence the title of the film.
Yes.
And that's the secret sauce of the full Monty, is that it's this film about working class men training to be strippers, but it's really this film about community and a community in despair.
It's basically about fractured masculinity, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
A bunch of men that have no meaning and can't sustain intimacy in their relationships because they feel emasculated because they've lost their jobs.
Yeah.
Lying to their wives that they still do have jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's on top of that, it is a genuinely funny film.
Yeah.
With a very simple premise that runs at a tight 90 minutes.
It's a laugh out loud funny.
It really, genuinely funny.
Yeah.
But it's got all of this like really neat stuff underneath, which makes the film more than
some nice social commentary.
Exactly, which makes it more than what you're expecting. And then the show comes along, which is 8 episodes, an hour each. So we're already...
An hour?
Yeah, like 45 minutes.
Okay.
So we're already like much more... There's much more of it than there is of the film.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Sam.
You don't know why.
I don't know why. So what have they taken from the film? They've taken the characters.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't taken the stripping.
Okay.
Which is like...
In the title.
Okay. No, I know. That the full Monty, that's literally what it's referring to. Yeah. But also, you sat down in the writer's room, day one, first question, do they strip? Is stripping that integral to the identity of the full Monty?
Mm. Well, my ancillary question to that would be, is there a writer's room, or is it just the one writer that wrote the film writing every episode?
Let's be charitable and say that people discussed this before they did it.
Okay. Okay, so you're asking me, is stripping integral?
Because I actually noticed like a little detail, and I wonder how deliberate it is. On the poster for the full Monty, they've got, obviously, I think the iconic little artwork is the zipper.
Yeah.
It's a yellow background, and then there's a zipper, and in the open zipper, it's red.
Yes.
And on the poster, the zipper is on the M.
Right.
So kind of like the sides of the M that go up towards the corners is the open zip.
Right.
And on the TV show, the zip is in an O, and it's completely closed. There's no open zip at all.
I see. Okay.
And I'm wondering if that's supposed to be a little signal that there's no stripping in this stripper show.
Well, making an O implies that that's like the vagina monologue version of it. Like an O, I don't think of a male. Do you know what I mean? Like an M, that's just universal unzipped.
Yeah.
Because it's the shape of,
Yeah.
An O that's zipped up I mean, that's vaginal just imagistically, as I'm thinking of it. Just a slit in an O.
Well, no, because vaginal, it's kind of like, it's not a...
Yeah, it's not a perfect O,
Yeah.
but like, it's certainly more that than it is anything male.
Sure, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think that's just a weird choice. Yeah, it's like the puritanical female version of the full Monty where nothing happens, no one gets naked. Yeah, someone flashes an alcohol.
Oh, so you have seen the show?
No, I haven't seen the show. The reason I didn't see the show, well, it just didn't do that well critically.
No.
Now, I am a fan of the film, quite a big fan of the film, and it's the kind of show that, like, maybe would have vaulted the... Doesn't matter how well reviewed it is, you watch it because it's the full Monty.
Yeah.
But then I watched the trailer, and it seemed so missing something.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to put myself through it, because... I've always maintained on this podcast that had El Camino been bad, it wouldn't have ruined Breaking Bad. Like, I do make those distinctions in my head.
Yeah, yeah.
So if I didn't enjoy the full Monty, as it sounds like I wouldn't have, it wouldn't have ruined the film. But it's like, if it's not going to be any good, I don't need to see those people that old.
Yes.
Like, that, you know.
Yeah, I think maybe that's worth saying as well, is that in the film, they're like in their 40s.
Yeah.
So in the show, 25 years later, these are some old men.
Yes. Especially, I can't remember, Paul Barber, Denzel.
Oh, yeah. Horse. Yeah.
Horse in the full Monty.
Well, I mean, that's... they kind of made that the point of him in the show.
Is it that he's impossibly old?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a bit... I don't need that.
No.
Unless you're going to do something with it. Unless, like, that's... I know they would say, well, we are. That's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so... Well, you've told me some other things about it that I found depressing.
Oh, okay, such as...
You told me that Mark Addy's wife is cheating on him in the TV show.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, like when you were saying earlier that it kind of, like, the stripping informs... It kind of helps them through things in their own lives in the film.
Yeah.
One of them is that Dave?
Dave, yeah.
It's the name of the character, played by Mark Addy. He has a wife who genuinely loves him.
Yeah.
She genuinely loves him. She's genuinely attracted to him. She's genuinely invested in their relationship. But he is kind of going through a sort of crisis of image and a crisis of masculinity. He can't get it up.
Because he's lost his job.
He feels like he's physically like a monstrous. He doesn't feel like he can...
And that's like, he is a large chap.
Yeah.
But the point is, she doesn't care. He cares.
Exactly, yeah. And that is something that the film addresses and thankfully repairs.
Yeah.
And it does kind of carry over in the sense that you do get the sense that Mark Addy is just... Dave in the show, he is just like, I am who I am. I've accepted that. I'm happy with that.
Right.
But it is one of those horrible things where it's like, oh, great. Now watching the full Monty, I know that 25 years down the line, she's shagging a workmate.
25 years down the line as well. I mean, not to, it takes all ages and all sorts and everything, but having an affair at that point in your life is just like, God, it's just, how do you have you don't have a sex drive at that age? Like that much that well, like how old are they? In their late 60s?
Yeah, probably,
It's just a bit...
The way that they kind of pitch it is that they went on to have a child.
Right.
Who died, like, when he was an infant. Like, months old.
Right.
Died. And Mark Addy, I keep saying the actor's name, Dave, like, completely shut down. He was not willing to talk about it. Never happened as far as he's concerned, because he can't bring himself to think about the fact that happened. And that's what drove her to have an affair.
But presumably that was like 20 years ago.
I don't know, actually.
They're not having kids in their 60s, are they?
I think it was like 2007. Because you see, there's a plaque on a bench that you see at one point. I think it was something like 2007.
So like late 40s at the youngest.
Yeah.
You get away with... Yeah, he's probably in his mid-30s on the film.
Yeah, probably.
They're still pushing it a bit. But again, it's like 2000... They pushed it as far as they can that she could still feasibly have a child.
Yeah.
Because it can't be 20 years between that and the affair. But it's still 16 years.
Yes.
I assume the show is set now.
Yeah, it's modern day. Yeah. Oh God, is it modern day?
So I think that he fucked up there. He's like, okay, I think the thing with Dave and I can't remember her name. Leslie Sharp is the actress.
Yeah.
Their marriage is strained. That's their thing.
Yeah.
So I'll do this. That there were other ways of doing it, and like, does that even have to be? It's a big part. It's a part of the film. I don't think that needed to be an ingredient in the TV show.
No.
Like, right, the marriage is stable. We'll find something out, like his arc is something else.
Yeah.
And he does have another thing going on in the show, right?
Yeah, the second episode is dedicated almost entirely to him, and he kind of forms a friendship with a student.
Right.
He finds out that there's a student who's stealing So as a punishment, he says to him, you got to stay behind and help me clean the school, because he's like a caretaker at the school. That's the role that he has now. And the kid does it, and he ends up really enjoying it. And it's kind of like a safe haven for him, because he's bullied and he's got problems at home and everything. So they end up forming like a genuine friendship. And that's obviously put to the test through the episode where the wife pulls Dave aside and says like, oh, you know, the people are talking about the fact he's spending all this time with this kid. It's not really right, is it? And he's like, the kid's getting bullied and you're not doing anything about it. Fuck you, basically.
But it just, with the other stories that you've told me, because it tries to function sort of anthologically, doesn't it? Where a character gets an episode to themselves, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of anthological in that, like, the first episode is about Gaz and his daughter. Second episode is about Dave. Third episode is kind of about Gaz again. Fourth episode is about this other character. Fifth episode is about this guy that wasn't even in the original Full Monty. What you had in the film was this very, like I said, very clear premise that everything kind of orbited around. The show does not have that. It is basically a meandering slice of life tale. Like, not even a tale.
It sounds like a hodgepodge, and it sounds arbitrary. Like, that story of Dave's, why that story?
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with the original themes of the film. Nothing to do with him as a character.
No, but
because they've lost a kid.
Yeah.
But that's something that was introduced for the series.
But also, maybe you could argue, all of those problems he had with self-image, he's now kind of, like, helping the kid through that phase of his life.
But I was literally thinking as you were talking, okay, what other storylines could you give Dave? Just off the top of my head, they had a child who's now in his 20s.
Yeah.
Who his marriage is breaking up, and he's going to move back in with them.
Yeah.
And that they have a perspective on it because they had marriage issues.
Yeah.
Him moving back in puts challenges and strain on their. That's the a go-to, like, and it's nice because he's grown past. He's not having issues with his wife. They're fine.
Yeah.
His kid is.
Yeah.
And that, you know, that's just the first thing that came into mind. That's just something you could do, you know. Yeah, because the stories, they do just feel completely... If you're going to do this, which I don't think it's well advised anyway,
No.
to do this show, it's not a good idea, then you at least really have to make it a sequel.
Yeah.
Or you know, to refer back to the central themes of the film. From everything you've told me, what he's decided the central themes were broad working class social commentary.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Pretty much. That's the only thing that they seem to have inherited from the film.
Yeah. So,
whereas the film talked about, those kind of post-Thatcher frustrations about, you know, being stuck on the dole and not having an opportunity to get a job, and like, they screwed us over.
Not having money and not feeling like men, right?
Yeah.
And that plays out in various ways. Gaz, like, is divorced and has custody problems with his son.
Yeah.
Dave has intimacy problems with his wife. Gerald can't tell his wife he's been sacked because she spends like a maniac, and they have a middle class lifestyle.
Lomper is gay.
He meets another gay guy who's part of the troupe, and they finally come out the closet together. It's kind of the same theme, just expressed in different ways, but with that central narrative thrust. And this doesn't have that. No. Again, from what you've told me.
Well, there's no core to this.
No, and what he's done is like, I'll pick contemporary social issues.
Yeah.
So that they try and deal with wokeness. What else did you tell me? They deal with race to some degree.
Yeah, so there's like, Lomper's now married to a guy that owns a cafe called the Big Baps.
Yeah.
And a student walks past in the first episode and said, that's very offensive.
Yeah.
So he's forced to change the name of the cafe. There's a character, again, who's not in the Full Monty, but he was fired from work because he called a co-worker love.
Right.
Gaz has a black daughter now, and she's kind of like a main character in the show. Genuinely a likeable character.
Likeable or unlikable?
Unlikable character. Okay. Like a strong contender for one of the least likable characters of the year, I would say.
Okay.
And she's like stealing, and she skips school, and all of these things, but it's not really her fault. It's like the system's kind of failing her, and her mother is dating a guy that kind of turns out to be a bit of a creep.
Right.
And it's like, it's all of these things in her environment that are making her behave this way. It's not the fact that she's a genuine scumbag.
Right.
You know?
And like failures with the NHS.
Failures with the NHS. Yeah, like Horse. I think if there's any like through line, it's that, because even though Horse doesn't have his own episodes, his like thing through the show is that he's going around in like a wheelchair. He's got like one lung that works. He's in a genuine state of like, I am not really fit to do anything. I'm just kind of living the rest of my life now.
Is there any joke about him being Horse and someone walks up with a shotgun to like...
No. No, which I feel like is something the original Full Monty would have at least...
Definitely.
Like, we would have done that.
Yeah.
But no, it's like all of a sudden, like the people that give him like his money are like, oh no, we need to reassess your case.
Right.
And because he's kind of guided to answer the questions in a certain way by the people who are in the system, they declare him fit to work.
Right. So again, it's that like I, Daniel Blake kind of criticism of the bureaucracy of you know, social security.
The man says that he should work.
I bet all the people...
And so he works himself to the point where he literally collapses in the street of malnutrition and dies.
Do the people that give him money have middle-class accents?
Well, they're all white.
No, they're all white, yeah. But I mean, they always do that. Like in I, Daniel Blake, is like, it's a regional thing. It's like, oh, come on, love, come here, you know. But all the people that give money, they're like, you know, they're university educated.
No, I don't remember them being middle class, but like, he has to travel to like a different town.
Right.
And he's like, but I can't drive, I can't fucking move. And they're like, well, if you miss the appointment, then we can't pay you any more money. And so he gets a lift there. And they're like, oh, you were able to get here, you're fine.
Okay, I get, you know, we're not going to get into our own takes on the you know, the institutions that it's taking aim at.
Yeah.
Like, bureaucracy, it's all fucking shit, right?
Yeah.
It's all shit. And Syrian immigration, that was another one.
Yeah, one of the characters falls in love with a Syrian immigrant who's kind of... The community don't like her, so they get her kicked out of her house and she ends up in a halfway home. And
what I'm curious about fundamentally is whether it was Simon Beaufoy's idea to revive the show, I have some ideas, or whether Disney said, oh, we've got the Full Monty.
Well, I saw it on Disney Plus, but I think it's FX.
I don't think it is it?
I think it's... I think it was in association with FX and Fox.
Oh, okay. Well, whoever had it, like, oh, we have the rights to Full Monty.
Yeah.
Let's bring it back. Would you be interested in doing that? Because what it sounds like is that he had a list of, you know, current themes that he could write about.
Yeah.
I can just put them all in the Full Monty.
Yeah.
And it didn't work.
No.
So you don't recommend it?
I don't. No. It's unfocused to the point where it just never feels like it really gets going. It's not until there's 8 episodes, and it's not until the 6th episode they even acknowledge the film ever happened.
Right.
Because you were talking about like, oh, what would make this a genuine sequel to that film? It's not a sequel to the film. There's like 3 exceptions. There's an opening montage, much like the film, that kind of establishes it in a more modern context. Mm-hmm. And again, in the film, there's that kind of like joke, but also this is our declaration of our kind of thesis moment, where it hard cuts from Sheffield, the place of the future, and it cuts to an abandoned steel mill. In the film, in the show, there's a little thing where it kind of shows them dancing at the club, and then it hard cuts to the club now in the modern day, and it's run down and dilapidated and abandoned, and you're like, oh, great! That's a fucking great start.
Well, it's not. It would be a great start if it then meant something, or they went on to do something.
No, because like I said, episode 6 is the next time it's brought up. They're all being held hostage in a job center, and the guy that's holding them hostage is like, "I remember you lot. You took your clothes off 25 years ago. Do the routine again." Yeah. I know that you know, being at the bottom rung of the social ladder, it can kind of be a whirlpool that you never really escape it.
Yeah. But you would just hope a bit better that this much time later they wouldn't still be at the job centre.
Well, you would hope that the money they earned that night did something for them.
Oh, like, you know, it's not going to make
even if it really was for one night only.
It's not going to make them rich, you know, it's a one-off thing, like, whatever.
No, but it would, like, help their circumstances a bit,
yes,
right?
It would help them enough that, like... Well, again, just this long later, they wouldn't still be in basically the same position that they are in the film.
Yeah.
And it's a fine line. I'm sure we've talked about this before, which is when you have a revival series or something like T2 Trainspotting that takes place so long after the original, life is life and a lot happens. And it can be a stretch to imply that the events of the original film, TV show, whatever, are so significant... that it's still important in the characters' lives now So, like, I don't know, like, you see a lot with TV shows where someone will have a love interest in the final season, the show stops, and then it comes back years later, and they're still together. It's like, this was just like a person you were with for a bit at the end of the show.
Yeah.
But because the show has become a cult hit or whatever in the interim, they've got to bring back all the things.
Yeah.
Whereas in reality, you might have even forgotten that person, or, you know.
Yeah.
Like, Train Spotting, for example, also with Robert Carlyle, obviously.
Was that the last thing he was in prior to Full Monty?
I mean, you're going from like 96 to 97, so probably...
No, I mean the T2 and the show.
He's probably been in other things, but nothing that I've seen him in.
Okay.
Like, that little slice of life. A lot happens in that film, and the sequel is more because they're reunited, all that stuff comes back. I don't think T2 is a masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination, but like that time in their lives would be up there with the most significant, periods of their life.
Yeah.
It makes sense. The Full Monty, it'd be like a memorable thing that was talked about, like that they did. I don't know that it would be as, so it is a fine line. But you can't not address it.
No. Well, the show is going too far in the other direction.
It's going too far in the other direction.
It seems to, almost by accident, make out that point in their lives was completely... It did nothing for them.
Right.
It meant nothing.
And I can see a writer going with the logic that I just said, which is, well, it was just a thing. It was almost 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be... But if you're going to do a revival series, it has to be a sequel to that time in their lives.
Yes.
So you've got to figure out a way of not pretending like the gay couple are still together, for example, which they don't. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Not pretend like it's just those 7 guys still mates hanging out all the time. But the events of the show have to bring that part of their lives back into focus. And it just didn't. It doesn't sound like it didn't do that. It's like, it's almost like an Easter egg.
Yeah.
You did that thing.
Yeah, the payoff to them having to do the routine again at knife points is that when they take their belts off, they use it to neutralize the guy, so the police can come in.
Right.
That's it.
Is it funny at all?
No.
Is the show funny at all?
No, and I think that's a big problem as well.
The film is a comedy.
The film is a comedy, and the film is genuinely funny.
Yeah.
And I think, again, having seen the film so recently, I think one of the things that is missing... Because you're right, there is a lot missing from it. Even though they bring in the social commentary stuff, there is... Obviously, the stripping is gone. It's not as funny. Mm-hmm. And even though there are moments where you do kind of... It does feel like, that's nice. This is a nice thing I'm watching. Mm-hmm. I think that's more the performances than anything that the script is doing.
And just kind of a fondness for the... Yeah. I mean...
But there's no... It completely lacks any physical comedy.
And also...
Which I didn't realise until I rewatched it. The film does physical comedy really well.
It really does, yeah. It's directed really well. And this is what I was going to say. From the trailer I saw, it looks really blandly shot. It's just filmed.
Yeah, it's just filmed.
Whereas the film, it's deceptively really well directed.
Yeah.
Whereby you remember shot configurations. And you remember how it's filmed.
Yeah. And there's like imagery, like really strong imagery from that film. Like when they're trying to climb over the river on the back of the car.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that in the show. Nothing even close.
Well, again, you kind of, when you first see it, like I first saw the Full Monty when I would have been like, I don't know, like 11 or 12 or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe. You just don't pay attention to any of that stuff. But look, not even rewatching it, thinking back on it now, you realise there was a directorial technique at work, which is, I'll keep the camera locked and just have the comedy play out in the frame.
Yeah.
And
white shots are funny.
And yeah, when I saw a trailer for the show, it's like, this just looks like every other show on at the moment.
Yeah, it literally does, yeah.
I don't know who directed it, whether they were multiple directors or what, but yeah, it just feels that they haven't recaptured anything.
Not only does it feel like they haven't recaptured anything, it feels like they almost didn't want to.
Yeah.
It feels like they were... At times, it feels like they're actively working against the foundation that they're building on. Like, that film is not to be acknowledged. It's not to dictate anything that we do here.
Right.
And that's such a damn shame, because the show needed something.
Yeah, there's worshipping your own material, and then there's like being so self-conscious of it that you like reject your...
Because like, I don't think there's anything in it, in the original Full Monty, that's like too... Like, if that's what it was, if you were not remaking the Full Monty, but if you were revisiting it in a modern context, it would be to address some things that were maybe not okay from the original film. Like some language that the old characters would use, or some attitudes that they held or something like that. But, I think they call Lomper a pufter a few times.
Right.
Or they use, like, the words like puff, or I don't know if they use words like retarded or anything. But, like, if that's what it is, if it's like, oh, it's the kind of, like, update the characters, even that's something. But it doesn't even feel...
But that's horrible.
It's horrible, and I hate it.
Yeah.
But at least that's, like, okay, I can kind of...
I mean, it has, like, a mission statement.
Yeah, but it's not. It doesn't even feel like that. Because I don't feel like there's anything from the original that's so egregious it needs to be...
No, well, you said they flirt with the idea of wokeness and that they had to change the name of the... But I'm inferring that the characters are unhappy about that rather than...
Yeah, they complain about it. And
as they would.
Yeah, and it feels... But ultimately it feels like a detail. It doesn't feel like it's not like the plot of an episode. It just happens at one point.
But the thing, they're men of a certain generation that are going to have certain attitudes about the world. And it feels like, okay, I can't change... It would be too much to change that. So I'll give Gaz a black daughter. It's like, that's my concession to modernity or something. Yeah. I don't know. It's just like, like I listen to Howard Stern a lot and the 90s, like faggot this, faggot that. It's that Louis C.K. thing of it doesn't mean that. It's like a thing you call someone who's being a bit like they're being a faggot. It's not, again, it's not something that I say. It's not.
And again, like his whole bit about like the woman who used to stand outside the shop on Saturdays going, "Help the retarded." It's like you're going to call her a bad person because the language she uses.
It's like it's just that was the time, and it's not in my vernacular, but I just, it doesn't need that. And I know you're saying like, but those men would always be like that,
Yeah.
Like I had an Uber a couple of weeks ago, and there's a guy that he was like in his 40s, 50s, and it was booked under my mother's name. So I got it, and he went, "Joanne?" I went, "Yeah." Not me, but yeah. And he said, you can't be too careful these days. And we started, riffing about these days.
Yeah.
It's like, because he's that age, and I'm that age in my head. So it's like, anyway, not a recommendation. Fuck it off, is it?
Not a recommendation. If anyone can, like, explain it to me, I'd be grateful. Yeah, because I wouldn't know.
Have you watched any interviews or anything?
Not really. I don't know if it would unlock anything for me or whether it would just compound my confusion.
I'm just curious about the context of its revival. I'm curious about whether he was like, I just had all these ideas and then I thought, they could fit in. Or whether they came to him and said, would you like to revisit the full Monty?
And ultimately, I don't think knowing that would improve the experience of the show in any way. It would just be nice to have an answer.
Not improve the experience of the show, but maybe your impression of the man. Because if they came to him and said, we're going to give you a boatload of money to revisit the full Monty, and then he had to come up with something, that's like, okay, he couldn't crack it.
Yeah.
But if it's like, I have ideas, I must bring it to them, that's a bit more, it's a bit less excusable.
Yes.
That.
I would agree.
Because he also won the Oscar for writing Slumdog Millionaire. He's not, he's not
a hack.
Yeah, he's not a hack. And 127 hours, I think. Like, he's Danny Boyle's, one of Danny Boyle's go-tos.
Oh, wow.
So, fucking, come on. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that enough of that?
Yeah, that's enough of that.
Right. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Okay.
Premise us, George.
Well, there's a lot of that, isn't there?
There's a lot of that.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is the second in what appears to be a trilogy now of Spider-Verse films about Miles Morales.
Mm-hmm.
It's the longest animated film ever produced in America.
Is it?
Yeah.
How long is it?
It's 2 hours, 20 minutes, I think.
Okay. I mean, that's a long film, but I don't know. It's weird, isn't it? Yeah. I know animations are shorter, obviously, usually, but you just feel like there'd be a longer one than that. There'd be a 3 hour... Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. I get what you mean.
It's not 4 hours, it's 2.5. But, okay, all right.
Well, this is the thing. It might end up being 4 hours because it's the longest animated film ever produced in America. It's also not finished.
No. Well, the story isn't finished.
The film is finished. The film is finished, thankfully. Yes. But yeah, it does... this is the first of 2 parts that will make up the trilogy of Spider-Man, Miles Morales Spider-Man.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's sort of carrying on from the second one. We start in Gwen Stacy's universe.
The first one, you mean?
From the first one. Start off in Gwen Stacy's universe, where she's kind of like struggling with like still being Spider-Man while her father is hunting her down.
Please.
Spider-Woman.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Sam. I know you personally hate it when I do things like that.
I did actually. I started watching The Good Wife with my father yesterday. It's a lawyer show, and basically the main character she starts working at this law firm again, like later in life, and there's a young guy that works like just out of university, and he says to her at one point, "May the best man win," and she's like, "What? What did you just say?" And he looks at her, he's like, "Oh, nothing. Nothing." And I thought, I just, let's not do this. And this is like a bit earlier than the current, this is 2009.
Right.
So it's like a bit before. But then later in the episode, I found out that the reason she reacted like that is because she didn't know she's actually competing with this guy. They're only going to hire one of them, and she's competing. So it wasn't like excuse me, what was that, sexist?
Right, okay.
I was like, oh, thank God. Okay. But yeah, anyway, yeah. So,
things can still exist and they're not be in that context.
Yeah. It's so disappointing when you're really enjoying something and then that happens, isn't it?
Well, we'll
get to that.
Yeah, that might come up with this review, matter of fact. She is being hunted by her father for killing Peter Parker, which she didn't do, but the father misunderstood.
Yeah.
And she encounters a villain from a different universe, specifically the Vulture.
A Renaissance Vulture.
A Renaissance Vulture from this Leonardo da Vinci parchment blueprint universe.
Yeah.
Is like in the city and and she tries to stop him. This kind of introduces her to Miguel O'Hara and Black Spider-Woman.
I think her name's Jessica Drew. I think she's the only one that doesn't go with a moniker.
No, I think she is called Spider-Woman.
Is she?
Yeah, she is called Spider-Woman. But obviously that means a different thing.
I definitely read something that she's the only one that doesn't have a secret identity. But maybe it's, I don't know.
Okay. The reason I say that is because when Gwen first sees her, she says Spider-Woman, and Gwen goes, same.
Oh, okay.
That's the only reason I was saying. Okay. So she finds them. They find out that after the events of the first film, the kind of the Kingpins collided that brought the Spider people to Miles' universe. The multiverse is kind of cracking.
Yeah.
And people are falling through the cracks, and they are trying to get everyone back to their original universes and seal the cracks.
Yes.
They end up recruiting her, cut to Miles' universe. He's kind of been Spider-Man for a little bit, kind of trying to balance his school life and his home life and his Spider-Man life. He finds Gwen comes back to his universe. He kind of finds out about this multiversal thing, wants to be a part of it. She says no. It turns out that she is there for a villain that has just introduced himself to Miles called the Spot.
Yes.
Who is this minor background character from the first film.
Yeah.
Who got caught in the collider explosion at the end of the last film, turning him into a supervillain that can use holes to kind of travel through
multi-dimensional.
Initially space, but then multi-dimensions.
Yes.
Because this guy specifically poses a threat to the multiverse.
Yeah.
They kind of let him slip through the cracks, and this starts this kind of multiversal chase.
Yes.
To track him down. Discoveries are made about Miles and why Miguel is so reluctant to have him on the team. And the film does unfortunately end on a cliffhanger where nothing is resolved.
Yeah. That's all correct.
Yes.
The first note I've got is fill the unforgiving second with 60 minutes worth of content.
Is this the most animated film of all time?
Well, my next note is punishingly stimulating. Yes, I would say so. It's really the most stuff going on animated film ever. The frame is just chocker constantly.
Fucking nothing is wasted.
Nothing is wasted.
Because it's the thing, you hear that initially with me anyway, you hear like, oh, it's the longest animated film ever produced in America. It's also the first of 2 parts. It's also 2 hours, 20 minutes. You're like, oh, fucking hell.
Yeah.
Really? Do we need this? Turns out we need this. Because they waste no time.
No, that's very true, yeah. From a story point of view.
And it's not even as if they're rushing. It's not as if they're going, here's this plot point, here's this plot point, here's this plot point. Right, go over here now. Here's this plot point, here's this plot point. There's genuine moments of like calm, slow, well done character work. They spend time with their characters. They do build up those relationships. They make sure you don't just understand the plot, but you understand the place that each character is in and the journey that they have to go on and the context of them before they start throwing this like jargon at you and putting them in these like dangerous situations and having them all meet and collide and battle and everything. But it is like, even in its quiet moments, there's a hell of a lot to process.
There's a lot. we watched it together the first time, and then I rewatched it to take notes.
Yeah, same with me.
And the first time we watched it, when it ended, I felt a bit uncertain about how I felt about the film.
Yeah.
I knew it had been a lot,
Yes.
and I wasn't sure exactly where that left me. Anyway, the point is, on the second watch, it improved for me.
Okay.
Firstly, just ignoring the substance of it, it's a remarkable achievement
Oh, absolutely.
as the film, technically. The hyper... Because it's hyper stylized, right?
Yeah.
So stylized.
Well, it's sort of... I think it capitalizes on the sort of implied promise of the first one. Because you've got 6 spider people in the first one. And with the exception of maybe Peter B. Parker, Jake Johnson? Jake Johnson?
Oh, the actor, yeah.
Yeah, played by Jake Johnson. With the exception of him, maybe Gwen, although not so much in this film. Each spider person adheres to a different animation style and principle.
Yes.
Spider-Man Noir is black and white. Penny Parker is anime. Peter Porker is Looney Tunes kind of animation. And you find out in this universe that Gwen Stacy kind of belongs in this sort of like weird watercolor pastel impressionist universe.
Yeah.
And like every universe that they visit and every Spider-Man that comes from every universe that they visit has their own unique animation style and principle that they're adhering to. There's like like a fraction of a second in like the opening action sequence. There's like a moment where the vulture loses one of his wings and he just grows a new wing. And you hear one of the characters yell, "He's got access to hammer space." And there's this like brief explanation that appears on screen.
Yeah.
Where it basically says hammer space is like infinite access to infinite resources within a certain, like, it's a cartoon thing.
Okay, yeah.
Where they like have, it's like how Looney Tune characters are always able to pull hammers out of their...
I get you. Okay. Yeah.
But like in the world, this is like a real thing that certain people have access to.
Yeah.
And it's over in like 3 seconds, but it's like, oh, this is a whole thing that's now like existing within the laws of...
Yeah, there's live action, there's Lego, everything.
Conventional animation. Spider-Punk, who's the character that's in the film for maybe 5 minutes total.
Yeah.
He's got this kind of like Sex Pistols-esque, like he's made up of torn fragments of other bits and pieces, and all of the bits and pieces that he's made out of are all animated at individual and different frame rates. And it's like, oh my god, this is one character who's on screen for like 3 minutes.
I know. Empire had a story today. I just saw the headline. There's a deleted scene, or maybe they didn't end up doing it. There was going to be a human hand holding a Spider-Man toy, and that was going to be one of the versions of Spider-Man.
Oh my god, I think even, I think it's in the original Spider-Verse. You know that like shitty Spider-Man ice cream picture?
Yeah.
It's like a popsicle of like a partially melted Spider-Man ice cream.
Yeah.
That's chasing Miles in the chase sequence. He's like in the background, but you can see him like hopping along.
Yes. It's definitely trying to be thorough, isn't it? Well, anyway, the first time I watched it, the hyper-stylization alienated me a little bit from engaging with the story, which wasn't a problem with the first film because it's more reined in. But it did improve on the rewatch. We didn't watch the greatest copy of the film.
No, it deserved better.
And did we have subtitles the first time?
I'm not sure.
We didn't. I don't think we did.
Yeah.
Having subtitles definitely helped.
Okay.
The score is very dynamic.
I really love the score.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
It's it's like this otherworldly soundscape.
Yeah.
These weird, it's like odd things going on.
Because like the original film did have a good score. I still remember the Prowler's theme quite vividly, even without its kind of reoccurrences here.
Yeah.
But there's loads of instances where there's like, again, characters kind of have their own score. Like Miguel O'Hara's got that kind of like weird distorted brass.
Yeah, his I like. Yeah.
Miles, it's obviously got that kind of like DJ scratching and like rap. Gwen, it's kind of more indie rock.
Yes, she's a drummer.
Yeah, she's a drummer, so it's got indie rock. Spider-Punk, it's obviously like, again, it's like thrash and grunge. And it's an eclectic... I mean, you could say this about any aspect of the film. It's an eclectic mix.
It's a lot of stuff.
That somehow makes like a very interesting...
It's kind of the same... you could say exactly the same thing about the Full Monty, except this one works, where it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not arbitrary. It all it adds up to one thing.
Yeah, no, this has a core, this has a point, it has a thesis, it has like it knows the journey it's going to take its characters on.
It's a very focused story, and it's a good story.
Again, surprisingly, given just how much there is.
Yeah.
And especially when you get to that Spider-Man chase, how like the scope of what they're covering it's nice that story is so focused in on...
Yeah, it's a really good story, and it's a really good sequel.
Yeah.
You know, because it's really using the first film. It's going to end up, if the third one's good, it's going to end up being a really good, nifty trilogy.
Yeah, it's like, if the third one is good, and that's my takeaway from this review at this point, if the third one is good.
Yes.
Because I do think the fact that genuinely nothing is resolved at the end of this film...
No.
It's made itself very dependent on the third one for me.
Yes.
If Beyond the Spider-Verse is not good, it will retroactively taint this film for me, I think.
I think I agree, yeah, because this does feel like a part one.
It definitely
really does.
Yeah. You could, we have watched it in isolation.
Yeah.
But obviously there is that anticipation that, like, there will be more to come.
Yeah, and I think originally it was called Across the Spider-Verse Part 1, right? And then it was Part 2.
Yeah, it's very cheeky of them that they did that.
Well, because they've changed that now. And it's more appropriate that they do that, Part 1 and Part 2. But it would be annoying to have a trilogy that was Into the Spider-Verse and then Across Part 1, Part 2.
I know what
you
you're
do
saying.
want them to all be different.
Yeah.
But this is like a 5-hour film that they've split in two. I feel like that's what it's going to be. Yeah, it's less pure than the first film for the reasons that we've just discussed.
Yeah.
I like that what one assumes to be a random villain of the week, whose only purpose is to reintroduce you to Miles as Spider-Man, ends up being the central antagonist.
A perfect microcosm of nothing is wasted in this film.
I was when like, okay, that's an interesting idea for a villain. Holes,
my holes can take me anywhere.
Yeah, it's gonna be a funny. He's bumbling. Miles is kind of a bumbling in the show. It'll reintroduce us to...
Yeah, neither of them really know how to fight each other. And
but no, he ends up actually being the villain.
Yeah.
Yeah, the BLM sticker's annoying.
Okay, we're here. Okay.
Yeah, it is a bit annoying. I didn't.
Are you annoyed at the BLM sticker, or are you annoyed that I pointed it out to you? Because you wouldn't have noticed it.
Look, it was there. Yeah, I wouldn't have noticed it. You pointed it out. I can't hate you for that. Like, it is there. We got to live with the truth.
Yeah.
It's a detail, but it is a bit annoying. It's a little bit annoying.
It's a bit annoying. Films are going to do this.
I know.
They're going to do shit like this.
One of the reasons that it's a bit annoying is that for the most part, the quote-unquote diversity is handled perfectly okayly.
I'd say slightly better than that.
Besides, again, I'm going to say that it's transparency.
Okay.
It's like they're obviously trying to do Black, India, like they're ticking all the boxes.
But there's, I know what you're saying, but at the same time, is there no better way and quicker way of establishing the scope of a multiverse than, and here we have a black one, and here we have a white one, and here we have an Asian woman, now we have like a Bengal cat, now we have a car,
it's not a criticism.
Yeah.
It's when they get to Mumbattan, it was a bit like, okay, part of that is that they have to bring up colonialism. It's like, why are we bringing up colonial? Again, it's a disposable throwaway line.
Yeah.
It's like, why are we talking about colonialism in a Spider-Man? It's just a weird thing. Those beats where it's like, I'm not like against the diversity of the film. It's just that that's clearly what they are trying to do. And I don't mean diversity of types of Spider-Man. I mean, who ends up in the central... You have all these ancillary throwaway like backgrounds, hundreds of background spider people. But the ones that we focus on, you have a black punk, you have an Indian guy, That's what I mean by that.
Yeah. But like I said, that's going to happen. And I know. They're going to put it... They're going to try and do what they need to do to get away with it as well. Like, there's actually, interestingly, this film has been pulled from a lot of major Muslim countries.
Yeah.
Because apparently there's a frame. It's... The way it was described in the article I saw...
Peter Porker, because of Peter Porker.
Peter Porker. In the background of one frame in Gwen's universe, you see a Protect Trans Kids poster.
Right.
And as a result, the film has been removed from all cinemas in, like, Egypt and Saudi Arabia and the UAE and all of these places like that. So that's obviously their way of, like, we're trying to get it in there, but, we want the film to be shown. We went too far over the line.
Well, I think...
So maybe that's what the BLM thing is them trying to balance the... How do we represent, as it were, but how do we also do it in a way that's, like, it doesn't interrupt the film. The film doesn't become about that.
No, and I'll grant you that. It does not interrupt the film. It's not like... It doesn't get in the way in that sense. It's just, if you're of a certain ilk like I am, the word representation makes me feel a bit sick. Even though like it doesn't mean that I don't want films about all types of people. You know what I'm getting at. I just don't like that stuff.
It's interesting that it's BLM though, because I mean, obviously, this Mars' universe is not our universe. Like their version of Coca-Cola is completely different.
Yeah,
it's interesting that their BLM, for all intents and purposes, appears to be the same.
I guarantee you that in not one multiverse there isn't racism.
But I mean, like, it's weird because like an argument could even be made that the BLM thing is actually not in the film enough. Because like you think about it, you've got Mars obviously he fights crime, but also his father's a police officer, soon to be police captain. BLM, I don't know what the major thrust of BLM is, but I know that they're not big fans of the police.
No.
And I think there's even a line after the first encounter with the Spots at the old collider, the sort of like the debris field of the old collider thing, where like Mars' father kind of like says to Mars, see, this is the reason, like as Spider-Man, he doesn't realise it's Miles, says to Spider-Man, see, this is the reason people don't like us at the moment, man. When he's looking at like the disaster that's been left behind by the Spot fight. And like, it's not something that I personally want in my 2 hours and 20 minute Spider-Man animated film that doesn't even finish. But I mean, that is the stuff that like drama is built on, isn't it? It's like, oh, it's a black cop talking to his black son about how the black community hates the police.
No.
And like what they're doing. It's something.
You're damning it with faint praise. You're saying it could have been worse, so you should be grateful that it wasn't.
No, what I'm saying is that like I don't know if putting it in the film in the capacity that they've done, I don't know whether they should have done that, because you could have done more with it.
I see. Like, why bother? Why start if you're not gonna?
Because Miles,
I would agree. Don't start.
Miles is the type of character, and is the demographic of character that I think would have a BLM sticker, whether he believed in it or not.
Maybe.
So to just not to not really bring it up or not capitalize on any potential.
Do you really think though that everything we know about him as a character would suggest that he's not pro BLM?
I really don't know.
I think so. It's not like he's just going to put a random sticker on his laptop. He's definitely going to be like...
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because again, his father's in the police.
You know, but he's a young, woke millennial. He's going to believe in all the shit that the filmmakers do. Of course he is. I can't remember the maker... Because the directors have changed for the second one.
Yeah, the Lord and Miller has still had creative involvement, I think, but it's not... There are new people at the helm.
I could be completely wrong. I'm pretty sure the directing team and the writing team for the first one were all white. I could be wrong there.
I think you're right.
This one, no.
Okay.
They're mostly not, I think.
Okay.
And you see that. And you don't see that because, they're black, therefore they're making everything black in the film. I don't mean it like that. I just mean they are creatives working in the Hollywood of 2023. And given the racial makeup, that's the kind of film you're going to get.
Right.
That's just the reality of the world as it is at the moment.
Okay.
It's a very modern film. Again, quotes around modern. Indeed, it's very postmodern.
Okay.
There's a lot...
In what?
Well, there's a lot of self-referentiality.
Yeah.
And knowingness. And trendy soundtrack. I'm just saying how it's a very modern film.
Okay.
And there's a vernacular that crops up that's very modern. Things like it's part of my process and your story. It's part of your story and rest in power, etc.
Okay.
That I really don't like, that I find annoying to my own sensibilities. Again, getting into some anti-colonial stuff for some reason. It doesn't get in the way. They're a bit more than a nitpick, but they're not a fundamental criticism of the film. For me.
Yeah, I wouldn't say so.
They just bug me, is all I can say.
Oh, okay, all right.
And I get the ramping things up continually is the point, but it feels like the film never really settles into itself, and you're kind of left waiting to sneeze a lot of the time.
Yeah,
and part of that is because it doesn't end.
I think you said when we were watching it, or just after we'd watched it, that massive Spider-Man chase, which ends up kind of being the climactic action piece of the film. You thought that was kind of like the late Act 2 going into Act 3. Oh, we'll have an action scene before the big one at the end.
Yeah.
I think you said that's what it felt like to you, and then like as time went on, you realised, oh no, that was it.
Was it not the opposite, where I thought that was the end? Or maybe not. I really can't remember.
Yeah.
The problem is, I think because it was a part one of a larger story, it had some pacing issues for me.
Yeah.
Where it just you kept getting these like big dun dun dun, this is the big moment of the film, character things happening, and then the film will just carry on.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? It's like, oh, this is the end. No, this is the end. And that became a bit frustrating. And because you never get the catharsis of any payoff, you're left a little bit like tensed up.
Yeah, and it does feel like the last, like after Miles gets kind of spat back into, spoiler?
Yeah, sure.
When he gets kind of spat into the universe of the spider that bit him.
Yes.
Because that was like a nice, neat little detail. There's a lot of nice, neat little details.
Yeah, that's a good detail.
It shows that like they really were paying attention to the first film.
Yes.
Like the machine that sends Miles back to his multiverse. Mm-hmm. It reads your DNA, but what it's actually doing is reading the DNA of the spider that bit you. And kind of Miguel's big problem with Miles is that he is the original anomaly that's kind of causing the fracturing of the multiverse, because in his universe there was already a Spider-Man.
Yes.
He got bit by a spider that didn't belong in his universe. And so he's kind of like, his existence is kind of fucking everything up.
And that's good, because then it gives you a reason why you're following that Spider-Man.
Yeah, out of all of these Spider-Men.
Yeah, why him?
Yeah.
No, he is special. He is separate from,
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, that's good.
Yeah, but what I was going to say is when he does go back to that universe, it does feel like as soon as he's there, it's like, right, okay, we're now laying the groundwork for the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
The story is kind of over. We're kind of building up to the big thing that makes you want to come back for the next one. Yeah, that's probably the weakest bit of the film for me, because I remember in the trailers seeing, one of the later trailers of the film is Miles swinging through Times Square, and the spot, like his arms are sort of like emerging from the screens and like trying to catch Miles.
Right.
And that was kind of the first indication, to me at least, that the spot might potentially be playing a bigger role than what we thought. But it turns out that that's just kind of like flavor. Because like Miles is just on his way back to his house.
Yeah.
And it just happens while he's through Times Square. And like he's going along the subway, and then all of these subways kind of form around him. And
that's the thing with the film, is because of its style.
Yeah.
It can be very impressionistic.
Yeah.
But you don't really know, right, is that real or is that like a metaphor? Like
it feels like a non-diegetic, we're kind of showing the inner torment of the character.
Yeah. Externalized, which you can do with animation, but the problem, because of the jumble, because of the jambalaya that we've got, is that real? And it could be real,
That's the problem, I saw that and I was like, oh, I'm disappointed that isn't actually a thing that's
actually
happening.
A thing. Well, I think part of it's not just the editing and the way the story can't resolve by the end. It's the music as well, because the music just keeps reaching these crescendos, and then like it settles down, and and it just happens one too many times, and it's that Kermode will also, it's that Michael Bolton thing of you're starting at the highest note. There's nowhere to go. Where do you go from here? And I think a lot of the time the score let the film down. As much as I like the score, its intensity let the film down, because it kept bringing me to the sneeze and then going, no.
Right.
And like reining it back in. But these are, so it's imperfect. It's less satisfying than the first film in a bunch of ways. But I did really like it. And I liked it more the second time. And I think I'd like it more the third time. I think it's going to go up as time goes on.
Because you're going to have the opportunity to dig into it a bit more.
Eat all the details.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. For me, again, I wish they would rein in the representation thing a little bit more. But hopefully now, as we propel into the final film, we've got our characters, we've got our problem.
Yeah, I'm hoping it'll kind of like refocus a little bit, because you kind of see Gwen's squad, her band, as she calls them.
And with the original characters from the original film, which is
the new ones that we've picked up,
and the new ones. Like, oh, good, okay, the pig's back. No, he's not the most popular, but I love that pig.
What is it about that pig?
It's a pig. That's what it is. It's a pig.
Okay.
I love noir as well, but it doesn't. I do worry a little bit though about the third film, which, given that it's now we're being propelled into what it feels like we saw was the end of Act 2, gather all the heroes together. Does that mean the third film is going to be fucking even quicker?
Is it just going to be? Is this the Bourne Ultimatum, where it starts and never stops?
Right, but because of the type of film it is, you're going to get an aneurysm.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't know. I trust. I do trust them going into this last one. I know there's been a bit of a stink about like animators being overworked. I mean, how could they not be on a project like this? That's not me saying that. It's a good thing that they were. It's obviously not good. There should never be crunch. I do wonder though if that's part of the reason why this was split into 2 parts, because I don't think it's something I think we would have a problem with, but in a post Zack Snyder's Justice League world, I don't see many people rejecting the idea of like a 4-hour animated Spider-Man film.
No.
But I think that I imagine just for like everyone involved, they needed that moment where they were like, look, this bit's done. We need that catharsis that comes with drawing a line under it and saying no more.
Yeah, and look...
And that's why we're going to wait to do the second half a little bit later.
Yes, and while it doesn't have an ending, it does have an ending point. It ends with the team gathered together, ready to go into the final match.
This isn't Fast X.
No, where it just like
stops.
No more film.
Yeah,
it's not
all
that.
Blood and Honey, where it's like, no, hang on, you didn't finish.
Yeah, nothing. You just stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it isn't that. It's just, it doesn't, it's not a resolution. It's just an ending.
Yeah.
But are they really, you say 4-hour film, is it more like 5-hour film?
It's probably,
yeah. Is the second one going to be 2.5 hours and the third one 1.5 hours? No, that'd be nice. Like get all the admin out of the way in the second one, and the
just fun creative.
It can't just be a big massive fucking fight for the last 1.5 hours.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's going to happen. I read because you sent me that thing about the animators being overworked and they was being pushed back. I don't think that was official, by the way.
No, what I sent you, I think, was unverified, but it implied that the film was going to be pushed back a couple of
basically
years.
What it looks like is industry insiders are saying the current release date, there's no way that they're going to make it because they barely started work on it.
Yeah.
And like animators that worked at the studio were kind of quoted as saying, we finished this thing, it was this massive achievement, and then we all realised, fuck, we've got to do it all again. So yeah, maybe we're going to have to wait a little bit longer, but that's okay. Let them sleep. And see their families, you know.
Yeah.
That's kind of it. That's all I got to say.
No, it's, I mean, I highly recommend it, if it even needs that.
No, I don't think it needs it. Anyone who's mildly interested is going to see it, so.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Mrs. Davis.
Okay. Sam.
Yes. Oh, fuck you.
I made sure to get in first.
I know. Well, no, I stupidly asked you to premise.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm just following the flow of the show, man. Yeah.
Right, okay.
Tell us about Mrs. Davis, Sam.
Well, luckily, I don't have to all that much.
Oh, no. No, do not.
We agreed beforehand that describing the plot doesn't know justice.
Fuck. So I knew I shouldn't have done that. I knew I shouldn't have agreed to such things.
Okay, Mrs. Davis is essentially...
Hang on.
Yeah.
Is this entire thing spoilers?
We'll say yes, but I don't think it will be.
Okay.
It might not be. I don't know. I haven't consulted my notes since I made them. So
okay.
Let's just say yes.
It's the type of show where... I feel like I've said this before about something. I really mean it in this case.
Mm-hmm.
The show is the experience of watching it.
Yes.
And so you really should go in with as little knowledge and expectations as possible.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm like, should we mark this whole discussion as spoilers? Because we're going to be talking not so much about... We'll bring up some of the things that happen, I'm sure.
Yes.
But it's the experience of it and kind of like... what the hell
what we'll say now then
is going on.
If you don't want anything remotely approaching spoilers, this is a high recommendation.
Yeah.
Also, we'll say it already.
This is, at the moment, I mean, when are we recording this episode? Early July?
Yeah.
This is the best original thing that has come out in 2023.
I'd concur, yeah.
Yeah.
And original's the word.
Absolutely, yeah. There's better pedigree stuff that's come out this year.
Yes.
But in terms of, like a thing that didn't exist until 2023.
And looks like will no longer exist after it. So.
Yeah.
Okay, basically it's about a nun. A nun who, in a world wherein an AI has been developed that has kind of cured the world of all its ills. There's no more famine, there's no more war. It's everybody's best friend. It knows what everybody wants. It helps everybody do everything. it's not a malevolent AI. It's a benevolent one. It appears to be. And the main character, this nun, refuses to engage with it in any way whatsoever because it killed her father. That's what she says. That's what you know.
That is part of the reason that they are a nun in the first place, is to sort of...
Yes.
They've cultivated a life, as far as they're concerned, where they never have to interact with the AI.
Yes. And in her spare time, she rides around on her horse, exposing magicians for tricking people. Right. It sounds random when you first watch, like, oh, this is crazy and random. And it kind of is in a way, but also it's really not. So that's the starting point. And she finally agrees to talk to the AI because it contrives events in her life to kind of shake her life up. And she's like, fine, fuck you, I'll talk to you.
Blows up all her jam.
Yeah.
We're not messing with you.
No, it does. It blows up. It gets someone to blow up her jam using a massive magnifying glass on the back of a car.
On his little car.
That's right, yeah. Yes, so she agrees to talk, and the way that happens in the show is people will put a little earpiece in, and they'll repeat what she says to them. They act as surrogates. So she talks to it, and it tells her that she needs to find and destroy the Holy Grail. That's it. That's all.
Is that it?
No, that's no. God, that's not it.
There's a lot more you haven't said.
That's the setup.
Yeah. Okay.
So her ex-boyfriend that she was with for presumably most of her life comes back into her life to help her, and he has an underground. He has gathered an underground faction of militant anti-AI men, whose sole mission is to take the AI down, and they start working in conjunction with her. Maybe not everything as it seems, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so Mrs. Davis was conceived during COVID. Right?
Okay.
Basically, it sprang out of discussions about how great an AI that told you exactly what to do would be. Like, oh, we need someone to tell us what to do, please. But I think the most important consequence of it being born from isolation is that it's fun.
Yes.
It's just a lot of fun.
Yes. It kind of, tricks you in a way.
Right.
I would say so. Because, the first 4 episodes, is it worth saying who created the show?
So, yes. One of the creative forces is Damon Lindelof.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other one being Tara Hernandez?
I think so. It's her show.
Yes.
She's a showrunner.
Yeah, so she's most known for working on The Big Bang Theory and Young Sheldon.
Yeah.
And Damon Lindelof has gone on record saying this is her show. I shouldn't be considered the main.
No, he was like a mentor essentially.
Yes,
he mentored the process.
I don't think
he co-wrote some episodes.
Yeah, I don't believe for a fucking second that Damon Lindelof was just there when this thing was being written.
Complete fucking bullshit.
Yeah, because the first 4 episodes of this, in hindsight, they almost play out like a parody of a Damon Lindelof show.
In a sense, yeah.
Where it's just like, okay, so there's this nun, right? Yeah, okay, all right. She's looking for the Holy Grail. Okay, yeah. And also she's married to Jesus, and Jesus runs a diner that's real but also isn't.
Yes,
right. Okay, yeah, and then they have to go give a cake to the Pope because the Pope likes cake.
There's this island,
but there's an island where this guy lives on, and he gets rescued.
Got a cat. Yeah.
And he's got a cat, and he gets rescued from the island, but then he goes back. And then Damon Lindelof, please slow down. Yeah, and then the Pope isn't the real Pope. He's in the prison under the Vatican. Yeah. He's being held there by a priest who's actually a guy in an apron. Right, get the stretcher, get the fucking meds. Hold him down. Yeah, it really, because it doesn't explain itself, and it has no interest in explaining itself to you in those first 4 episodes. It's just here is a mad thing.
Yeah,
here's another mad thing.
Yeah, it's very Lindelofic, and he might claim that he is basically has nothing to do with it.
Yeah,
and I just call bullshit on it because it's so him in so many different ways. I think the humor in it, not the grand scheme humor of it, but like the way the characters interact is a bit more her, a bit more like contemporary American.
Yeah, because you've got those 4 episodes where it's just fucking nonsense.
Yeah,
it's just total.
In the best way.
Yeah, in the best way. It's fun, total fucking random nonsense.
Yeah.
Even the characters are like, hang on.
Yes.
Are you sure
Yeah,
that this is actually happening? And then the 5th episode is a giant exposition dump. Mm-hmm. Delivered to the 2 main characters, the nun and her.
It is the 5th, yeah?
Yeah, it is.
Not the 6th.
I'm pretty sure it's the 5th,
Okay. Yeah.
Her and the ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
And their reaction as they're being told, right, all of that fun, random fucking nonsense, it actually makes perfect sense.
Yes.
Here's why. And as it's being explained to them, it cuts back to them, like, reacting to the story.
Oh my god! Yeah.
And their reactions are very, they feel like...
modern comedy reactions,
But, like, not in a bad way.
No, not at all. But, like, that is the one element that you haven't really seen from a Lindelof. Like, I think people have... I mean, this show defies categorization, period. But I think people have struggled about whether to think of it as a comedy or a drama, fundamentally.
Okay.
I would fundamentally say it's a drama that's funny.
Yeah.
Rather than a comedy with dramatic elements, you know. I think it ends up being more of a drama than a comedy.
Oh, by the end, yeah, definitely.
But by the end, yeah. But it's more an absurdist thing, you know, an absurdist piece of art.
Yeah, definitely. Because even after the show reveals itself to you, and explains itself to you, and you go, oh my god, the fucking nerve of these people, they actually went and made everything made sense.
I know.
It still throws this insane random shit at you.
Yeah.
And it still explains it.
It does. Well,
and by the end of it, not only has everything made sense, but everything is kind of brilliant.
Yeah.
Like, it has genuine pathos and emotional resonance and thematic purpose. And it's like,
and resolution.
hang on.
Yeah,
this is about a nun whose jam was blown up.
Yeah.
What are you on about?
I know. Well, that's the thing. It unfolds. There's the Damon Lindelof of Lost, where it's like you can't judge him as fully as a writer through Lost because of the circumstances under which that was made, which is, oh, I'm the showrunner, am I?
Yeah.
Fuck, okay. Doing that for as long as humanly possible when he was like our age, maybe a bit younger. Or maybe like about 30 anyway. Bringing someone else in to help him, then battling over how long do we have left? We really don't want to go on forever. So it's very difficult. When he's in a position to do exactly what he wants to do, this show unfurls in that way precisely, which he has a certain way of structuring things and revealing information and pacing things and the way characters speak to each other. And this show ticks all of those boxes. So I will not believe that he was just a backseat driver. I think of it as his show, anyway. Maybe that's unfair. Maybe it really is this Tara Hernandez, but I don't know. It's equally absurd, outlandish, and tightly constructed.
Yeah.
And that is a hell of an achievement.
It really is.
It's funny. It's actually funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, considering him not the visionary is ridiculous. It reeks of him in the best way. It's a mixture of the mystery of Lost, some of the themes of The Leftovers, and the compact, ambitious, self-contained storytelling of Watchmen. Because this is a mini-series. The story is over at the end of the 8th episode.
Yeah, and I think that's because that's one of the major criticisms levied at Lindelof, right? However fair you think it is.
Yes.
It's that, he never takes the time to fucking explain himself.
Yeah.
He just presents me with this stuff to get me invested, and then he just goes, oh.
Right.
And that's it. But no, this, everything gets explained.
It's a deeply unfair criticism, because that criticism comes entirely from Lost, which, is the most watched thing he's ever done.
Yeah.
And it was a network show, unprecedented for what it was at the time.
And I think it's slightly compounded by stuff like Prometheus, where he was drafted in to write something that ended up not getting finished.
His film work isn't the best, but clearly TV is where he operates best.
Yeah.
And The Leftovers onwards, he's pretty much been, if not the best television writer, in my opinion, then one of them. I love, The Leftovers is amazing. And he, that was a response to Lost of ambiguity will be the point. Ambiguity is the theme.
Yeah.
It's characters living in ambiguous circumstances.
Yeah.
And how do you live with ambiguity? That was the point of it.
Whereas this feels like it's the other direction you can.
Well, this is more like Watchmen, which is it has mystery,
it
has ambiguity, but then it's resolved.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unlike Lost, obviously it was possible to plan out the whole story from the off. So absolutely everything is answered and resolved quite quickly, considering. Unlike The Leftovers, it's more overtly comedic, whereas Leftovers, there was comedy, but not as overtly so. And unlike Watchmen, it sticks the landing. I wasn't a big fan of the ending of Watchmen, whereas this, absolutely. It's not the best thing he's done. Lost is far from perfect, but I have a special relationship with that show.
Yeah.
And its characters, and at its best, it's pretty fantastic. The Leftovers doesn't hit its height until the second season, but from that point on, I would say that's probably the best thing he's done.
Okay.
Would you agree with that? Seasons 2 and 3 of The Leftovers?
Yeah, they're pretty hard to deny, aren't they?
Yeah, they're pretty amazing things. They're just like, they're just spectacular. They really are. They're the TV events. The drama still hits through all the absurdity. You still care about the characters in the show. Even the silliest notions have a concrete explanation.
Yeah.
Themes recur and intertwine in interesting ways. Faith, magic, motherhood. Dialogue does the same thing. It's recontextualized and deepened in that Christopher Nolan way.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want to do it alone. These lines that kind of come back and take on different shapes and meanings. Every character has a good motivation and a good backstory for why they're doing what they're doing. I like Schrodinger, the character. I really like him. And Apollo is the only acceptable form of cat. Betty Gilpin is amazing.
Yeah, there's something about her performance, and I've not really been able to articulate it to myself. It just doesn't feel... It doesn't feel like a performance.
No, she's very real, very natural.
And that's the thing. It's not even like, oh, she's able to do this type of thing so effortlessly.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like she's acting. It does. No. It does feel like a real person is there with you.
Fully fleshed out human being. It does.
I mean, those reactions, like on the beach when she's being told, like, oh, all this bullshit actually makes sense, and she's like, oh my god, no, are you serious?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's how a person speaks.
You know her pretty quickly. I feel like, I know that person. I know what she's like. It's such a layered, and the writing as well.
And they're really good at, like, judging her reactions and, like, putting in those little human moments. There's, like, a moment where she's trying to break into her mother's secret vault in her office.
Yes. That's my next... No.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
And like the walls are like it's the Indiana Jones trap where like the walls are closing in and they're going to crush her, and she has to remember the password, and she's frantically typing it in, and it randomly cuts. It's like it's showing because like the X is also outside doing his own little thing, and it randomly cuts. The shot's only like a couple of seconds long. Yeah. It randomly cuts to it, and she just looks at the walls as they're closing, and she just goes, "Ah!"
It's such a funny scream.
Yeah,
it's so real but so fucking funny. Yeah, and
then it just cuts away, and it's like, oh yeah, that's a person.
It's so funny.
That's a person who's scared they're about to die.
Do you know what? This is going to sound like a weird thing to say, but the character is a woman. It's not a girl. Do you know what I mean? She's like an adult human being that has a sense of humor about things, but also has deep feelings but just cracks on with life. Do you know what I mean? Like she's
like in her she's married to Jesus, like actually married to Jesus.
Yeah, well that's the thing. Nuns are in the tradition they're married to Jesus.
Yeah, but this show
takes it pretty literally.
Yeah, it literalizes it, and she's not subservient to Jesus.
No, it's a marriage, kind of.
Yeah, it's a proper relationship.
There are problems because she is expected to be subservient to a degree. And she hates that.
Yeah.
He says, I command you to do it. Like, you have to.
Yeah, but she operates sensibly within that framework.
Yeah,
it's not as if she's just like, Jesus, make me do the thing.
Yeah, 100%.
She's like, no, I'm your wife. Fucking speak to me about this. What's wrong with you, mate?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it ends up being she's empowered because it's actually Jesus is the one that she has to rescue, really.
Yeah.
From being himself. From basically, so the way they realize it is that he operates a diner and he cooks food for people. That's him. He feeds people, And in the penultimate episode, I think it is, where she's in the whale.
Oh yeah, they have to perform a heist in a whale.
Yeah, they're going in a whale,
show
where she meets the Virgin Mary.
Yeah.
And the Virgin Mary tells her, my son never gets to be the one who's fed. And destroying the Holy Grail means that he can like move on, basically. Anyway,
Yeah.
Jesus,
And there's even like a completely reasonable explanation as to why that connection is drawn.
also a reasonable explanation for why she is pretty much the only person in the world that can destroy it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like Spider-Man, there's a good reason why we're focusing on.
No, they they thought about
they
it.
they really did. Like, if they didn't plan it all out from the beginning, I'd say they're fucking liars, because that thing with Schrodinger is in the hospital when they're kids. I'll just say that. It's like, oh god, it's all tying together so neatly. Jesus is a bit annoying. He can be a bit annoying. I found he could be a bit annoying.
Okay.
A little tiny bit.
Is that not part of the character?
Oh, I think so. I don't think it's it's just because he's so fucking righteous. Well,
yeah.
I know, exactly, yeah. Well, it's because he's meant to radiate so much, like, warmth.
Yeah.
That I just wanted to slap his face sometimes. Just feel like, fuck you. Who are you to get all these women? You know, basically. It's just jealousy.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Jake McDormand's a lot of fun. The X.
Oh, yeah.
I like him.
Yeah.
And JQ is great.
That's the thing, like...
JQ is...
Again,
great.
sort of like men that are struggling to be men. They're having problems with...
Yeah.
Little crisis of masculinity. They're sort of like having to deal with this world that's being dominated by... Obviously, the AI is like presented as female.
Yes.
Obviously, you know, now that the nun is kind of part of their journey, that's kind of like... They had their whole little dude bro operation that's being compromised a bit.
Yeah, it's very bro-y.
It's very bro-y, and you get the sense that, like, with like a female lead writer and Lindelof with what he believes, that like this could very easily have been one of those things where, like, oh, those characters get rubbished and they get taught a lesson.
No.
Yeah, there's nothing like that.
They're just goofy, that's all. They're goofy. Like, there's a scene where, like, because they're comparing basically how manly they are.
Yeah.
Where him and JQ just, like, take their tops. They basically get completely naked.
Yeah.
In the desert. Like, yeah, look at my six-pack. Like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, you've been working out.
But yeah, that's what's nice about it, is that, like, they're goofy men.
Yes.
But the show does seem to genuinely like them.
Well,
and it treats
JQ
them
more
well.
so. Like,
Yeah.
there are goofy elements to Wiley, is his name. But he has a really good, again, a really great motivation and origin why he wants to do what he's doing. But like, even JQ has his reason why he's taken on the AI, because he's a gambler. And in the world of AI, everyone knows how it's done.
Yeah.
So he kind of lost out on being this card sharp.
Which is kind of the thing that also killed magic.
Yeah.
Which the nun, like, obviously when she was a kid, her father and her mother were both magicians.
Yes.
That kind of informs her whole thing with magicians in the beginning. It's a massive part of the second half of the show where the mother is kind of enlisted to help, and she's convinced that the daughter is actually... Like, the father is still alive and the daughter is hiding him. And
that's like the show is saying we're going to deal with, like, every metaphysical theme. We're doing magic.
Yeah.
We're doing faith. You know, it's death, AI. We're going to do all of it, you know.
Yeah.
And it sounds heavy, but that's the beauty of it, is
Yeah.
it's not. It's light.
I'm just thinking now that, like, because this was 8 episodes and all of the shit that happens, and then 8 episodes of the full Monty.
I know.
Where it's just, it's
just stuff.
Yeah. Like, Gerald sits in a corner as a guy is like, oh, I don't like the cafe being called Big Baps.
Yeah. Gerald, who won a BAFTA for the film.
Yeah, who just sits in the corner the whole show. And it's like, oh, great, okay. I'm glad they brought him back.
Well, you referred to the episode that's basically just an exposition dump. And that happens on a tropical island.
Yes.
Now, is that irony, an apology, a correction? What do you think that... I think it's like an inside joke. If indeed it was meant to be that. Like, there's a perfectly good reason why it's on an island. It's not contrived to be on an island.
Yeah.
But I still find it funny. And I wonder whether that was brought up, that lost a show that was criticised for holding out on the answers. And then you get an hour of what you would be told in a screenwriting class never ever do.
Oh, God, yeah.
And it so works.
Yeah. Yeah, because weirdly, like, it's still a nice episode, like, on rewatches.
Yeah.
When you're going through the series again, it's like, oh, do I skip episode 5? Because I know what's happening now.
Yeah.
No, I think it's still an episode worth
it does,
watching, yeah.
Because you get that relationship between Matilda and, you know... it is. It definitely is. There's one weird little bum note. And that is, in the finale, we see the creator of the AI pitching it. And it's meant... What's it end up being for? It's like a chicken?
Buffalo wings.
Buffalo wings, yeah. and it kind of blossomed into this fucking, omnipresent AI. And she talks, it's a black woman, and she's kind of talking how it's about social justice, and it's going to do this, and it's going to do that, community, blah, 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 blah. And then she says incentivizing, but she says insensitivizing. She definitely... This is not you. I've listened to it. I listened to it again and again and again.
Okay.
Insensitivizing, which is just a weird oversight. Why they didn't get her to do another reading of that line.
Is there
whether they thought, genuinely now, this is me, it could be complete guesswork, but a black woman, like, I don't want to tell her that she's pronouncing it wrong. It could genuinely be that.
Well, no, I don't think that's...
I know, it seems it's outlandish, especially given the role that she has in the show, which is the social justice architect of this AI. I don't know. It's like it's not. It can't be written off as, oh, that's a quirky character thing that she says insensitivizing.
Well, that was going to be my question. Is there anything about that character where you could go, oh yeah, it's kind of like a...
Not at all, because it's the only example of it.
Okay.
And that scene is meant to be the birth of how this thing came to be, because it then ends with a joke, which undercuts all that pomp. Because they go, we're like a chicken company. It's like, it's a weird little detail, a weird little one that maybe you don't pick up, but I definitely did. But anyway, utterly unique and brilliant, and it's worth your time.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, we should say as well, it's called Mrs. Davis. Because, we never said that. That's what Americans call her, and that's a nice detail as well, that she's known as different things in different parts of the world. But Mrs. Davis, the idea being that, American kids love their kindergarten teacher. So Mrs. Davis is meant to be like your kindergarten teacher. Whereas in like Italy, she's Madonna, I think.
Yeah, mother, I think.
Madonna or Mamma or something like that. Anyway, watch it. Okay, Transformers Rise of the Beasts. Don't watch it, I'll just say. Straight away. There's no point beating around the bush. We're not gonna have loved Transformers Rise of the Beasts, are we?
No.
Okay, so let's say the positives first.
Well, I guess it's a positive that there are positives.
Yes, there's
in a Transformers film.
Well, here are the positives.
Okay.
At one point, as motivation for the main character, the Pete Davidson Transformer says to him, "When we're done, you can sell me, and you can."
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and you can use the money to pay for his brother has medical problems. You can use the money, and that's the initial incentive for the main character.
Yeah,
those are the positives. The negatives.
Oh yeah, no.
No, that is a genuinely nice little thing.
It seems like you don't want to talk about this film, Sam, because you're going so quick. I haven't had a chance to jump in.
Oh, well, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm just saying...
Okay,
yeah, I agree. No, because that's like... I don't know. It's like the first time in these films where it feels like a Transformer has kind of had a proper understanding of its relationship with a human.
Yes.
Like, at that time... Because at that time, obviously, they're strangers, basically, and Noah doesn't want to do the thing, so he's like, oh, I'm going to give you like material incentive. And it's like, oh god, yeah, they like these alien robots, they've like, yeah, these are two different species. They and like, I think it's always taken as a given that like humans and Transformers are just going to get on, or at least humans and Autobots are always just going to get on because they're all like inherently good. So yeah, that was kind of nice that like for the first time maybe ever, it feels like they've actually thought about this in terms of like, what does the character want?
Yeah, it's just...
And like, what could a Transformer offer a human?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go that deeply into it. It's a decent idea that it could be sold as a car.
Yeah.
Like that's the... No, the reason I was ploughing on with it was because for comic timing, it was like, that's the positive.
Oh, right,
here are the 20,000 negatives.
Okay.
Okay, so it's a fucking absurd premise for Transformers. Hair, feathers, for the beasts, whatever they're called.
Well, it's interesting. So I did a little bit of digging.
Oh yeah,
because I was a Transformers fan for a while. I kind of fell out of it in the last few years, but I never encountered the Maximals.
Maximals, that's right.
Yeah, like I knew about the Dinobots, I knew about the Insecticons. Never encountered. I mean, they're kind of a bit like.
Have we had those yet?
No, we've not had them in the films.
Okay,
they kind of exist. I don't know actually. In the context that I know them, they exist alongside the Dinobots, which we have had. But yeah, they're a whole thing. But yeah, the point is I've never encountered the Maximals. So it's like, I'm kind of curious where they fit into all this.
Yeah.
And why they're considered important enough to be brought to the big screen.
Yes.
And it turns out that there was a cartoon, a very, very ropey looking cartoon.
Right.
From like the late 90s called Beast Wars. That they were kind of like, that was
I've heard of Beast Wars.
That was their big debut. then they're actually bio-engineered, like, tech.
Right.
So they're basically liquid metal, and they can transform into organic animals.
Right.
That's what the original Maximals, or at least the Maximals presented in that show, that's what they were. They were kind of...
hybrids, almost.
Yeah, they were robots that could turn into organic animals. Because
they're
they
organic matter that have been augmented with... No, but they're not. That doesn't make sense.
They have a robot form,
Yeah.
and then they do like a liquid metal transform thing, and they become a real animal.
The other way around, okay, I can accept. Just that's silly.
No, it's
That's
silly.
very silly.
It's silly and it's utter bullshit.
Is that Jury Duty? You know, the show that we've been watching.
Oh, yeah.
Todd. His whole thing is like, about augmenting humans with like technology.
Yeah.
That's fine. You got to start organic and add the technology. You can't start a technology and add the organic.
Well, it's weird because they're like they're the descendants of the original Transformers. Right. So like the Autobots and Decepticons on Cybertron.
Organic matter.
These Maximals are like their like distant offspring.
Whatever. Okay.
No, but my point was, yeah, it's utterly ridiculous and bullshit that like, oh, you have this robot that can turn into a real creature.
Yes.
This feels worse somehow. That it's a robot that turns into a robot that has some...
Because they're not even doing... Yeah, it's turning into a robot that looks like an animal.
But it's still a robot.
But it's still a robot. It superficially resembles an animal. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not an actual animal. It's not more stupid, because what you just told me is incredibly stupid.
Oh, it's the most stupid.
But it's still pretty stupid, yeah. Because I don't know what the utility of it is. But indeed, what is the utility of a robot gorilla?
Well, no, I would, having now seen the film, I would like to update that.
Go on.
What's not the utility of a robot gorilla?
Go on.
Because, like, the whole film, he's a robot gorilla.
Yeah.
And then he becomes not a robot gorilla, he becomes a robot man.
Yes.
And he kills one Transformer in a way that a gorilla would kill a Transformer, and then he turns back into a robot gorilla.
Yeah, there's no good reason, and there's not enough of a distinction between when they transform. Like, I can't even remember what they look like when they're not gorillas and Asian birds.
Well, the Asian bird never does transform.
No, okay. Can it?
It can.
It just doesn't.
It just never does.
Right.
They never do. And it seems like
there's not even a...
It just seems like because, like, the vehicle version of the Transformer is not the main Transformer. The robot is the Transformer. The vehicle is like an alternate mode. This feels like the other way around. It feels like they're robot animals first that can turn into robot people.
Yes. Right. Okay. So listen, they're on another planet, aren't they, at the beginning of the film?
Oh yeah, they're on a
Earth-like
It's
planet.
like a Cybertronian colony on a jungle planet.
Yeah.
And I think they really should have done something on that planet. They should have shown the fauna. Maybe, like, on that planet, gorillas were 20 feet tall and kind of looked like they had robot parts. So it kind of made sense that the Maximals looked like they...
Look, the thing that I just... Look, all of it's fucking stupid.
Oh, God, yeah.
The thing that I can't reconcile at all, like, I can't even begin to go, oh, fine, whatever, with Transformers. I'll ignore the fact that they speak English. Whatever.
Well, the film gives you an explanation.
Does it?
Yeah, it does.
What? That they, like...
Well, it's
some filtering system or something.
In the first... in the 2007 Transformers, of which this is a... I don't know if it is a... No, because Bumblebee... This is a sequel...
Oh, let's not do that.
No. This is a sequel to Bumblebee.
Yeah.
Which was a prequel to the first Transformers, but also might not be a prequel to the first Transformers, which would make more sense.
It's unclear.
Because the fourth sequel to the first Transformers film, which is The Last Knight, has a bunch of stuff that this film also uses.
Right.
Which means that this film and The Last Knight can't possibly exist in the same continuity.
I really don't think they care.
I'm pretty sure they don't.
Yeah.
But
they haven't even thought about it.
The problem, though, Sam,
Yeah.
is that they've got a writer's room now.
Yeah.
So surely this is the point that they should start caring.
Was the writer's room convened for this film?
No, it was convened for Bumblebee.
Right.
Bumblebee was the first we're doing Transformers films
but it was
now.
in place for this film.
Yeah.
So this film was put together in a writer's
By a writer's room.
Oh dear. Okay.
Yeah. Bumblebee was the first one where it's like, okay, we're like doing the Transformers films properly now.
Yeah.
Here's your little prologue on Cybertron of the planet going to hell and the war. Now here's Bumblebee being E.T. for the rest of the film. And it's like, okay, we're doing things slower, we're doing them more deliberate. There's going to be
This is our indie version of a Transformers film.
Yeah, we're kind of expanding the definition of what a Transformers film could be
Yeah.
for this new wave of Transformers media.
Yes.
And then the sequel comes along, and it goes, hey, here's a Michael Bay film again,
Yes,
but not
exactly.
directed by Michael Bay.
Exactly. It is a Michael Bay film, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, the thing that I can't... So in the first Transformers, isn't it that they speak in the... And then you see how it translates?
Yeah, they learn English through the internet.
Fine.
Whereas in this one, because it's set in the 90s,
Yeah.
which I must say has no impact on the film whatsoever.
No, not at all.
The only reason this film is set in the 90s, I would posit,
Yeah.
is because they haven't decided properly yet if this comes before the first Transformers, so it needs to be before 2007.
Yeah.
And this is a sequel to Bumblebee, which took place in the 80s.
Yeah, so this is the 90s
So
one.
this is the 90s.
Yeah. And maybe there are a couple of music cues. I don't know.
But like half the film is set in Peru, which is aesthetically time locked to just like an old period of time.
Yeah, watching it, like my 90s was not the thing that emerged.
No.
It looks like all the other ones.
No.
Yeah, nothing about it was 90s at all. My memory of Bumblebee, at least they're going for like that synthy thing, right? If I'm remembering.
Yeah, well, it kind of feels like an 80s film as well.
Yeah.
Like when she's kind of...
Yeah, so like a Spielberg 80s.
As she's being introduced to his like abilities and powers, they're kind of on the beach. And, yeah, he's like E.T. He's like the gentle... Iron Giant, I think, was a thing that was evoked
right,
as well.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the English thing, fine. It's the fact that the vehicles that they turn into have a coincidental relationship with our vehicles.
It is a coincidence, because they do have... With the exception of some Decepticons, who I think just don't give enough of a shit to bother.
Right.
They do have alternate modes back on Cybertron, which are different from their Earth alternate modes.
Right.
But the foundation is fundamentally the same.
There's still trucks and cars. And,
Optimus Prime is still a truck.
Yeah.
Starscream is still a plane.
Yes. Right.
Bumblebee is still a small car.
Right. That is annoying, and I can't excuse that.
But he doesn't look like, that's the thing, he doesn't look like a Corvette on Cybertron. He just kind of looks like an alien car.
Yeah, I know that. But, and again, like, I can just about go, right, okay, maybe the fundamentals of transport would be the same across the universe.
Yeah.
If aliens had cars, they'd look like... Wheels, yes.
Yeah, they feel like a pretty universal thing.
Yeah, but if aliens had cars, they'd look like cars.
Yeah.
But even though, like, from the UFOs we've seen... they don't look like anything we've got.
Yeah.
Because why would they? I know the physics is the same. Whatever. Fine. But animals?
Yeah, animals is a hard sell.
So the Earth gorillas, is there any reason that they look like Cybertronian robot gorillas? Or is it pure coincidence?
Don't you know all space gorillas look like Earth gorillas?
Look like Earth gorilla. Do you know what I mean? That's a stretch. Well, yes. I would get like, the Transformers crashed here whenever, and they modelled what they transformed into after the creatures on our planet.
Well, that's kind of why the Dinobots make sense. Because I think,
fine.
Especially since, I don't know, because Transformers has had loads of like little continuity changes. Mm-hmm. They've kind of gone through phases of like, every project we do exists within the same continuity, and then phases of, everything's kind of its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Dinobots... From what I remember, this is from the Fall of Cybertron, War for Cybertron games. Mm. The Dinobots were an experiment done by a Decepticon scientist because they were aware of Earth as like a potential destination, and at the time that they found Earth, dinosaurs were roaming the planet.
Right.
So he took a bunch of Autobots and experimented on them to kind of make them look more like the wildlife on that planet.
Perfectly fine.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you've taken something that was just like, let's make a toy where a robot turns into a dinosaur.
That's the problem, isn't it?
No, but that's the thing.
Yeah.
The kids want a robot that turns into a dinosaur.
Completely.
Let's take that into a context and make it like make sense.
Yes.
And they did that.
Yes. But that's a big problem with a lot of the Transformers and other things like that, which is it started out because it's a robot that turns into a dinosaur.
Yeah.
And now we've got to provide a reason for that existing.
Yeah.
A context for that, which is hard.
It is hard. It'd be nice if they tried.
If they tried, yeah. And like, so it can be annoying when you go, and this is the reason this is like that. No, it's fucking not.
Yeah.
It's, what's a good example? Backronym, they call it. In The Day the Earth Stood Still. I can't remember what the creature is called. Or like, it comes down in a massive fucking robot.
Yeah.
It has
it's like Jim or something.
No, it's something alien-y.
Okay.
But then in the remake with Keanu Reeves, because they're going for more grounded, Nolan's happened.
Yeah.
We'll do. It's an acronym. It actually stands for space, but because it's like
because it's too silly to be a real name.
Yeah, it's something like Gort. It's something like that, Gort, and it's like, oh, it's geo-optimal, and it's no, it's not though. It's because it's an alien name. They called it Gort.
Yeah,
that's and so that can be a bit irritating. But yeah, I can. And they've done it loads with the Marvel films, like the more outlandish stuff. They try and give it a different context.
Yeah.
Like the Mandarin is a good example of that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And just be silly. If you're silly, And but no, it'd be good if they tried with the Maximals, so that they just happen to look like an eagle.
Yeah,
there's no eagle in Cybertron.
I mean, like, this film is stupid.
Yeah, it's just pretty stupid. Yeah,
but it's not silly enough. I don't think.
No, it's not. It's not enjoyable.
Yeah.
Well, let's crack on with it, right?
Okay.
Dull visuals, as ever.
Yeah, this is the thing. Michael Bay there's a lot of problems with Michael Bay films.
Many.
The main problem, I think, with the films that he made, like, obviously towards the end, he gave less and less of a shit. Yeah. And so it was just nonsense.
To think that Transformers is a film from someone who gives a shit.
But no, like, if you...
No, I agree. Seen them all got progressively worse, pretty much.
Like, you get to the point with The Last Night where there are, like, reverse shots that are happening in different aspect ratios at different times of day that might not even be happening on the same continent.
Yeah.
But the characters are supposed to be, like, interacting with each other.
Yeah.
It's like, right, this guy does not give a shit anymore.
No. Like, by the end, they became true messes. Like,
oh, God, yeah.
The first Transformers is a pretty middle-of-the-road summer blockbuster.
That's the thing. You're starting from a place where it feels like you gave a bit of a shit.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, yes. I don't know if it was him giving a shit. I mean, yeah. I suppose after the success of the first one and the second one, which was panned. So, well, I don't really have to try, do I? I'm making millions and millions of dollars.
Maybe.
But yeah, no, the first one's it's not offensively awful.
No.
It's like, it's fine.
And it's got little sequences in it, which are actually really nice. The first one on the military base with the helicopter.
Yeah,
it's your first proper sight of a Transformer.
I remember that being exciting. When I was like 12, admittedly.
Yeah,
but still, I mean, I don't think. I mean, I saw the second one and third one when I was, what would I have been? Like 14, 16.
The right age.
In the right demographic, and I did not like those films.
No.
Whereas the first one I did. I don't think I would now. There'd be some nostalgia connection. They got Linkin Park in it and all that.
Yeah.
But no, the first one's just a middle-of-the-road summer blockbuster that wouldn't win Razzies.
No.
And then after that.
And I think, it has genuinely good sound design.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it doesn't rise above its, like, script.
No, and it's Shia LaBeouf in a likeable phase, and
yeah. But yeah, like, you go back to those films where it felt like Michael Bay was trying. Even in those films, you've got action which is
incomprehensible.
Not comprehensively assembled. But I don't know. I kind of missed that during the action sequences in this one, because for all of the reverse shots that seem to be happening in a different universe and the robots being so overly detailed and coloured so similarly, you can't tell if it's a good guy or a bad guy being killed.
Yeah.
Through all of that, he still manages to capture this sense of scale and carnage that this film just can't. It doesn't get anywhere near to that.
In no way are those films better than these newer ones. Like, this is a better film than 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Oh, yeah.
I would say. Yeah, his films are pretty much everything that's wrong with modern cinema. The lechiness, just all of it. But I would agree that not with the running time, because that, like, I had a panic attack with what was the fourth one? Or the fifth one?
Age of Extinction.
Yeah. I had to leave the room at one point because I was stressing out.
You missed all of the character payoffs.
I was stressing out because it was just so long and so much stuff was happening.
Yeah.
But in terms of just the stuff itself, you do miss the gross excess, the grotesque excess with this one. Because, like, at least it's just so much. You're like, this is the fall of the West.
Yeah.
In this one, it's just like, oh, this is just a shit film.
Yeah.
And it's...
I remember that when it was like the second or third trailer came out, and its big final, wow, look at the action shot.
Yeah.
Was like, Optimus Primal like bit the head off a scorpion, and then RC was like riding on the back of a rhino that ran up to like another Transformer with glasses, and they shot a couple of shots just like off into the distance.
Yeah.
And then it was like Transformers.
Yes.
I was like, that feels really flat.
Yeah.
And it does. The whole thing feels so flat.
The visuals are dull. A lot, again, as usual, barren wastelands.
Yeah, they need to stop that.
And it's not just with Transformers, it's with every, it seems, big studio action movie.
Yeah.
The final fight is always, it's because it's cheaper. It's like, oh, we don't have to do this in a city. And I think cities have been, especially with the Bay films, it always ends in a city.
Yeah, we don't need to do them in a city.
No.
And I think this barren volcanic landscape is very much an overcorrection where it's like, well, this is just of no consequence to anyone.
It looks so cheap as well.
Yeah.
It makes it look so cheap.
There's got to be something else, right? There's got to be like
there's got to be. Yeah.
There's got to be another environment that's like... It's like a good mixture of like the consequence of fighting in a city, but also just like... It's the kind of aesthetic of fighting somewhere like in a desert where it's like it's still like interesting to look at.
Yeah, which they did in Revenge of the Fallen.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you have to be creative with it. Like even if you ultimately have to do it, it has to be a city. You can do it in a certain way that makes it interesting, or film it in a certain way. Like even just like with Godzilla, it's in Tokyo, so you've got the neon. Make it visually arresting.
Yeah.
Or do something unique with it. Like it wasn't a city. But an Age of Ultron, I know people don't like that film as much.
Oh yeah.
But when it ends at that levitating like town, like that was interesting.
Yeah.
Or in Winter Soldier, where isn't it like a hovercraft?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, okay, that's different. It doesn't always have to be just nowhere. I don't know that. It doesn't even look like a country. It looks like nowhere dirt. And or just anonymous. It's usually Chicago.
Yeah.
It's not New York because we all recognize New York.
Yes.
It's just like Chicago. Yeah, there's something else. There's a place in between.
Well, Rogue One, like the end of Rogue One, where it's like on the beaches.
Like Normandy.
Like Normandy.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is aesthetically interesting. I like this.
Yeah. There are films that have done that well.
Yeah.
But it seems like, even with Endgame, which, critical darling, commercial darling, audience darling, fanboy darling... Even the ending of that, it looks a bit tacky and cheap.
Yeah.
And I like that, and, you can't help it. You're so manipulated into liking that ending. But it looks like a video game,
It does, but I feel like part of it was just practical, like... I know that there's supposed to be some resonance because it's the ruins of the Avengers headquarters.
Yeah.
But it's probably just a practical, it's like, right, we have 29,000 CG models... fighting right now.
Yeah.
Do you really want us to render this in the middle of like
no, I know
modern day New York?
I know that, but it looks fake as well, and like the
does.
sky looks fake, and it all looks artificial.
It does.
I mean, even like if you were doing like barren, dirty, there's something to be said. If you filmed like a fight in mud really well, that would look like the Raid.
Yeah, the Raid too. Yeah.
Like there's something you could do that well. It's just when you've got the environment and the action, and it doesn't really seem to they have no relationship with each other.
Have a fight scene on the moon. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah,
Transformers fighting on the moon.
Dust. Yeah. They keep rewriting the origin of Transformers on Earth, and that's annoying. And at this point, just fuck off home. I know you don't have one, but fuck off home. Seriously, go away. We don't want you here. We do not want you. Why Earth? Leave us alone.
Yeah.
What's Unicron?
You've met Unicron.
Yeah, I know what he is in the film, but what the fuck is Unicron?
No. You've met This is my point.
Yeah.
The Last Night, which is the Anthony Hopkins one.
Yeah.
Unicron's the main threat.
Is it?
Yeah.
Don't remember that.
Which is because in this, Unicron is just some nebulous space.
It's like Galactus.
Yeah, he's just some nebulous creature, dubious little creature that's like
not little,
that has like an army that fights for him, and that's really annoying because it feels like I don't know what Unicron is in the context of this film. I don't know who he is. I don't really know what he wants.
That's my question, really.
Because it's like, oh, he's this big nebulous thing that consumes planets.
Yeah.
But also he wants something. He wants the dimension key.
Yeah.
And he has an army that fight for him.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I want to eat planets, but also I'm this
Egg,
kind of
egg MacGuffin.
yeah. Egg
Yeah.
MacGuffin. Egg MacGuffin. I like that.
Yeah.
But also I'm this kind of like, I pull the strings. I'm a schemer. I'm intelligent.
Yeah. It's a mixture of like it's an entity. It's like a consuming thing, like a black hole that has a consciousness and has aims.
Well, that's the thing, because if it was just a case of like you've got the Peter Dinklage robot that's like, oh, I represent this force. It's like, okay, it's weird that this force has a representative, but okay, at least you have some purpose.
Like, I don't know how...
But no, it's like, oh, he just goes up to Unicron, and Unicron's like, oh, can you do me a favour? Can you go, like, get this key off this robot gorilla? And he's like, yeah, cool, all right. Like, what does he get out of it? I don't know.
I don't know how, like, the bionic, whatever word you want to use, physics, I don't know how it works. I'm not a genius. I just refuse to believe that anything that big could think, could have a mind. Anything that can eat a planet... I think it must be the case that it would be physically impossible for that to have a mind.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, no way. Like, the biggest thing that could have a mind is like a dinosaur or something.
I don't know, though, because, like, whales are fairly intelligent creatures, right?
Yeah.
They're not human intelligent, but they're...
No, but yes.
In the animal kingdom, they're among the more intelligent, and they're, like, fucking massive.
They're really big, but they can't eat a planet.
They can't eat a planet.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said that as if, like, but they could eat...
They can't eat a planet. You know,
they can eat a moon.
A planet could eat them.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like it's the fact that it's not organic as well. Yeah. It's like, right, so was that's what created?
It's another big confusion is that when they bleed, are they bleeding? Why? How's that?
Yeah.
It's like the things that you shouldn't think. That you end up thinking. And also Unicron, it's just too close to the word unicorn.
It is very close to
Every time unicorn. I look at it, my brain has to autocorrect it.
I don't know what the origins of it are. All I know about the original Unicron is that he was the villain of the original 1984 Transformers film.
Okay.
He killed basically everyone because they wanted to relaunch the toy line.
Well, you eat a planet. And,
yeah. He didn't like eat Cybertron, but he basically killed, like, Optimus Prime died, like most of the main cast died.
Okay.
And he's basically like the Transformers Satan.
Yeah.
Like he's the main he's the main villain of Primus, which is the robot that Cybertron is made of, that like gives all Transformers all life and stuff like that. And he was voiced by Orson Welles as well, so he had some presence,
some gravitas.
Whereas in this he's just like, give me the key.
Yeah, it's the fallen voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, so are you built? Are you like, do you think or do you just eat or what do you want?
Yeah.
But the problem is in The Last Nights, planet Earth is Unicron. He's like dormant in the core of the planet.
Right.
And if he wakes up, we'd all die.
Yeah.
But in this, he's a separate existing entity.
Yeah, who's coming to eat Earth.
Who's coming to eat us. So
it's like, what is the survival rate on an eaten planet?
It's not great, I would thought.
No. Does anyone survive? If you're on a... It's a weird thought, isn't it? You know...
Is it like... You know in those... They have those scenes in like... Well, there was one in Super Mario, weirdly enough, where like someone gets eaten by like a kaiju.
Yeah.
Or like a giant sea monster. And they're just like living in its stomach.
Well, that's the thing.
Is that what it is? Are you like, oh, I guess Unicron's belly is my home now. I just live in...
Well, presumably doesn't have digestive acids.
Does he
poop?
Does he gain nutrients from these planets? Or is he just being mean?
Yeah, does he need to eat them?
Yeah. Or is he just making a point?
Is it a staple of his diet? Is it like a...
Is it a statement?
Is it a statement? No, like, to Unicron, is a planet, like, carbohydrates? You know? And, like...
Yeah, is he supposed to be on a diet, but he's, like, indulging? It's like, just the one.
A planet is a carb, like, a sun is protein. You know, like, that's his diet group, his food groups.
Unicron, what did I tell you about eating planets?
Sorry. Burps out a nebula. I don't... It's a false intuition, I'm sure, but you know that thing I wrote ages ago where if you had a car filled to absolute capacity with jelly beans, I know you'd always just be able to put one more in. You could tell me that it's filled capacity, but I just don't believe, you know, there'd always be room for one more. And similarly, part of me thinks that even if something came and ate the planet, there'd be survivors.
Yeah.
But no way is that possible.
No.
But do you know what I mean? My brain tells me it's just so unlikely.
That's what I mean. Can you survive? But that might be like a weird little script idea.
Can you survive?
No, yeah, it's like the premise is Earth was eaten by this celestial monster.
Yeah.
And the surviving humans are living inside its stomach. And they don't know how long they have to live, whether they can escape, anything like that.
It'd be dark, wouldn't it? Or like you said, just a more pared down version of that, like something living in a kaiju.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm too small that it didn't like digest me.
Yeah, and I've found this weird sweet spot where I'm not being like affected by
and like grab some of the things it eats so I can have it for myself.
Yeah, like I can live in this thing if I want.
Yeah, there's something. Yeah, maybe there's something there. I don't know. But
well, at least something came out of Rise of the Beasts. We've pitching our own ideas.
Forget the eating thing. Like if the planet exploded, like in the Death Star.
Yeah.
Part of me still thinks there'd be survivors. But there wouldn't be.
No.
But because there's the billions of people. Like what one thing could happen where all of them would die? And my brain can't wrap its head around that magnitude. So it's going, no, odds are someone would live. Even though I know it's not right.
Right.
Anthony Ramos.
Sure.
He's trying.
He's trying.
I just don't like him, and he's not funny. And,
Is Pete Davidson trying?
I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I hate Pete Davidson.
Yeah, he's not great.
Why Brooklyn? Why is that a thing?
Yeah, well, why anything? Why Brooklyn? Why not Haley Steinfeld again?
Yeah.
Why is she just a quick brushing that, like, let's just brush that off so we can carry on with the rest of the film?
Yeah, but even if you're like, oh no, we have to do new characters for whatever reason, okay, and they have to be from a place, okay, they're from Brooklyn, but why did that have to be like part of the identity? It's the same with Spider-Verse. It's like Brooklyn is this recurring character.
Yeah, the only like ethnic people are from Brooklyn.
That's what it seems to like. Yeah, they're going for that. At one point, the mother, what's her face, La Guerta from Dexter, she says,
"Oh yeah, who's mother to both Miles and Anthony."
Oh yeah. She says white people love that shit.
Oh yeah,
and is yet another example of a double standard. It's like again,
right?
It doesn't annoy me. It honestly does. I'm not offended to that. It's the fact it's like a joke. It's at face value that's something we laugh at now.
Okay,
yeah, white people love that shit, and everyone's supposed to go. Ha, 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 ha. I just go, I don't know.
Right.
I don't get the Dominique Fishback thing. I continue to not get it.
Oh yeah, that character's a hypocrite.
Oh, go on.
Yeah, because if I remember, her whole thing is that she works as an intern in a museum.
Yeah.
And she's the only one there that's like competent and like understands when things are from and what history is or whatever.
Sure.
Because the white woman just like, all she's doing is going to fundraisers and earning money so the museum can stay afloat.
Yeah.
Fucking bitch.
Yeah.
But she takes all the credit for Dominique Fishback's knowledge and inherent whatever.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the film, like after they all go back to their normal lives, Dominique Fishback is on TV because she discovered all of the ancient artifacts and whatnot in Peru.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So it's like, you're just doing what the fucking
irony
white
or
woman
oversight.
Did. Oh yeah, I bet they probably didn't even think about it, did they? They were probably just like, oh, look, she's living her best life now. Yeah. It's like, yeah, but it's at the fucking expense of... Noah won't receive any credit or financial reward for any of that shit.
No, but
she's about to.
He'll get to be the star of a new franchise, which we'll get to.
Oh, yeah.
But she's not an artifact expert, is she?
Do you not believe Dominique Fishback will be capable of such a thing?
No, I do not. And her boss being ditzy and superficial and uninterested. Her superior at a museum? No.
Yeah, the woman working at a museum is like, oh yeah, history.
Yeah, not buying it.
Yeah.
Like just a typical, like shows no insight or interest.
Yeah.
Is literally the bimbo like, oh, you're interested in that? Oh, boring. Like basically what she is.
Because
no
museums, that's just a thing you fall into.
Yeah, she has a senior position at a museum.
Yeah.
Like, no. I hate Pete Davidson.
Yeah, sorry, go on about Bumblebee.
No, carry on. It's a new point.
No, because Bumblebee might lead into my point more organically.
Bumblebee can only talk in clips, right?
That's annoying, because the conceit has always been that he talks in radio clips.
Yeah, right, okay.
So it's advertisements and songs.
Okay, but now they've added films to that.
Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't make sense.
How is that? Where did he get the film clips from?
In the 90s, yeah. So So what? So in the noughties films,
he could only speak through the radio, which makes sense.
Even though they spoke through learned how to speak through the internet.
Well, his voice box.
Oh, his voice box. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But ignoring that, let's say he can now have film clips or whatever. He says something. Does he say you can't handle the truth? He says something to Optimus. There's a little hilarious one-liner where he's like, "I don't want you going to that drive-in theater anymore."
Yeah.
And it's like, that makes no sense. It's the only way he can talk.
It's their only window into human culture.
But no,
because Optimus
forget that.
No. But that's a genuine, because Optimus is insisting that they stay hidden.
Yeah.
So because that's Mirage's whole thing, isn't it? It's that he's annoyed that Marky Mark is leaving the Whack Pack or whatever the fuck he's on about.
Oh, there you go, 90s.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So but that's all he's got to do. That's how he's killing his time. Is he's like learning, he's watching things, he's consuming human culture and arts.
Yeah.
And through that's the prism through which he understands people.
Yeah.
So that's why when he's talking to Noah, he talks in all that kind of wacky, slangy kind of way. Yes.
But beyond that, like, it's just not fair. If you told me, Sam, from now on, you can only communicate with me in lyrics. So I try and do that, and then you go, you listen to too much music. You've put the parameters on how... It's the only way he can speak to you. It's not that it's not because he watches too many movies. It's literally his only way to communicate.
Also, I feel like films is cheating.
Oh, yeah. Because do anything.
Not only are there so many films... The thing with radio commercials and songs is that they're not talking in a way that people talk.
No, it is a bit of colour when it's like radio advertisements.
Yeah,
and,
they're
brand
either
new,
Yeah, it's either just like it's either that kind of advertisement speak where it's just the facts of the thing with these like colourful buzzwords thrown in, or you've got the poetry of lyrics.
Yeah.
So it's harder to kind of splice a sentence together.
The musical.
Yeah. It's more creative. It's more of a challenge. It's more interesting.
Yeah.
But a film, it's like, right, I need to tell Optimus that that guy is over there. I'll just play the clip from that one film from 1995.
Where it says that guy is over there.
Exactly, yeah. It's like, well, Bumblebee can basically just speak at this point.
I would say, like, it's definitely now, probably by 95, whenever it's set.
Yeah.
Enough existed in the world of cinema that anything you want to say has been said.
Yeah.
By, pretty much. Boring fights, business as usual.
My thing about Bumblebee.
Oh, yeah.
It's weird that Mirage basically replaces Bumblebee in this film as the human...
The bro.
The human transformer bond. Yeah. It's those two. It's Noah and Mirage. I would understand it if Bumblebee wasn't in this film.
Yeah.
To which I would add the fact that Bumblebee spends half of this film dead... Where it's like, well, you're obviously not going to fucking kill...
I believe that.
Yeah, you're not going to fucking kill Bumblebee in the second film, essentially, of this new continuity, if indeed it is a new continuity. And the fact that they basically have to ignore the events of Bumblebee to get him in this film in the first place. Why is Bumblebee even here?
I would say is the logic that, oh no, he's friends with Haley Steinfeld. Like, we don't want to compromise the uniqueness of that friendship. But if they're fucking that film over to get him in this one anyway... Yeah. What does it matter?
Because I guess Haley Steinfeld still exists in this world.
Does he?
But Optimus just goes... Because, like, Bumblebee, I think, sticks up for Noah at one point. And Optimus is like, look, I know that the human was nice to you once, Bumblebee, but fuck off. I'm in the middle of something.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, that's the only connection that this film has to Bumblebee.
Does Bumblebee speak in Bumblebee?
He does in the beginning. And then his voice box. It's the only time we've seen. Okay, so it's the
ET thing. It really that you can't communicate with them, right?
Yeah, it's a proper plot point.
That's the only thing I can think. Then this they want Pete Davidson's hot. We will have like that broy. Yeah, boy, we'll do that instead of the silent friendship.
Well, then Bumblebee.
No, I know.
Don't have Bumblebee in this.
I know.
Although Bumblebee and Haley Steinfeld are off doing recon in Jamaica.
Yeah, just don't have him at all. Yeah.
Oh, Haley Steinfeld is diving in the Olympics and Bumblebee really wanted to go. Like, something.
I just think they assumed outcry on the part of people that you can't have a Transformers film without Bumblebee. I mean, you've seen those, whether they are fake put on or not, that shit on YouTube where the men are like watching the trailers like, oh my god, so we have to talk about what Bumblebee's going to mean in this movie and all that crap. They're like, he's got to be in it. You got to have Optimus, you got to have Bumblebee. Again, that's it.
I would argue that one of the sort of the theses or the intentions of Bumblebee.
Yeah, there's no thesis about Transformers.
No. The intention of Bumblebee, or one of them, was to expand what a Transformers film could be.
I would agree.
It's not just this Michael Bay fucking noise.
I would agree.
A Transformers film can be quieter. It can be more
quieter.
personal.
Yeah.
It can be character focused.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why chuck all that away to do an inferior Michael Bay film and not reap any of the benefits of...
Let's qualify inferior Michael Bay film. It's a better film than those films. It's just not as...
It's not doing the Michael Bay thing as well, though.
Yeah, it's not as outlandish as...
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it just feels like, again, it's a writer's room. That was the first film in this new continuity. It's like, right, Bumblebee is our starting point. Where do we go, gents? Oh, we just don't do anything with that, and we just do what we were doing before.
It is depressing that this is the result of collective intelligence. They had a bunch of people working on it, and this is what they determined was the best thing that should be out there.
But is it, though? Because this is the problem, is that like there were articles coming out in advance of this film saying the film was a complete fucking disaster.
Yeah.
And they were reshooting and rewriting and everything. Are they writing these like genuinely interesting, experimental, subversive...
Jordan.
Are they doing what Mattel seems to be doing at the moment? We've got the Barbie film coming out this year. Apparently Daniel Kaluuya is doing a Barney film or something.
Barney?
Yeah. I saw a thing earlier saying that Daniel Kaluuya's Barney will be aimed at adults and will be more subversive or interesting. I can't remember what word they used.
Look,
so it seems like Mattel's thing at the moment is like, oh, we're going to take all of our kid-friendly properties and we're going to make them like this weird...
Well, Barbie's 12A, it's been announced.
Yeah, whatever Barbie's doing, we're going to do that with Barney and all the other shit that we've got.
I mean, look, not to get off on this massive tangent, I don't know, I haven't heard anything that was Daniel Kaluuya Barney thing.
Yeah.
I don't want Barney to be subversive and not for kids. Barney's for kids.
Yeah, I don't know why this is like...
Yeah.
The thing that they've latched onto.
Daniel Kaluuya.
Barney's not even out yet. We don't even know if it's a good thing that they've done.
I will say this is probably some inherent racism here. A tiny little bit.
Okay.
But Barney's a purple dinosaur, right?
Yeah.
But he's white, isn't he?
Is he?
Do you know what I mean? Like, if you think of a man being inside Barney or voicing Barney, it's a white guy. The idea that it's a black guy is just slightly weird.
So I've literally
but it's nothing wrong with it, obviously. It's just like...
Well, I actually don't know if, like, the original guy who played Barney was white. He probably was white, right?
You just assume that he would be, yeah.
I haven't seen Barney in a while. I don't know if Barney is, like, coded white. I don't know if he's got, like...
Yeah.
It's like...
Well, hello there.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you're way too suburban to be, like, a Latino guy.
No, I think... No. Yeah, Barney is, like, waspy.
Yeah. Well, I've just typed in Daniel Kaluuya Barney.
Yeah.
It's being produced by him and he's starring in it. I don't think he's directing it.
No, okay. Yeah, starring was enough.
But yeah, the things that I'm getting just from Google are Barney movie with Daniel Kaluuya to be A24 type project.
Right.
But not R-rated. Daniel Kaluuya Barney movie surrealistic and for adults, and Barney movie will lean into millennial angst.
I don't like it.
No,
I don't like it.
You're not slightly curious to see how that's going to manifest.
I'm curious, but I was perversely curious up until it'll be about millennial angst.
Okay.
I don't need a fucking film about millennial angst.
Where does millennial angst and Barney intersect?
It's gonna be millennial that grew up with Barney, and then like the film is somehow about warped like childhood, and you know, like he'll represent.
Oh my god, is Barney going to be like a Jimmy Savile type?
Not
he's like something sinister's happening to these
not
kids. Not
necessarily Jimmy Savile. I don't think the Barney will be a villain or anything, but it will be he'll come to represent a kind of fallen innocence or something like that. That's unique to our generation because Barney's our generation.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm just the idea of it being not for kids. It's, for fuck's sake. I don't know. We'll see.
I think we're well over that hurdle culturally now, right?
Well, in what way?
In terms
of that superhero movies are for adults.
Yeah, or at least the bar's been moved. When you say something's for kids nowadays, you mean Paw Patrol,
which is a shame.
Barney. Well, then again, I would have put Barney in that camp, but apparently Barney's not even off the table for. It could be for adults now.
Barney's definitely in the camp of it's only for children. You can't enjoy it if you're not a child. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what you could get out of Barney as a grown up, but yeah, like that's what stuff for kids now is. It's Bluey, it's Paw Patrol,
Yes.
it's Plink Plonk or whatever the preschool like learn your alphabet.
Yeah. The really terrible cheap animation.
Yeah, Transformers, superheroes, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's for grown-ups now,
And that's depressing.
it has the potential to be.
It is depressing. That's depressing.
I don't know. I'm not like you in the sense that I'm immediately willing to write off that idea.
I'm not writing it off.
I'm not a massive fan of it.
No, I'm not writing it off. I just on its face, the idea of it being millennial angst was the buzz term that threw me.
Oh yeah, but I kind of like whether it's something that should be done or not. There is something about the idea of mining a character that was initially presented to kids. And mining it for something that has a resonance with you as an adult, like with Batman.
Yeah, fine.
I think there's like...
Well, Batman has an inherent darkness that Barney doesn't.
Yes! But Batman originally was probably aimed at a much younger crowd than some of the Batman stuff these days is.
Yeah, of course.
Hence that's the most extreme example.
No, look, let's qualify this. I'm not saying that... films for children should be good and you should still be able to enjoy them as an adult.
Yeah.
Like the Paw Patrol thing is it's just impossible to enjoy if you're past a certain age. Whereas Pixar, you can still enjoy it as an adult. It's not enjoying them. If superhero films are well made, you should still be able to enjoy them as an adult. It's the obsession with them. It's the fact that that's actors that I don't know, we're in our 30s and it's healthy and normal to only go and watch MCU stuff. That's the stuff that bothers me.
Right.
It's not that you can't go and enjoy those films as an adult. It just seems to it used to be 15-year-olds were obsessed with Iron Man, and now it's 25-year-olds.
But that's the thing. Those 15-year-olds became those 25-year-olds. I think that's genuinely why the bar is moving. Is because in a lot of instances, the people that are going to see the MCU films now in their 30s and 40s grew up reading the comics. And now the films have been going long enough that they grew up watching those films. And so they want to keep the stuff from their childhood and they want to make it so that they can watch it now. It's okay to watch
I don't agree with the idea that they grew up, the ones in their 40s grew up reading the comics. I just don't think comics were that... They weren't as that popular... to account for how popular the films are.
All right, well, they grew up watching the cartoons then or something. I mean, the X-Men 97 cartoons are getting a revival, isn't it?
I don't know, is it?
Yeah, I think they're bringing back X-Men 97.
Yeah, it's not... I agree that a lot of the people that love MCU now grew up with Iron Man, but they didn't grow up. Do you know what I mean?
They got older.
You just but they didn't grow up. They just held on to it.
Yeah.
You just hold on to... Do you really think in the 80s and 90s, 12-year-olds went to see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they were still doing that when they were 25? Absolutely not.
No, because they were doing that when they were 25 in the noughties, when the Teenage Mutant Michael Bay films were coming out. And it was it's... people can go see that.
What do you mean now? I'm confused. I'm talking about how our generation is unique in this sense.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And I think one of the things that makes it unique is that we...
didn't let go of our childhood.
Exactly. We consumed this media when we were younger, and now we're in a position where we're in charge of that media, and we want to be able to consume that media now, be it without shame, or be it, in a different context, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
We want to still be able to consume that media, and so it's being morphed into something that's more...
We're not disagreeing here. I'm just curious to whether you think that's a neutral thing, a bad thing, or a good thing. Because I think it's a bad thing.
No, broadly speaking, I think that it's a bad thing because it's still, in most instances, it's still the same thing.
Yeah.
That media is not becoming more mature to match the maturity of its audience.
I can.
As I say, it remains to be seen if that's what Barbie's going to do. Whether this is going to be a mature Barbie film or not.
Well, it's 12A. It's 12A.
It's 12A. But I mean, these Transformers films are PG-12A, and they're certainly not mature Transformers media.
No, they're not. This I concur with your analysis of why people are doing that. I don't want to let go of the child. Yeah, that's my only point. Is do you think? I don't think previous generations did that.
No, I don't think they did.
To the same extent that our generation has. And that's the shame of it. It's, in the 80s, again, going to see, films aimed at 12-year-olds. They weren't still obsessing over those things when they were in their 20s.
Yeah.
But now that is the case.
Yeah.
And I think that's a shame. Anyway, back to Transformers.
Yeah.
As usual, the characters adjust too quickly to their circumstances and to the stakes. That scene where... Is it Noah, you said? Where he's talking with the Spanish Transformer is
weird.
Kidney putrefyingly unfunny.
Okay. It's strange because that character... I think Wheeljack is the name of that character.
Right. Wheeljack.
And he was in... The Wheeljack that I know looks nothing like that character.
Right.
And he acts nothing like that character. But that character model existed in Bumblebee. It was in the fight scene on Cybertron. Mm-hmm. I don't think he was... Because I think most of the characters haven't been named. Like Megatron... I don't even know if Megatron's been in these films yet. But like Starscream was in Bumblebee and Soundwave and all these... But like they're never named because they're just background characters, basically. But yeah, Wheeljack was on Cybertron as Wheeljack. And now on Earth, it's this completely different...
Yeah.
Like this completely other character that they've just called Wheeljack and made Hispanic... Maybe almost entirely for that scene, because I don't know what else it plays into.
It's such an awkward scene.
Yeah.
Again, him trying to be funny. It's like, he says something to him in Spanish, and he's like, what? And then it cuts back to him supposed to be reacting a bit awkward and confused. And it's just like they edited it wrong.
Yeah.
It's like he forgot his line. He's like, oh, I just... And it's like, was that supposed to be the...
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I what was that meant to be?
Well, I think he's pushing him for information because he's like, well, hang on.
Yeah.
You're speaking with an accent. So does that mean that, like, because you're not from this planet, so how come you're speaking with an accent?
Yeah, and he's like, what does that mean? And he's like, oh, I was, yeah.
Well, no, the robot calls him racist.
Yeah, at the end of it, the
robot's like,
racist.
That's racist, bro. And I'm like, no, hang on. He's asking you.
Yeah.
I genuinely want to know why you're speaking with an accent.
Yeah.
Again, is this a cultural thing you've picked up?
Well, it's...
Or is there some, like, facsimile of this on Cybertron where there's, like, regional dialects or accents or whatnot, and on Earth you found that Hispanic is the one that most closely aligns with it?
So even their accents are the same as ours?
I don't know.
No, they're not.
Because because the robot didn't take the time to explain it. He just called him racist.
I know. And he's like, how can it be racist if you're not even like from the planet? But I don't know, just the scene is just so... Forget about trying to understand why he has a Spanish accent. It was just so stilted and like awkward and weird.
Yeah, it wasn't well.
You know what I mean? It was just, unengaging story, unexciting.
Yeah.
And G.I. Joe. Fuck you.
Yeah, that was a... Because they probably pulled the rug from under us with that. Because when it was happening, you were like, oh, this is fucking Sector 7 or whatever.
Yeah.
And there were actually... That was a reshoot. They shot that scene... Oh,
God, really?
With the Sector 7 stuff. And then they reshot it with G.I. Joe.
When they had the rights.
When they had the rights. No, I think they shot it at the same time because they didn't know if they were going to secure the rights in time. But it is going to happen. This is another cinematic universe that's definitely going to happen.
Right.
Like that Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe that definitely happened.
Yes.
And that Dark Universe that definitely happened.
Yeah.
We're definitely getting G.I. Joe. There's no G.I. Joe media at the moment. It just hasn't existed for like... When was the last G.I. Joe film?
I don't know.
20 years ago?
No.
It wasn't 20 years ago. But
oh, I see what you do. Okay.
I don't actually know when it was. It was probably...
It was the sequel to that, like, Rise of... I don't know.
Early 10s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that. Do we need G.I. Joe? What is G.I. Joe? I basically don't know anything about it.
No, this is a conversation I don't want to be a part of.
No. But, I mean, I don't know what it is. It just seems like run-of-the-mill. It's like Action Man. It's like, it doesn't have personality. It's just...
All I really know about G.I. Joe is just, like, vague... Oh, that's a thing in culture that exists. And whatever that Community episode was about.
Can't remember. The one thing that threw me is I thought G.I. Joe was the main guy. It was like Action Man.
Yeah.
G.I. Joe. Like, his name is Joe and he's a G.I.
Yeah.
And then it turns out, no, the organization is called G.I. Joe.
Yes.
That I don't... But I was thinking, is that a backronym kind of thing? Where, no, it is originally, because it's from the 60s or whatever, it's an action guy called G.I. Joe. But now we think that's a bit silly. But it's sillier to call the organisation that. Because it's still G.I.Joe. It's not all dot... what's that supposed to mean?
It's very possible that what you said is true. It could also not be the case. I don't know.
Yeah, let's just leave it.
It's just like, I don't know. Like, so what does this mean? Does this mean that in the next film, G.I. Joe's going to team up with the Autobots to fight Megatron. Who might
Could Sector
finally turn
7, could essentially just Sector 7 becomes replaced by G.I. Joe?
Yeah.
So it's all that stuff, like the agents that know about Transformers, but you also get their agents are action heroes that take on Cobra.
Is Optimus Prime going to show up in the G.I. Joe movie to mercilessly gun down Cobra operatives?
Probably. That's probably what's... Yeah,
Are Cobra going to team up with the Decepticons, or does everyone team up
Cobra are going to have big ships. Because the one thing I haven't seen any of the new G.I. Joe...
They're going to have a big ship that's going to end up being a Decepticon.
Yeah, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like G.I. Joe, the Channing Tatum films, the recent ones.
Yeah.
I haven't seen them. But my memory of the imagery from the trailers and everything is a lot of like metal, a lot like suits and planes and all that kind of thing. So yeah, it's vaguely, it's related to commuting. so it's transport adjacent or transport involved. So yeah, like if Cobra and G.I. Joe have big fucking like metal zeppelins and planes, that kind of fits in with Transformers. So they can exist in the same universe. Okay. So fuck it. Let's do that.
Oh, joy.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
So those are the negatives.
Okay.
And then a final perverse positive. It's not as visually confusing, crass, gratuitous, or long as the other ones. But I would say 2 of those are actually a problem. If it was a bit more crass and gratuitous, it'd be more enjoyable.
It would be.
But it's not as confusing, and it's not as long. So
no.
Fine.
I still missed...
I didn't miss Michael Bay. No, I didn't.
I didn't miss Michael Bay. I missed the few positives that come with that Michael Bay style.
I'll only ever miss Michael Bay if I misfire. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I don't miss it, but like if it was more like the first one, that'd be something. But yeah. Okay, well that was Transformers.
Okay.
Season 4 of Succession. The final season. Indeed. What's it about, George?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, that's not fair.
Why?
Because it's the 4th season of a show where many things have been happening. You can't do that to me.
I just want you to give the basic premise of the show. Like the premise you give before the show started.
Oh my god. Right, okay. Yes, because we haven't actually reviewed. The only time Succession has been brought up is you gave season 3 a place in your top 10
of the
year
top
at one
10.
point.
Yeah.
Quite high up from what I remember.
Yeah, it was like 4th, something like that.
Yeah. Which I can kind of see now.
Yeah.
Yes, we've never mentioned it before, but yeah, Succession is a show. There's this company called Waystar Royco, and it's run by this originally Scottish, but American businessman called Logan Roy. And he has 4 kids. The oldest one is kind of like, he's about, but he's not really part of the company. You've got the next one, which is often mistaken to be the oldest one, Kendall, who's kind of the like
heir apparent
of the company. It's like, he'll probably end up running, but he's got his own problems that like he needs to reconcile. You've got the daughter, Shiv, who's at the beginning not part of the company because
she's a political consultant.
She's a political consultant for left-leaning parties, which is the total opposite of the ethos of her father's company.
They're very much modelled after Fox.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah, this company is like an American media titan. So they have
ships, cruises, and parks.
Yeah, ships, cruises, films, all of that.
No, not ships, cruises. Cruises, entertainment and parks.
Yeah,
ships and cruises.
And then you have the youngest son, Roman, who's a bit of a wild card.
Yeah.
Bit of a guy. Says some weird things. Doesn't sit on furniture right.
Yeah, he's slightly unhinged and like works for the company, but you don't really get the sense that he's like vying for control in the beginning.
Yes. And the show is essentially Logan is coming to the end of his life. Indeed, in the first episode, he has a brain aneurysm. Who's going to take over the company?
That's the show.
That's the show, pretty much.
Who's going to take over the company? Yeah.
That kind of comes back in many different ways, and there are many twists and turns.
Yeah, changing loyalties, dynamic changes. This person's now the one with the reins. Then it goes to this person. Yeah, it's a big power play. It's like Game of Thrones, but in the corporate world.
Yeah, I've also seen modern Shakespearean tragedy used in the same breath as Succession.
Definitely Shakespearean. Yeah.
Yeah, the king of the castle. and the scheming children. And yeah, tonally as well, I think, because it's got this very particular mixture of drama and comedy and tragedy as well.
Right.
Like as time goes on, as more and more so. But it's one of those shows where I think a lot of people say like it is a drama, but it's like one of the funniest shows on television as well.
Yeah, it's in the mold of, it's more dramatic, because what I'm about to say, the work's more overtly comedic, but it's kind of in the same school as Veep and The Thick of It and In the Loop.
Cinema verite.
And Four Lions. Yeah, kind of cinema verite, documentary style, very witty, fast-paced dialogue.
Yeah.
Characters that are shits.
Yes.
That, like, you don't really like any of them, but you kind of do, and yeah.
Yeah, they're all kind of questionable, people of questionable morals.
Yes, and this is a more dramatic version of those things.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so that's the show, essentially. So we're just going to be reviewing season 4, because there's too much to review.
Yes.
Otherwise. We'll come back to the show as a whole, but...
Well, I'll say this about the show.
Yeah.
You got the first season.
Yeah.
Which I think is the hurdle for most people, right?
The first half, yeah.
The first half of the first season. It's not bad.
No, it's not bad at all.
Like, going back to it...
It just hasn't hit peak.
Yeah, going back to it as well, it's like, oh, yeah, this isn't bad content. It's not like BoJack.
No.
Where those...
Or The Office or Parks and Rec.
Yeah, where the first couple of episodes is like, well, this just isn't the thing that it becomes at all.
Yeah.
It is Succession from the start.
Yes.
But...
It's not firing on all cylinders from the start.
Everyone that I've spoken to, myself included, it took me until like episode 5 or 6 to realise I was actually enjoying myself. But like,
myself included, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, you as well.
Yeah.
My parents have started watching the show recently, and like for most of season 1, my mother was like, I don't know, like, should I watch it? And I was like, yeah, stick with it.
Yeah.
And now they like love it. They're like, genuinely in love with it. And I think that's a hurdle that a lot of people... I don't quite know why, but it does seem to be the hurdle everybody has to conquer.
I think it's because, well, A, they're unlikable. So it's hard to know where to get a foothold on, okay, who am I rooting for? And then the turning point of the first season where Kendall tries to usurp his father.
Yes.
It starts to get real dramatic stakes.
Yeah.
So I think that's when people kind of like, oh, okay, these things are happening.
Yeah.
Whereas before that, it's kind of this slice of life of these uber-rich, quite unpleasant people.
Yeah, because with Logan out of the picture fairly early on as well, you get the sense that like, oh, power will shift naturally.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess this will just be about them being overwhelmed by it, but then Logan sort of comes back into play, which nobody expects, and thus kicks off like the dramatic heart of the show, which is Logan versus his kids. Yeah. Or some of his kids and Logan versus other kids.
So and then the second half of the first season is a vast improvement.
Yes.
And then the second season, it kind of becomes what the show is then.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, again for me, the end of the second season is when they realised they really liked it.
Yeah.
But I would say the second season, all of it is great. It's a great unit of television.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Third season as well, can't be denied.
Third
season is really, really good. So that's where we found ourselves going to season 4. It's like, right, first season was good, second season and third season were great.
Yeah.
Can they sustain this?
Yes.
10 more episodes. Can they wrap this up?
Can it end? Yeah.
Can it end?
Yeah, that was the main concern.
Yeah, you and I remember having that conversation where you were like, mark the date. This is before Succession Series 4 began.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to end it.
Yes.
Or if it can end well.
Yes.
That's the mindset that we went into season 4.
That was the main concern with trust that it would still be fun and good. But Jesse Armstrong, the showrunner, head writer, he has no track record with drama, really. No. Well, at all. The most notable thing he's done other than this is Peep Show.
Yes.
Which very deliberately doesn't really have an ending.
Yeah.
And you kind of pick up watching this show and Peep Show, his worldview seems to be that things don't really change.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of difficult to know, well, how does this end then? So that was a concern going in. So there are 10 episodes. We're going to kind of review it quite systematically.
Okay.
But there are 10 dense hours here, and they are at least an hour, pretty much all of them.
Yes.
Of ever-changing interpersonal relationships, power dynamics, dialogue, detail. We could do hour-long reviews of every episode, is the truth of it.
Oh, God, yeah. We could have done this week by week if we wanted.
We could have done it, yeah.
I mean, we couldn't have because we don't release that often.
No, but we easily could have done it.
The point is, yeah.
We could have done a podcast about Succession, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
So some of the episodes will skip over a lot of things, but that doesn't say anything about their quality. Every episode is excellent. Every last one. We just have to consider the largest shape for your sanity and for our sanity. And we can't keep premising and contextualizing. So I'll say it now, like I did with Mrs. Davis. Watch it. Watch it, watch it, watch it, watch it.
Yeah.
Okay? And I think this review is better experienced having watched it. Yeah. Because at some point we're just going to be listing things we like.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Right, episodes 1 and 2.
Yeah, they're definitely best considered together, aren't they?
Yes, I think so.
In hindsight.
In hindsight. So the season overall has a day-to-day structure where each episode takes place over 1 or 2 days.
Yeah. All seem to be taking place very close to each other.
Oh, no, literally following each day.
Yeah.
This day, then the next, and the next, and the next. Sometimes, like when they, the fifth episode, it's an overnight thing, so it's the next day. But basically, it's a week or 2.
Yeah.
And considering that months would occasionally transpire between episodes, this is interesting.
Yeah.
And it's tension-filled. So the season begins with another of Logan's birthdays, harkening back to the pilot. The pilot is a birthday. We experience the joy of the siblings all on the same side.
Yes.
These first 2 episodes are a masterclass in red herringdom.
Oh, you're going straight for it, are you?
So they have a new enterprise together called the 100. They make a deal to acquire PGN.
Well, that's the thing. Their initial plan is they're all out, right? Because that was the big.
Yeah. So we should say this at the end of season 3, for the first time, really, the 3 central siblings are allied against their father, who's royally fucked them over.
Yeah.
And season 4 finds them having left the company, trying to start their own.
Yeah. Well,
venture.
he's basically, because they tried to phase Logan out of the company.
Yeah.
Their plan was to kind of overpower him, basically, with their shares.
Mm-hmm.
So what Logan ended up doing, because he was warned ahead of time by Shiv's husband, Tom, he diluted their shares to the point where they basically had no power.
Yes.
So now they've kind of left the company. They are undertaking their own operation, which is the 100. But they find out that Logan is interested in buying PGN.
Which is a CNN to their Fox, basically.
And they decide that they want to fuck with their father a little bit.
Yes.
Sort of fly in the ointment. And so they buy PGN out from under him.
Yeah, they put in a bid that tops his.
Yeah. And that's what kind of reignites the conflict between the siblings and the father.
So, okay, we're in season 4. This is going to be the thrust. And there's the implication in the second episode of Logan becoming more active at ATN because he's selling the company. That's the other thing going into the season. He's selling the company to a Swedish tech.
Yeah, the initial plan was in series 3 was that they were going to buy the Swedish tech company.
Yes.
So that they could use their technology to kind of present their back catalogue of content.
Yeah, they have a really terrible streaming app.
Yeah, so they wanted to basically buy like their own Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Or their own Netflix, which has like competent streaming and whatnot. But through like different circumstances and finagling and whatnot, the CEO of that company, Lucas Mattsson, who's played by Alexander Skarsgård. Well, yeah, we'll go through like who plays who and the characters and all that sort of stuff as time goes on. He basically manages to increase the value of his company to the point where he's going to buy them.
Yes.
And that's why the siblings are against their father selling, because they want to run.
It's their birthright. It's their legacy.
Birthright.
Yeah.
Hence, he dilutes their shares and they get out. But then it's like, oh, you want to buy PGN? Well, we're going to fuck you over. And yes.
Now, so news was the thing that started Waystar Royco.
Yeah.
It started as a news operation that then, expanded and expanded. And that's called ATN, which is basically Fox News.
Yeah.
And the deal is that Logan is going to keep ATN and sell everything else.
Yes.
Because ATN is his baby, and he's essentially going to become the manager, and he's going to go there, and so that's what they're setting up. setting storylines that will be utterly demolished by episode 3. It was nice to see, so the head of PGN, Nan, she's introduced in season 2 in an episode where there's a cultural compatibility check between Waystar Royco and PGN. So both families meet, these media legacy families meet each other, and they're very lefty and kind of quite irritatingly so. I think even if you're not me, that's how they're meant to be portrayed.
Yeah.
And it was nice to see Nan, the head of the company, portrayed more cynically in this season. Like this apparent bastion of liberal values, concealing the fact that it's really just about the money.
Yeah. She's like, all these talk about numbers is making me feel ill. Why won't someone just say the final number?
I know, right? Literally, I've written down the quote, I don't like this. It makes me feel like I'm in the middle of a bidding war. Horrible. Different people saying different numbers. 8 and 9, what's next? And then one of the best quotes of the season, Roman says, I know it's so confusing. What comes after 9? 9B? So
it's like, we see you, Nan. We're not buying your
exactly.
bullshit.
And Roman is actually the show's go-to character for pricking the bubble of bullshit, like especially left-leaning bullshit.
Yeah.
There's a sense of melancholy and finality that hangs over proceedings. Logan has his finest scene, maybe, of the series with Colin, who's like his bodyguard, essentially. It's definitely up there, I would say.
For me, the only contender, two contenders are the ATN declaration. We are Vikings.
Yes, that's great.
Or however he says it. And
pirates,
Yeah, we are pirates.
You're fucking pirates.
Fucking pirates. Yeah. And the scene with the kids in the karaoke bar.
Yeah, of the whole show, or the season?
The season,
yeah. Yeah, so he's with his bodyguard, kind of reflecting on the nature of humanity and the possibility of an afterlife.
Yeah. Giving that bodyguard's purpose as well, like in the show, which is nice, because he's been a presence throughout the
He's there the whole time. Well, I want to kind of revisit that idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll come back to that. But again, another great quote. We don't know, we can't know, but I've got my suspicions. I've got my fucking suspicions. Yeah. Great. That's brilliant. Now, this is a good example of the possible disparity between what the showmakers think and what the show ends up saying, which is a theme that we'll come back to as well.
Okay.
I think a lot of this is inference, based on what Jesse Armstrong has said, but you can make some assumptions about his philosophy. So, I mean, sometimes he's been very direct about it, but Logan's cynical view of the world is, dare I say, accurate. Or at the very least, it's useful, right?
Logan couldn't possibly be where he is if it wasn't.
No, exactly. One of the beautiful things about this series is its openness to interpretation, I would say, which I know is something that Armstrong endorses. I would argue that Succession, broadly speaking, doesn't like these people.
No.
It's critical of their wealth and the systems in which they operate, but Logan is right. He does know things about the world. Yeah. And that I love that detail.
Not very nice things, as he says.
Indeed. Otherwise, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I love it when, Kendall says to him in season 3, you made your money from, preying on people's bodies. He's like, oh, you just figured that out, did you?
Yeah.
That's what I do. Okay, so Alan Ruck finally gets his moment in the sun with episode 2.
The eldest son.
The eldest son, Connor, who, very much, in the show and with the characters of the show, is like an afterthought.
Yeah, a running joke.
Running joke, yeah, because he's not involved in the company. He lives a bit of a hippie life out in the desert. He has a call girl that he's kind of paying to be his life partner.
Yeah.
Up to this point, he's proposed to her. They're on the cusp of being married.
And his big, I'm going to do something with my life moment is he decides to become president of the United States.
With no qualifications.
No qualifications,
whatsoever.
No prerequisites, no nothing. I'm going to run for president. I'm going to be the president.
Right. And he's running as an independent candidate who's anti-tax.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, there's a lot of stuff there. But again, another great... So in this episode 2, again, he's kind of cut out from proceedings, and at his rehearsal dinner, his soon-to-be wife walks out and kind of leaves him floundering, and then he says to his siblings, I don't need love, it's like a superpower, which is his final,
Yeah.
I rooted for Connor and Willa. I really did.
Yeah.
I was led to believe they'd reached something real, but then to jump ahead, the finale refuted this somewhat.
It kind of throws a spanner in the works.
Well, it
some
suggests,
ambiguity into the...
It does. It will suggest that the uncomfortable imbalance in their relationship would persist.
Yeah.
But anyway, And then the prophetic utterance that informs everything that follows from Logan: I love you, but you are not serious people. I think that is the central line of definitely the season, maybe the show. So episode 3.
Go on. Oh, go on then.
Connor's wedding.
Again, we went into season 4 being like, oh, I really hope they can pull this off.
Yes.
Watched episode 1. Yeah, all right. Still feels
Good
like
start.
Succession.
Okay.
Watched episode 2. Oh, that's nice. That
Connor's getting his moment.
Yeah, that they were, and that, you know, with as little time as they've got left, they were able to have an episode that felt like it was spending time with a character and giving a character his due, rather than focusing on motoring towards the finale.
Yes. So it cultivated the impression that it would be taking its time and resolving things nice and slowly, and this character gets their moment, this character... Yeah. So episode 3, Connor's wedding. Let's just say the most striking comparison is the Reigns of Castamere.
Sure.
Which is... It's a Game of Thrones episode... where what is known as the Red Wedding unfolds, where a bunch of the central characters and the heroes of the show are killed in one fell swoop.
I see.
And anyone familiar with the books, it's the most famous, the Red Wedding, and the episode is called the Reigns of Castamere because it couldn't be called the Red Wedding.
Okay.
And this is called Connor's wedding.
Because it can't be called...
Because it can't be called Logan Dies.
Yes. It really is a fucking...
Oh, it really is.
Because genuinely, right, you've got the prologue, because at the end of the second episode, he has that conversation in the karaoke bar with his kids.
Yeah.
Shiv's having none of it. Kendall's having none of it.
No.
Connor's always kind of been pro-Logan, so he's a bit sad that of what's happening.
Yeah.
But Roman seems to be like... It seems to resonate with Roman a bit. Mm-hmm. So at the very end of the episode, he kind of goes to Logan, and Logan's like, you're my boy.
Yeah.
I'm going to need you in this fight. So it's like, okay, this is the first crack in the unit of the siblings.
Yes, and as for the most part in the show, if there's been a villainous child, it's been him. He's the shit, and he's terrified of Logan. So he's the easiest. Yeah, you'd think. Yeah, he's the obvious choice for he's going to fuck things up for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So Logan calls him at the beginning of the third episode, and he's like, I want you to fire Jerry for me, which is a character.
Yes.
I just realised how much this all depends on what came before.
I know.
Jerry and Roman they've had a thing.
Yeah, they have a weird connection. It is a sexual connection, but really on his part.
Yes,
and you don't really know why she's doing it. Maybe it's to have leverage over him. You never really know. But she's kind of a mentor to him.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And Logan is aware of this.
Yeah,
and he's clearly exploiting it and exploiting Roman.
Testing.
Ultimately testing to see whether he does have his loyalty. So Roman is on the way to the wedding, and he's told by Logan, you have to do this thing for me, basically. Mm-hmm. And then he says to Tom, who's kind of like...
Tom is basically... He's the kind of the head of the news network at this point.
Well,
no, it's a weird... I'm not sure. It's a weird disparity.
He's not the head honcho.
Let's say he's the vice president of news.
Yes. Yeah. And Logan basically says to him, "I'm going to get rid of the head honcho.
I'm the president today.
Opens the position up for you."
Yes.
And you're like, okay, that's what this episode's going to be. It's going to be Connor's wedding, and then it's going to be this turmoil of the fact that they're getting rid of these like powerful, influential women in the company.
And again, the fact that we've seen Connor have his moment is like, well, this will be Jerry's episode.
Yes.
And Sid, the president, her, again, a fantastic red herring.
Little did we know that when Logan tells Tom this, as he's climbing the stairs of the aeroplane, this would be the last time we see Logan Roy alive.
Well, it's such a...
Because he doesn't even have, like, in hindsight as well, he doesn't have, like, this poetic resonant line.
In hindsight, it's the scene with Colin.
Yeah. Like, literally, the last words of Logan Roy that we know, it's just, like... He just says he's going to fire someone.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no meaning to it.
Yeah, there's no poetry to it at all.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I really love about it, and I love about the season in general, is that it, as seasoned veterans of watching television, you come to learn the ebbs and flows and, when things are going to happen. And so, yes, killing off the guy in episode 3 of your final season is surprising.
Yeah.
But not just that. It's surprising because, again, these characters are having their moments, these final moments. It is matching our expectations that things are being resolved piece by piece because it's the final season of a show.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it even more clever and makes it even more shocking.
I kind of alluded to it in the last episode, didn't I? I can't remember specifically what we were talking about. But I kind of said, if a show... I think we were just talking about, like, twists, and, like, you can always kind of tell who the killer is in a murder mystery.
Yes.
You can always kind of tell what... Like, when a show tells you it's going to do something, it has no intention of doing the thing.
No.
Because it wants you to believe something else.
No. And things like if a show introduces... If it has, like, villains of the season... You can pretty much expect they're going to be in the finale, or at least the penultimate episode.
Yeah,
like John Lithgow was never going to die in episode 2 of season 4.
No, exactly.
But they sort of have done the equivalent of that, kind of,
Yeah, well, that's what makes it all the more surprising.
Yeah.
I think all of these red herrings it throws at you, where Logan says, "I'm going to take over ATN and turn it into this monster." They say they're going to fire Jerry, and they say the siblings are going to fight Ro. And I think all of that that doesn't matter in the wake of, well, they're not going to kill Logan.
Yeah.
If they're going to kill Logan, it's going to be at the end. They're not going to kill him randomly and without ceremony.
Yeah, I never thought he would die in the finale.
No.
But I thought maybe the 8th episode.
Yeah.
A couple of episodes deal with the fallout.
Yeah.
Right? But no, and another genius thing is the structure of it, which is him and Tom getting onto the plane, heading off to meet Mattson. And Tom kind of sums it up, goes, okay, so we're getting rid of Jerry and Sid, all in a day's work, credits.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I know the premise of the episode. And then we get the episode.
Yeah.
So thus far, unlikely, unchallenged. It's the best episode of television this year.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Though 9 offers competition. I like that Willa's mother is approving of Connor. It wasn't that like, oh God, he's taking my daughter. He's a rich guy taking her for... She actually likes
a rich guy that's much older than her.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have that little moment, don't they, where they're talking about all the the young people there drinking the wine.
Scoffing at the rich people.
people. And he's like, yeah, Scrooge was like a big wealth maker.
Creator, yeah.
Yeah, they don't mention that, do they? And she's like, yeah, it's funny.
No, they don't, yeah.
And it doesn't feel like the show is casting judgment on them in that moment. It's just letting them have their say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think she just knows that he will actually look after her. She senses he does actually love her.
Oh,
That's the thing about the relationship. She's not a trophy wife.
No.
He does actually really love her.
Yeah.
It's whether that's reciprocated.
Well, his proposition to her in terms of I want you to be my life partner. I want you to, is basically he says, why don't you continue living with me and hopefully you'll fall in love with me.
Yeah.
That's his proposal. It's not like,
it's pathetic,
you do this thing for me.
Yeah.
It's, I really want this. Will you allow it to maybe happening?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know he's in love with her. And
Yeah.
he has a moment of cynicism where he has to do certain things for his campaign and look a certain way. But he does actually exude a kind of warmth, even when he's being, his most kind of Machiavellian.
Which is why it's all the more gutting than there is that kind of final stab of ambiguity.
Punch.
It's like, in this show in particular, just one thing.
Just one.
Just one thing that's real.
It feeds back to nothing people don't change. And that's but which we'll definitely come back to.
All right.
The ensemble is fantastic across the board in general, but in this episode in particular. It's marvelously directed, sublimely written. It doesn't stop being Succession, but that suspension of witty, colourful dialogue for broken ums, ahs, and confusions is a masterstroke.
It's interesting because the show still kind of has that throughout. Because it's a show where pretty much everyone, with the exception of Logan and maybe one or two other characters, they don't speak with the courage of their convictions.
No, that's true.
Logan says...
They're always working out
exactly
where they are in the conversation.
Logan is like, I want to buy this thing now.
Fuck off.
Yeah. Fuck off and buy this thing for me. And literally every other character will be like, are we sure that's... Because that...
that could be cool. But if you didn't, whatever.
Because no one can say no to him.
Or to each other, because they're all trying to figure each other out all the time.
Exactly.
So it's non-committal. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is this kind of non-committal, shorthand that everybody speaks in, but it does have a very unique flavor in that episode. I think everything about Succession really feels like it comes into its own in that episode.
Yeah.
The presentation of the show, which we've already kind of alluded to, it's sort of directorial, documentary-esque, kind of being presented as though it's being shot in real time.
Yeah.
I mean, in that episode in particular, it really comes into its own. I watched like a piece with Mark Mylod, who was the director for that episode, and he said that like he was very hands off in terms of directing, so he kind of cultivated the scene in a way that would kind of direct the actors for him.
Yes.
So
yes.
For example, they're on a cruise ship, although they're on a boat.
Yeah, a yacht. Yeah,
a yacht. And in the area where they kind of find out, in the waiting area where they find out about his death, there's a bar that kind of comes off of that waiting area. And so he put extras in the bar so the characters would be discouraged from going over there.
Yeah.
There's a moment where Kendall has to go find Shiv because Shiv is not in the room when they have that phone call.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeremy Strong, the actor who played Kendall, genuinely didn't know where Shiv was.
Yeah.
The director didn't tell him.
Go look for her.
So he had to literally go look for her.
Yeah.
And it's just those moments where I feel like in the past I've kind of, you and me both, but certainly me, we've been critical of they did it for real stuff.
Okay.
In terms of acting. I think a big one is when he ate the raw liver in The Revenant.
Oh, not critical of it. Critical when it's a story.
Well, that's the thing, yeah.
Yeah.
When it's put in the context of like, oh my god, he ate that raw liver for real, and it's like, well, he wasn't acting then.
No,
it's not that. It's not as impressive as you're framing it.
Absolutely, yeah. And the only reason that stuff gets out there is because it bolsters the chance of winning an award.
Yeah. Did you know that Leonardo DiCaprio doesn't like raw liver, but he ate raw liver anyway for The Revenant?
Well, I'd be gagging as well.
Yeah, well, I would. Yeah, exactly. It's like, that's not acting. He's literally throwing up because it's disgusting.
I mean, he's supposed to be impressed by the commitment, not necessarily the acting skills, but like, oh, he did that.
But it's framed as look at his commitment to the performance.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
But this is a good example of it being done well, where it's being used as a tool to enhance the performance.
Yeah, well, it's very it's theatery, this episode, and there's a space and things play out in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't remember which actor it was said it's weird. No, do you know what? It was actually Tom Hanks talking about Captain Phillips, but I know this applies to this as well. He said it's bizarre not having to figure out where my placement is. What do they call it? Mark.
Yeah, Mark.
I'm not with Paul Greengrass because the way he directs, there's no mark.
Yeah.
They say to the camera people, right, keep up with them. Yeah. And that's how they do it in Succession as well. It feels like.
Yeah. Well, definitely in that episode.
Because
I think it was that scene, even though it isn't presented in real time. Mm-hmm. They shot it in real time and it plays out basically in real time, even though there's cutting and everything.
Yeah.
And they said they hid cartridges of film around the set so they could reload. And yeah, just like when you hear that, things like that, it's like, oh god, these are people that like know what they're doing.
Mark Mylod, author of Ali G in the House.
Well, that's the thing.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, it's like, oh, the writer for Peep Show.
Yeah, which is
and
really
the director
good.
Of Ali, the director of Ali G in the House.
Yeah,
would both be responsible for one of the most emotional
hours of drama,
draining hours of drama on television. But my god, were they?
My lord, were they?
My lord, were they?
Yeah, and just the way the kids react, there are different nuances. Like Roman's in denial.
Yeah,
Shiv is just devastated.
Yeah,
and Kendall is kind of stressed out. He's like,
he sort of goes into crisis mode.
Crisis management. Yeah. Tom's restraint. Matthew McFadden.
Yeah. And then Connor's whole little just like, oh man, you never even loved me.
Yeah, just a gut reaction, not trying to put anything on, like he didn't even like me. And then he instantly corrects himself. No, he did. It's fine. As much as I dislike Shiv in general, her reaction was the most heartbreaking I found.
Oh god, yeah. That like little
daddy.
Daddy is like, fuck.
It's just, and they said this, the reality of death. It's not poetic. There's no big final line.
Yeah.
They're not with him. It's all through like broken phone calls and sudden non-cinematic, and the music as well for this episode. The music in general is great, but when it swells when they leave for the airport, that was like goosebumps kind of music. A lot of goosebumps from the music in this season.
Oh yeah.
I think it was just nice in that episode to see every character's reaction, from the kids obviously down to Kerry to Colin. Just the little glance at the plane. He's utterly he doesn't really know what to do with himself. It's a little beat, but it's there. And it's what you talked about earlier. It's nice to see the assistants getting their moments.
Yeah.
In this season in general, and of course Jess in episode 9. When she.
Her whole moment. Yeah, because there were these people that you see them wandering about in the background of some scenes, and you don't realize certainly until season 4, their kind of significance.
And they've been there the whole time.
Yeah, and Colin's been important. Like, he's Logan's
Covered up
guy.
Kendall's, the death of the,
Yeah, in season 1. He is an extension of Logan.
Yeah, he knows everything.
He knows everything. Yeah. He is Logan's guy. And for the show to have that moment where Logan kind of acknowledges that.
Yeah, your man.
And the show acknowledges
friend,
that.
Yeah.
It's like, it's nice that, like, because that's the thing with Succession, is that I don't know how deliberate it is. Whether, there are certain characters where it feels like they had this idea for them, but the show kind of went off in a different direction and left them behind. Like Kendall's ex-wife.
Right.
Rava, who's like a big part of series 1.
Yeah, she's in the main cast.
She's in the main cast, and then she kind of disappears for a while.
Yes.
Kendall's kids never really seem to become
a
big deal.
But yes, but by design, I would say that.
Yeah, but it's I would maybe expect more from Kendall's kids, but it just never happens.
There's a guy in the main cast in season 1 that you wouldn't know if I showed it to you. There's a black guy that's just around a bit in season 1.
Right, okay.
That you wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
He's kind of in the vague entourage of Kendall and Frank, and he's just like with them.
Right, okay.
He barely has any dialogue. He's in the main cast.
Yeah. But again, like Sandy as well.
Which one?
Well, the first Sandy. Yeah. Main villain of series 1 and 2. That's the whole show is orbiting around him and his plans
trying to take over,
and everything like that. And then all of a sudden he shows up a vegetable.
Yeah.
And he's sidelined for his daughter, and it's like, it's weird that like they did that.
Yeah, it was like life, it's not it's not all building towards something.
No, but my point,
except one thing.
Yeah. Well, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess my point was you've got these characters that kind of exist on the fringe of the show.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to know sometimes whether they're there just for flavour or whether they were meant to be something and they just kind of ended up staying.
Yeah.
And Colin is kind of that for a while, where it's like, yeah, I don't know whether he was supposed to be a bigger part of this and just never ended up filling that position. Jess as well, even though she does have her moment in the season and you do see her a lot throughout the show. Yeah, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I think I've seen her before.
And she's there from the beginning. She's always with Kendall,
Well, again, when my parents were rewatching it and Colin would show up for like a second in the background, they'd be like, who's that guy? It's like, oh, that's an important guy.
Yeah, exactly. Anything else to say about that episode?
I mean, a lot of these episodes are just kind of, they deserve to be seen.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, this isn't, unfortunately, this isn't an episode where you can, it's an Ozymandias. You can't watch it in isolation.
The build-up is required, yes.
The build-up is required, but my God, once you have that...
This is one of those, I would say, arguably the better form of greatest episode ever, whereas it's not the one that's different. It's not the Buffy episode where all the things... It's only great because of everything that came before it.
Yes.
And that's just more rewarding, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Honeymoon States and Kill List, episodes 4 and 5.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of in the immediate aftermath of his death. They've all gathered in his apartment, and a will is discovered, sort of. Some wishes.
Last wishes, yeah.
That's such a brilliant idea, that piece of paper. It's such an interesting ambiguity. Basically, he's written that he wants Kendall to take over, but it's unclear when he wrote it.
It's unclear when he wrote it, and also there's a line.
Yes, which may be an underline.
But it also might be crossing out the name.
Yeah.
And because of everything that's come before, we genuinely don't know whether he would have wanted, whether it's like a confirmation that he wants Kendall, or whether he's scrubbing him from the will.
Because you know full well that he has believed that Kendall has stabbed him in the back.
Yeah.
Hates his guts.
Yeah.
But also probably admires him. And when he says in season 3, the luck you're going to say.
Yeah, that final shot in season 2, where it's like, he's fucked me, but that's my boy.
That's my boy.
Yeah.
You're my number one boy.
Yeah.
And in season 3, where he says to Adrian Brody, he's probably the best of them. And that's, again, a brilliant up for interpretation ambiguity. You don't know whether he's saying it just to keep things smooth, or whether he believes it. I think he believes it. I do think he believes it. I think he fucking hates Kendall and knows that, well, he might be, he might be the one.
If it's going to be any of them.
If it's going to be any of them, it's going to be him. Yeah. So it's an interesting ambiguity, as well as Kendall's reaction to it.
Yeah.
So at the end of the episode, he kind of... the idea has been floated. We do keep premising, Burrows, you have to. The idea has been floated by the kind of PR team that we can throw Logan under the bus. Because Kendall and Roman take over as CEOs. we can throw him under the bus and say that you were controlling everything the whole time. And they were like, well, let's not fucking dirty my father now he's gone, so fuck off. And then Kendall goes into the bathroom, has another look at the writing.
Well, I think a crucial detail as well, beyond the underline, is that it's the first time in the show we see Kendall's full name.
Kendall Logan Roy.
Kendall Logan Roy.
Yes. And then he immediately leaves and confronts one of the PR people and says, yeah, let's go with that dirty approach. Do not tell Roman or anybody else. I have leverage over you and I'll use it. And the end of the episode. So it's like, did he do that because he's like, fuck you, dad? Or because he's like, oh, this is what my dad would do and I want to be like my dad?
Exactly.
It's just brilliant. I like that they revisit Frank's parental relationship with Kendall a little bit, that episode. I really like the moment with Stewie where they hug. That felt like a genuine moment.
Yeah, and like when he's pleading with Stewie to like help him get into the top position, and Stewie's like, "Well, what's in it for me?" And he's like, "Well, how about you just do a favor for your best friend
on the day after his father died?"
Yeah,
and that's obviously that's why he did it, you know.
Yeah,
but again, you think that's why he did it, and then Frank said when he endorses it, and Frank says, "Oh, so you can puppet master them." He's like, "Me, Frank." No. So it's like they're all just fucking horrible, but you end up liking them.
Yeah.
Right, there's a line with Stephen Root.
Oh yeah,
is there? He's kind of like he's a conservative. He's in politics. He's conservative, and he gives a little speech in the apartment about Logan's legacy, and then Connor says to the other kids, he's trying to make Pop into a neoconservative. He wasn't a neocon. He was a paleo-libertarian. He was practically an anarcho-capitalist. Now, if you don't follow politics or the media, so much of this show will go over your head.
Yeah.
It's interesting that people that don't follow it still like it.
Yeah.
Because it's so dense.
I think that it's one of those shows where it's great if you can follow it.
Yeah.
It's great if you can keep up with it. But I think even if you can't, it's funny enough.
Yeah.
And the characters are interesting enough that will be enough for you.
Yeah. I mean, like, people I've shown it to, like my mother, who I thought, it's a bit of a risk. I don't know if she's going to... By the end, we were watching it week to week like you and I were. And it was like, oh, is there another one? No, gotta wait a week. Oh, what?
Yeah.
It's because it's still like, it has that soapy thing of who's going to be the boss.
Yeah,
yeah. You know, and Tom and Shiv, their marriage, which we'll get to.
Yeah, Tom and Greg.
Yeah. Yeah.
Greg was an interesting one this season. I know we haven't really brought him up because he is kind of ancillary until like the second half. But yeah, it's interesting that he kind of went from, even towards the end of series 3 when he was trying to date the princess and...
Yeah. Again, you think something's going to come of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But when he's like dating those two women, or he's trying to, and Tom kind of pulls him into his scheme.
Yeah.
Like even at that point, there's an innocence to Greg, you know, the man who's suing Greenpeace.
Yes.
And it says something that the man who's suing Greenpeace is like the most innocent character in the show.
Yeah. He's your entryway.
He is your, at the beginning at least, he's the guy that sits on the side going, this is all a bit, are we sure we should be doing this? I don't feel like this is right.
Even in the first episode of season 4, when he has a liaison with a girl in Logan's apartment, and it turns out it's on CCTV, and Logan berates him. You don't see it, but Logan berates him, but like with a fondness, like, you kid, you know.
Yeah.
But then like, when Logan, they're all sitting in the room waiting for the PGN deal to come through, and Logan's like, come on, roast me. And everyone's like so reticent to do it. And then Greg just kind of goes, you're mean. You're really mean, and I'm terrified of you. And I don't want to say, but like, you're really horrible. It's like, he still has like a soul, you know what I mean? And it's like, well,
that's what's interesting, because I was going to say that, like, because that's his little thing, isn't it? At the end of series 3, is who needs a soul. That's his kind of indication that he's going along with Tom.
Yeah.
And it really did feel like
he did
between series 3 and 4. Like, he's a scumbag now. He's worse than the rest of them.
Yeah, the disgusting brothers.
Yeah. And he's kind of like, he's playing all sides. He's got no loyalty to anyone.
I don't know if he's worse than the rest of them, but...
I think considering where he started.
I haven't thought about this until this moment. His grandfather says to him in season 3, you got to take yourself seriously, kid. And I think that's why it feels so bad, because he is conniving and manipulative and playing everyone and all that, like the rest of them are. But he there's no integrity about him. I'm not saying the others. Do you know what I mean when I say integrity? Like, there's a certain even to Roman, there's a gravity to them of like they kind of know what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, with him, he is kind of nouveau riche kind of debutante, dilettante even. So when he's doing, you're like, come on, Greg.
Yeah.
This isn't you.
Well, I don't know, because like with everyone else, even with like Shiv and Roman, again, considering where he started, they do seem to honour... I know that they do double-cross and backstab, but they honour the relationships that they have while they're in them.
Yeah.
I mean, Shiv and Tom are a whole thing.
Yeah,
but what I mean by is that like when she like teams up with Mattson, she like honours that relationship.
Yeah.
Whereas with Greg, even though he's basically Tom's second in command, he's like screwing Tom over constantly and like betraying him for information, and like it feels like Greg's just like
he's insincere. He's not
playing the game, but he's not really playing it.
Yeah, there's no, what's the right word? Well, there's just no weight to him.
No.
There's no gravity to him, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so Kill List. Another cultural compatibility episode.
Yes.
This final season pays off a lot, it turns out. So, recurring themes, obviously, character relationships, ticking boxes of the heretofore unseen and clarifying old mysteries, and one final hurrahs. So, like I said, this is another cultural compatibility episode in the vein of Turnhaven, which is my favourite episode, I would say. Not the best, but my favourite.
Okay.
I like Ebba. Oscar is awful. Sauna. He's awful, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not great.
I love Greg and Tom talking strategy next to a pig on the spit. That's so great. There's the fantastic climactic scene on the mountain where Culkin shines. I love that towering shot of Skarsgård at this, threat. I like that even though he's superficial and a prankster in that kind of... I get the vibe he's modeled off Elon Musk a bit, that kind of new tech bro kind of thing. So even though he's kind of flippant, there always lingers the possibility of physical violence with him. I like it. Or they harken back to an episode 6 when he jumps over the couch to hug Kendall. They kind of verbally sparring, and then he goes, "Hey, come here," and he jumps up and he hugs him.
Yeah.
You're like, he did that so you wouldn't hit him. It's like... That's kind of it. Do you have anything more? I know you really like... you particularly like Kill List.
Yeah, it's probably one of my favourite episodes. I mean, that scene on the mountain makes it for me. It's a great episode before that.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's the return of Mattson, and it's sort of... next episode kind of affirms it, but it kind of casts him as the final villain of the show.
Yeah.
The replacement for Logan, and he fills that role brilliantly. In part because he does kind of have this kind of bantery. I'm not taking it very seriously. It's all kind of bullshit. I'm your friend. I'm on your side, but he's also a legitimate threat. Yeah,
but he's hollow as well, as you later find out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so interesting. Like he's new. He's new money. That's his. That's what he represents.
Yeah, he's not Logan.
No, he's not Logan.
Like, objectively, definitively not Logan.
Yeah, he's new money. He doesn't get ATN.
No. But he's equally as dangerous.
He's equally as dangerous. Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's the opposite in every way. He's young, he's tall, he's fit, you know. He's fun. I don't think Logan is... You couldn't call him fun.
No.
Yeah, but again, he has that kind of Nan thing where you sometimes see through the... he's got that millennial, I don't care about anything, like, I don't do cool, like, what's cool?
Yeah.
But then when they're up in that, having a meeting with him in his big mountain complex, and they're in that thing that juts out over the mountain, they're like, oh, this is pretty, this is awesome. He's like, I don't really give a shit. I guess people think it's cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, he obviously is doing it because he thinks it's cool.
Yeah.
He is that shallow.
Yeah, he's flexing, isn't he?
Yeah.
But he can't be seen to be doing that.
But he can't be seen to be doing it. But no, he's great. And just interrupting them, and they're like, when they're trying to talk, I want to buy your company for $1 single dollar. Yeah, it's great. It's the way they look at him, and yeah.
It's just like, what the fuck is this guy?
Yeah, who are you?
What's his agenda?
Yeah, and I love when Roman, it's so cathartic when he's like, you pig man, dog man, as he calls him.
Inhuman dog man.
Inhuman dog man, fucking drag us out here a couple of days after our fathers died. And I just love Mattson's reactions, like, I'm like, come on, man, come on, I'm liking this, come on, bring it on,
You just fucked yourself.
You just fucked yourself.
Did I?
Yeah.
I'm just going to end up saying the scene verbatim if I'm not careful.
I know.
Because it really is. That delivery from Culkin is just...
Yeah, it's like it's you know when you get really angry and you feel like crying?
Yeah.
It's like he's got to get it all out.
Yeah.
It's like, I've been fucking sitting on this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can barely look at him and yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know, it's not a performance that I think I would ever... If I'd like written that episode, or if I were directing that episode, it's not a performance I would have ever aimed for. But now that we have it, it feels so right.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where he walks up to him like, oh, okay, I'm going to say my piece.
Yeah.
And then the way you would expect it to be firm, and you drag this out here, blah, blah. But it's kind of like he's twitchy, and he wants to get it over with. And
well, in that moment, he's got no agenda. He's abandoned all plans.
Yes.
He is just going to have his say.
Yeah.
And Mattson is going to listen.
Yeah.
And it really does feel like that. And I don't know, it's just like at the end where he says, you can go to the board and tell them what I've said to you, but I'll just say it's a negotiating tactic.
And maybe it is. Who knows? But it's not. So fuck you. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And then when he's walking away, he's like, hey, it's a negotiating tactic, you stupid cunt.
Yeah.
And then he says, you piece of shit.
Yeah.
And there's so much more, like,
venom.
Power and venom in that. And that's nice when you've got, like, when the word shit carries more weight than the word cunt.
Yeah.
You know they're doing something right.
There was the line that immediately followed that scene was another one where I thought, if you don't fall... I asked my father if he knew what it meant, and he says to Kendall, if someone, like, fucks the deal in the woods, is it still...
An SEC violation. Yeah.
And, like, my father didn't know that referred to a tree falling in the woods. He didn't know.
Okay.
So it's like, God, yeah, what would you think of this show if you'd, like... Yeah, anyway. So, Living Plus and Tailgate Party. It was really good to see the Hollywood side of the business.
Yeah, because that's... that really doesn't crop up that much, does it?
No, it's one of the things that I referred to in episode 5 then, where it's paying things off that we hadn't seen before, you know? And again, I love Roman's... pricking the pomposity. It's not pompous, but like what underlies it. When he meets with a studio executive, for who's running a failing film production, and says, "I'm just going to give you millions, like if I can make it work." And she says to him, "Oh, it's just out here in this creative community. We don't like that ATN is leaning towards this right-wing candidate and blah blah." And Roman's response is, yeah, no, it's an incredibly evolved, ruthlessly segregated city you built on this geological fault here. Again, yeah, he's so right. Yeah, he's always been a great pin to that bubble. It's a payoff to Kendall's showmanship that he likes putting on a show.
It was a really clever use of Brian Cox, of Logan.
Yeah.
Because, obviously he's in 5 episodes, but he dies in the 3rd.
Yes. And
obviously, after that character's dead, you want to be careful how you use him. And they kind of like... There's green screen footage of him talking about this sort of scheme that the company were planning to launch called Living Plus, that obviously they never got around to when he was alive. And it's raw green screen footage of him, like, giving the presentation and getting frustrated with the people making it. And then he's just like... There's a random moment where he's like, God, you're as useless as my fucking kids.
Yeah.
And... Kendall and Roman and Shiv, they're all watching this. And I think that was a really nice kind of reminder to you as the audience that, like, don't forget Logan was a piece of shit.
He's a bastard.
He was an absolute monster. Because, after, the 3rd episode, you feel bad for the kids. And then the 4th episode is kind of a moratorium of Logan. And the 5th episode, they're kind of fulfilling Logan's last wishes.
Well, the thing that informs Roman's outburst really is he sees a picture of Logan's body.
Yeah. In the embalming room, and it's like the reality of it sort of hits him for a moment. So because you're kind of with those characters, you kind of end up investing in their kind of slightly tainted, more positive view of Logan.
Yeah.
So to have that kind of reminder, it's like, no, he was a cunt. He was a horrible man. He hated his children. Or at least he was never publicly, like, fond of his children.
Yes.
That was really nice. And it was nice how that ends up getting re-edited by Kendall at the end.
Yeah, I agree with Brian Cox, though, that I think Logan does love his children.
I think he does.
I just think he's completely disappointed in them.
He's disappointed, and I think for me, like, there's the microcosm of that is, I think it's in the 4th episode of season 1.
Right.
Where they go into that, like, gala,
Yeah.
that Connor is sort of running. And he and Connor are kind of reminiscing in the car, and Connor's like, oh, do you remember that gala where such and such happened and such was there? And Logan starts reminiscing with him, like genuinely happy to reminisce. And Connor is like, you know what you should do? You should make me the head of this gala thing. I would get it up and running. You know, I'd have a wonderful operation for you.
Yeah.
And Logan just, like, the happiness just drains from his face, and he just looks out of the car window and he goes, we'll see.
Yeah.
It's like, as far as he was concerned, he was having a genuine moment with his eldest son. And it was like, he wants a thing from me.
Yeah.
And I
don't know. Like, yes, that would be disappointing, but I don't know if that's the core of his disappointment that they always want. I think the core of the disappointment is they're not me.
Right.
You know, like, as in they're not as ruthless as. That's why he smiles when Kendall fucks him over. It's like, maybe he's a killer.
Yeah,
maybe he's a killer. I think it's like, they don't have what it takes. They're not serious people.
Yeah,
and he's proven correct.
I think maybe with Connor, maybe that's like the source of his disappointment with Connor.
Oh, with Connor, yeah. I think Connor, he just thinks he's a bit like of a fluffy nothing. You know, it's a bit like, he is living off him.
But then again, there are moments where it's like.
But also, Connor's the closest to him.
That's what I was going to say. There's moments where it's like, oh, this kind of implies that Connor might have even been his favourite. Like, it's jumping ahead slightly.
Yeah.
But we're well into spoiler territory at this point anyway. Episode 9 is the funeral episode. And he was the only one of the children that knew about the mausoleum.
The mausoleum. And obviously, when you see the footage of Logan in the final episode, Connor's the only one that's there.
Yeah. And he's always been loyal to his father, even through all the corporate takeover and chicanery. He's never left Logan's side once.
Which is interesting for the oldest son. I find that interesting, you know? He's always like, oh, come on, hear him out.
Yeah,
you know, he's trying to do
always
something
been on his father's side.
Yeah. When they go for the therapy session, the faux therapy session at his house, he's like, he's trying to do something, come on. Yeah. Okay, so, Kendall's showmanship, and the payoff is that he actually does well.
I think that is Kendall's secret superpower, isn't it? Is that under pressure, he can deliver.
Well.
Yeah.
He can do well. I like him bobbing on the water. Again, water is is some recurring imagery. I like Tom's confession to Shiv about his desire for money and comfort. He's like, I do like money.
There are several, confrontations between Tom and Shiv this season.
There really are. Yeah, they become the heart of it for me, really. Yeah. Those two.
Like proper, world-ending arguments.
Well, that's the
back to back.
My next point here is that argument in Tailgate Party.
Yeah.
Outside the apartment. I had goosebumps.
Yeah.
Like, one of the season's peaks for me was that argument. And a showcase for McFadden in particular. Yeah. He's just pitch perfect in that role, in general.
Tom lives Tom, yeah.
He's fantastic. But, when he says, you're gonna send me to fucking prison, I was like, ooh. I genuinely got, electricity through my body.
Yeah.
And just, the little beats elsewhere in the show. In episode 2, when he's got to deliver the introductory of season 4, where he's got to deliver prep them for Logan.
Yeah.
And he goes, okay, it's just the perfect awkward cough. Yeah. It's I don't know, but he just nails it. Yeah, Shiv doesn't have a fucking leg to stand on, as far as I'm concerned with him.
What a horrible woman.
Well, she is horrible. But yeah, their relationship is one of the show's most fascinating elements. Maybe the most fascinating when it comes down to it.
Yeah, because that's the big thing that's hanging over the first episode, isn't it? Tom did that to them. What the hell is he and Shiv like at the moment? And they seem to be estranged. Yeah. Initially, and then kind of at the end of the episode, they kind of meet back at their apartment, and they fight, and they bitch, and they bicker, and they end up in bed together. Not sexually, just they're lying on the bed together, and they don't want the other person to go.
Well, that's the thing. With dramas, it depends, but the romantic relationships tend to be among the things I find least interesting.
Yeah.
I don't care about the romantic arc, I want this. With this, their marriage was what I was in it most for. One really, really, really roots for Tom.
Oh, God, yeah.
When he has his little moments of victory, which soon will be not so little, you just want to punch fucking yes, come on.
I think back to that, I can't remember the exact episode, but in series 3 where he finds out he's not going to prison and he goes to Greg's office and he fucking trashes the place.
And he kisses him on the forehead. Yeah. Yeah, the idiosyncrasies of the two are great. I like flicking her ear, and when they play bitey.
Oh yeah, when she's just like being mean to him, and
Yeah,
she's like
yeah,
trying
yeah.
to dirty his shoes. He's just
He
like,
flicks it, and she looks at him like, "Whoa, I can't do that."
your earlobes are thick and chewy.
Yeah, and bitey.
Yeah.
When they play bitey, it's such a weird relationship. The end of episode 1, yeah, and I think that's interesting and up for interpretation again, which is her thing is she can't be vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
When he's like, "Do you want to have a conversation about this?" She says, "It's not good for me to hear that stuff," and you just want to hit her.
Yeah.
Because God, I know that. God, I know that. You've no idea. But that's the thing, does she want him to stay, or does she merely allow him to stay? So she maintains her dominance in the hierarchy, you know? Because he's like, "Do you want me to go?" She's like, "No, you can stay." It's like, did she just do him a favour?
Yeah.
Or it's so interesting. Or is it both? I think probably both. The tenderness in episode 4 between the two of them, where he says, "Remember that time?"
Yeah.
You know?
Which again is interesting for Tom, is that he hasn't written her off. It does feel like he still has...
Oh, he's in love with her. Yeah.
Yeah, he still has something invested in that relationship, and he doesn't want it to wither on the vine.
Yeah. They are the epitome of dysfunction that I sadly understand to some degree. Okay, so episode 8.
Yeah.
America Decides, as the title would suggest. This is... Oh, yeah, an election's been... They've been built up to an election, by the way.
So there's this guy called Jared Mencken.
Yeah, okay, so ATN is kind of... Logan basically chose the candidate for the next president of the United States for the Republican Party.
Yes.
Jared Mencken, who's kind of ostensibly a very right-wing... I mean, he's called a fascist, he's called all these things. You never really know.
Yeah, like a kind of a racial purist sort of...
Basically, he's a competent Trump, is the idea, I think.
Yeah.
He's a well-spoken Trump with ideas, right?
Yeah, like one of his pitching points to Roman in the episode where Roman kind of brings him to Logan as like this guy should be president.
Yeah.
Jared is just like, the simple fact of the matter is people who trust people who look like them.
Yes.
And I think people have pointed out there's an irony to that, because obviously he's talking along racial lines. Mm-hmm. But in that scene, him and Roman have exactly the same...
oh, really?
Yeah, they're dressed exactly the same.
Yeah. It's just, again, it's just so clever, because things like that do happen.
Yeah.
And I just love the whole... the Coke idea. We're reviewing season 3 now, but that whole... You know, he wants a Coke, and he calls one of the candidates, the vice president, who is the front runner to be the next nominee.
Yeah.
Says, "Bring me a Coke." He's like, "Logan, it's like fucking... It's late."
Yeah.
And then Jared Mencken comes in with a Coke, and he's like, "Anointed with a Coke." You know?
Yeah.
And it's so clever. Okay, yeah, so he's the candidate, and then there's like basically an unseen Democratic candidate.
Oh, is it not the guy from the first couple of seasons? The Under Siege guy?
No, I think he's on the ticket as vice president.
Okay.
No, the president is the guy from Mr. Robot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so... Yes, there's an episode that is based basically entirely in the ATN offices on election day, and it's the fucking chaos of trying to manage it and run the news. So, it's a minor gripe in the grand scheme of things, but the satire too closely resembled reality for me. But it is genuinely a minor gripe, because like everything else, it's a brilliant episode.
Yeah.
When Roman wants Mencken to win, because Mencken is going to, has promised to block the deal.
Yes.
With Mattson.
Yeah.
So at this point in the show, Roman and Kendall are united in not wanting Mattson to take over. They want to run the company everything themselves.
And Shiv is secretly working for Mattson to make sure the deal goes through.
Yes.
So that she can assume the role of American CEO.
Yes. And she hates ATN in particular because of her own worldview.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she's rooting for that's the thing.
Yes.
Roman wants Jared Mencken to win, so he's all Republican.
Yeah.
She hates all that shit, so she wants the Democratic candidate to come through. Kendall is kind of undecided. I think he doesn't love Mencken.
He doesn't like him at all. But he thinks he's practically he might be the best thing to support. But she has to pretend that she wants Mencken.
Yes.
But
she has to pretend that she's on their side.
Yes. When Roman, so in this episode, because Roman's kind of winning, when he's in snark mode, he's really intolerable.
It's the first time in a long time where you're kind of reminded, Roman's a scumbag.
He's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Because I think it's fair to say that Roman's kind of the breakout character of this season.
He's got to win something.
He really comes into his own. Because I think it's now looking like the TCA announced nominations recently, and all 3 of the kids are nominated.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to say that whereas they've gone with Jeremy Strong and Brian Cox in the lead categories, and everyone else in supporting categories.
Yeah.
The 3 kids will now be in the lead categories for this season,
Right,
which I think
so.
is fair enough.
Yeah.
And he should win.
It's so he so comes into his own.
If Strong wins, I won't complain. But Culkin, I
will. I think Kieran Culkin deserves it.
He does. But I'm not going to be annoyed if Strong wins because it's still a win for Succession.
Yeah.
But again, I've said this to you before. I think people are going to remember the finale, and they're going to remember Strong. I just think that people have short memories. I hope.
I remember
wins.
that, but how can you not remember?
I know.
The scene on the mountain and the funeral.
I know. But I think he will win awards. Whether he wins the Emmy is what's up in the air. But I think he will win awards. I don't know what Mencken says that I actually disagree with.
Right.
Cause
you're really showing your colours now, aren't you?
No, here's the thing. You don't get that much of him, really. You get what other people say about him.
Yeah.
But when he actually speaks, people agree with people that look like them. It's not something that I would like to agree with. It's a fact. I would never...
Right.
No, this thing. I would never play into that fact. I would never go, so let's fucking get the white people. It's an objective fact that people like people that look like them. That is a fact. I'm not saying it's a good thing. Do you know what I'm saying? But when he actually speaks and he because they kind of call the election for him, and he gets to deliver his victory speech, it sounds alright to me. He's like, I'm in America where a leader was elected from the people. None of this corporate interest deals with it. I know whether it's hypocrisy.
I was going to say, isn't the irony of it supposed to be that he was chosen by Logan?
Of course, yeah. But every president is, anyway.
No, he's a good speaker, and I think that's his superpower, is that he's a very good public speaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like that he's not written as a buffoonish, cartoonish fascist.
It's not. Yeah, he's not Trump.
He's not Trump. He isn't Trump, and he's clearly much more intelligent. But yeah, you just have to kind of take the characters at the word. They word that he's dangerous. I don't know that he is.
Okay.
No, but do you know what I mean? The show is telling you that he is dangerous. But I don't know why. I haven't heard him speak. Get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just Shiv constantly going, he's dangerous. He's a fascist.
But
I don't like you anyway.
Well, that's the thing. It doesn't matter who the Republican candidate would be. She would think that of it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's the fact that Kendall is saying that he's dangerous. It's like, okay, maybe there is some credibility to this.
That's true. Anything else to say about America Decides?
There's that genuinely interesting little nugget, isn't there, where they find out that a bunch of votes have been lost in one of the states.
I think Wisconsin.
Yeah, Wisconsin. Yeah. They lost a bunch of votes because the voting center was burnt down.
Firebombed.
They firebombed, and all of the paper ballots were lost. And so they couldn't possibly know who they voted for.
If they went off historic precedent, it would be the Democrat.
Yeah.
But they can't do that.
They also don't know whether it was Republican protesters or whether it was Democrats posing as Republican protesters.
Yeah.
There's just all of this ambiguity about it.
The ambiguity about... Because, it comes down to, a state. Whoever wins this state wins the election, which seems far-fetched, but is pretty much what always happens. And they say, what about, doing the election again in that state? It's there's no precedent for it. It's extremely unlikely. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
They have an expert that,
Yeah.
We don't know what to do in this situation. So Roman's like, well, just call it for Mencken. Just do it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And then when he ends up winning other states, they're cornered. They're backed into a corner because they've already called Wisconsin for him. So they have to call the election for him.
Yeah.
Which... it later transpires, it may not mean he'll actually be the president.
No.
It's more that they sacrificed any credibility or integrity to do it.
Yeah.
And they gave him credibility. They gave his victory credibility.
Yes. But it's just, I don't know. It's just, for it to be such a small part of the show, you could write a little piece off of that.
You do a show about the election.
Yeah. 20,000 votes are lost. Who wins the election?
Yeah.
Do we count the votes that we have and just assume that everyone fell in line? Do we go off historical data? It's just nice because it's it sort of
I think that's why they end up calling it for him, right? Is because with the votes they already have, he's ahead.
Yeah.
But they haven't counted it from the city, which is where Democrats...
Exactly, yeah.
Yes, Great.
You could do like a West Wing episode on it, or you could do like its own little piece where 20,000 votes are lost.
Yeah, it's almost like not Black Mirror, but that sort of Twilight Zone. It's a one-off anthology idea.
What the hell do we do? What do you do?
Yeah, what do you do?
I don't know. I just remember it because even after that episode aired and we talked about the episode, we were kind of, you and I were talking about it, like engaging in that hypothetical.
Yeah.
It's just something I remember from that episode.
Yeah, because it's not like that insane an idea. It's not like, they contrived this very unique hypothetical situation.
Yeah.
No, that could happen. You just bomb it, it could happen. I can't remember what
it's something we should actually probably be thinking about putting in fail-safes for.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, the whole voting system is just corrupt. It's just messed up. Okay, Church and State.
Oh, yes.
So I think it's my favourite episode of the season.
It's a very good episode.
If not the best, I'll say it's not the best.
Okay, so you're saying Connor's Wedding is
I'm
the
saying
best?
Connor's Wedding is best, but this is my favourite.
Okay.
And it's a contender for best as well.
It's such a strong outing. Yeah.
It's kind of the on the other end of the continuum from Connor's Wedding, which is it's about how well written the dialogue is.
This close to the end of the season as well, because as a good writer, you never want to put out something that's not the best that it could be.
No.
But I think we said, didn't we, that like even if the season never meets the standards of Connor's Wedding again, I'm in it now. It's got me.
It's got me.
I'm here. I'm not.
I think it said like we can't. It's not fair to expect that it's all going to be.
Yeah,
that
we
good.
should. No, exactly. We shouldn't expect another episode as good as Connor's Wedding.
Yeah,
and then the fucking funeral episode shows up and it's like, well, you're just showing off now. You didn't even need to do that, but cool. All right.
Yeah, it's great.
Another one of the best episodes of television in a long time.
Yeah. So Roman begins the episode in his high-rise apartment. He ends up lying on the street.
The fall of Rome. Man.
Yeah. Yeah, you stole that. You stole that from me. Admit it right now.
I admitted I added the an.
An, okay, all right.
It's fair use because I changed it.
You can have the OJ thing. You're not having Rome. Okay. Yeah, okay, so Rava and the kids leave Manhattan. And the thing,
it does a really good job of like not just scale in this episode, but like you do feel the crisis.
There's an epicness to the episode. Yeah, definitely.
Like this city is like in turmoil. Yeah. After the events of the last episode.
I can't remember what the question was, but did he say we went to see Jesse Armstrong give a little talk?
Yeah, can you believe it?
Q&A. I know.
Here we are in humble old South Wales.
Cardiff. Yeah.
4 days before the finale of the biggest show in the world.
Yeah.
Jesse Armstrong came to answer our questions for us.
Yeah, in Cardiff. Between episode 9 and 10 of his multiple award-winning American drama series.
Yeah.
I just think, why are you not doing I don't know why you're here.
It kind of was. Like,
well, he wasn't promoting it. He was there because it was a comedy festival.
Yeah, the BBC
and he was there to answer questions.
BBC were doing like a little comedy festival and he was one of their guest speakers. And they spent most of the talking about Succession.
They did.
But yeah, just like, did you know that the finale would be 4 days after this talk? Or did it just work out that way? Because it felt so strange that, it was like, you're the guy. You made this cultural phenomenon.
I know.
And just there you are, within spitting distance, And
I got to ask him a question, which is all I wanted to do. Didn't really care about the answer. No, I did. But yeah, I blacked out when I asked it. The adrenaline took me. He said during that at some point, he said, I don't want to sound like a wanker, but they closed Fifth Avenue for it. Or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, this British guy that wrote sitcoms and like sketch shows, and now he gets to go to like New York and have a street closed off for him. Anyway, so Kendall's ex-wife and his 2 children, one of whom's adopted. It's important.
Is it?
Later.
Okay.
They're leaving because they're a bit scared about the unrest after the Mencken victory, or the alleged Mencken victory. And they're not leaving forever. It's not like, we're flying away on a plane, Kendall, like fuck you. But it's a nice microcosm of what's to come, I think, of the implication that carries. So Hope Davis, who plays Sandy, the daughter, she's an Oscar-nominated actress. It's a testament to this show that it can get these people to essentially be extras for an episode.
Yeah.
She's just there. She doesn't get any lines. Nope. She's just in the church. James Cromwell is wonderful.
Love a bit of James Cromwell.
I like the little thing that Shiv will become her mother, when how she raises her child.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shiv's pregnant.
Well, the actress was pregnant, so it was like...
But watching it, I was worried about like, oh, great, they're making her pregnant just because, but no, it's like a really important... Well, not really important, but it's important.
Yeah.
Caroline displays some genuine heart with bringing all the women together, Logan's exes. I didn't think the tragedy of Ewan and Logan's sister was something that was going or needed to be addressed.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad it was.
Yeah,
it really gives a sense of completeness.
Yeah, it's like that final piece of the puzzle to Logan Roy, in a way.
Yeah, and it really, it gives you more context to that character. And you can see, I love their reaction to him telling that story. So they had a sister who died of polio, and Logan always believed that he gave her the polio.
Yeah, because he travelled to America.
Yeah. And their aunt and uncle, who were kind of emotionally abusive, never let him forget that he thought, And you can see like Roman and Kendall like leaning forward, like they learning about their father,
Yeah.
Kieran Culkin's greatest moment.
Oh God, yeah. Well, this is what I mean. Like, you just he's got to win something.
Yeah.
Because that is
breakdown.
I mean, that is something that's really hard to judge, isn't it? Just like if you go too far into it, you run the risk of it becoming farcical.
Yeah.
But I mean, the moment where Shiv kind of says "Daddy" like on the phone, it's like, oh, that just breaks you.
Yeah. Can we get him out?
Utterly ruined. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, when I saw that with you, I think that we let it pass, and we looked at each other like, okay. But when I saw that, because I was watching it with my father, and I'd recently watched the episode where Logan had died, and there's a moment where like Connor's just found out, and Roman, because he's kind of physically awkward anyway, he just kind of like leans out to Connor and grabs him, and just kind of like, it's awkward and weird, but it's grasping for some comfort. And my father laughed. He's like, look at Roman. I was like, I don't think it's meant to be funny. And then I was worried when he said, can we get him out? I was like, oh, I'm so worried people are going to laugh at that when they watch it. Because it's such a silly thing to say. But luckily no one did. When I watched it with my mother and my father, they both like knew it was serious. I guess they've lost parents, so they know how dumb you can think,
Yeah.
But yeah, then Kendall's speech is like... It's like the speech of the show. Isn't it? I like it because it really is like
again another brilliant example of Kendall can perform under pressure.
Pressure, and the ambiguity is like, I think Jesse Armstrong probably is with Ewan. Yeah, talking about he catered to the coldness in men and all that. But I'm with Kendall. It's like he made things, and like it or not, civilization runs on money, and he created it, and he gave people jobs. And,
he had a terrible aura to him.
Yeah, what's the word he uses?
I can't remember the
terrible force or power to him.
Yeah, he was a force, a terrible force in our lives, and my God, I hope that's in me.
Yeah,
or something like that.
Yeah, again, the series makes a compelling case against itself.
Yeah,
and that's so interesting. Okay, so then they leave. They go to the mausoleum. Kendall pulls Hugo aside and basically says, right, I've decided now, I'm just going to try and take over the company by myself.
Yeah.
And you're going to be my dog. You're not going to have any say, but I'm going to give you millions of dollars. Are you okay with that? He says, woof, woof. And then the musical cue that hits. Again, goosebumps. It's like, I think just as a moment, not the musical cue itself, but as a micro moment that follows that, it's my favourite of the show. Okay. Of the entire show, which is where Kendall is about to get in the car and he glances back at the mausoleum and then he gets in the car. It's like, that's where we all end up.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. I'm going for it. Like, fuck it. Yeah. I love that moment.
And Hugo's woof woof as well. I think when we review Happy Valley, we kind of complimented in that final confrontation between James Norton and Catherine Kaywood. I realise I'm mixing actor and character there.
Tommy Lee Royce
and Sarah Lancaster.
Yes, that's it. It's not you didn't get the name right.
No, I know, but I was like, I have to commit to the thing.
No,
now.
Lancashire.
I know.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, I know. I realised after I said it, I got it wrong. It was like, I have to mix character and actor.
No, I knew that, but you didn't even get the name right.
No, I know. Yeah, it sucks. But yeah, we complimented that in a confrontation as genuinely tense and like brimming with violence as it was,
Yeah.
they had those comedic beats in there that were kind of woven in that made it feel all the more authentic. And another great example of a great writer doing that here, where
Woof, woof.
woof woof is a comedic beat. It's a funny moment,
Immediately followed by an ominous underscore.
but it hits you and it like lands and it doesn't feel like a
Oh,
farce.
it's so exciting.
Yeah.
That's the thing, when you know you really love a show and it's exciting.
Yeah,
It
that's
excites you.
probably like, right, the battle lines are drawn.
Yeah,
It's
going
war.
into the finale.
Yeah.
Candle
War
opening,
declared
you know.
by woof woof.
Yeah. Okay. Finale? Or anything more to say about that wonderful episode?
Well, it's a wonderful episode.
Yes.
And you should definitely watch it and the rest of the show.
All of it.
Yeah.
Okay, the finale with open eyes. An exotic destination for the finale, as has been the custom.
Okay. A line from that poem.
Yeah, every season finale has been a snippet from a poem. The title of every season finale episode.
Do we know why? Do we know what the thinking behind that was?
I can't remember the crux or the thrust of the poem. Obviously, there's thematic overlap, but I'm not sure exactly. So what is it? It's nobody is ever missing.
Yeah.
This is not for tears.
Yeah.
What's the third season finale?
Oh,
Can you
I don't
remember?
know, mate.
With open eyes. It's not for tears, and all the bells say.
Yes.
They're the four. Okay. So an exotic destination, another, which is a payoff. Greg going unnoticed for the most profound time.
Yes.
A payoff. A final surge of positivity as the three of them are working together.
It really
again.
is. Like, I think I said to you at the time, didn't I, that the happier the three of them are now, the sadder they're going to be later. And so it's devastating when we see them at the happiest
happy they
they've
are.
probably ever been.
Just being children. Like
Yeah.
actually being like kids. And just doing silly voices. And
I'm going to lick Peter's cheese.
Peter's cheese, yeah. Oh, mummy, yeah.
Yeah.
And even Shiv is like some Tabasco. They're doing like voices.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they pour like a fucking thing over his head. Yeah. Yeah, you know it won't last. Another little moment I love is that exciting burst after Tom reveals to Shiv that it's him, that he's going to be CEO.
When Mattson has kind of said, I don't want Shiv, I want you, Tom.
I want you.
I want someone I can control, basically, a pain sponge.
Yeah, and with Mattson screaming at his staff again, you're like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
And the slap fight between Greg and Tom in the bar. Again, like that was a long time coming.
I don't know, it's fucking Greg. Like,
it was never
character.
going to come to fisticuffs, was it? It was going to come to palmer cuffs.
Yeah. Kendall, I'm at the center of the fucking universe.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I love Greg.
But again, it's such a clever thing of just he's there and he gets the translator out, and you know it's perfect. Okay, so we'll say what happens. So they agree that Kendall will take over.
Yeah, there's some initial toing and froing. Kendall says, when I was 7, he sat me down and said the company was mine, and Roman was like, well, in the past couple of weeks, he said that the company was mine.
Yeah, Kendall said, he said it to me first, and he said, well, he said it to me last.
Yeah, so it's like,
yeah.
who has claim to this, really?
Yeah.
But Kendall does eventually bring them around to the idea of him taking charge of the company, with them having significant positions within as well. It's not just a case of, I get everything. It's like, you have your thing, you have your thing. They anoint him.
They anoint him.
Yes.
They do. They fly to New York.
They go to Connor's little auction where he's like auctioning off all of his dad's stuff. Where they finally see the final time they see their father. Yeah, when he's at that
another
dinner.
nice moment of them being together. Yeah, I like a human moment for Logan, like singing. I guess Carl is singing like a Scottish. We haven't even mentioned Carl. Carl hasn't been brought up once.
Yeah, Carl even has like a confrontational moment.
He has a little payoff where like he's not a doormat for a change,
and then he is
back to being a doormat because people don't change.
Oh,
so they anoint Kendall, and then they have a nice little scene together. They go to the boardroom to finally vote that Mattson won't be taking over the company, and then Shiv decides that she's not going to vote for Kendall, fucks him over completely. It triggers a really horrible to watch fight between the three of them.
The relationship between the three of them
breaks down.
It just like
shatters,
and like irreparably.
Oh, it's done. They're done. Yeah. There's a possibility for Roman and Shiv, but I think nah. Yeah. They're not going to want to be around each other anymore. It really should be Kendall. This is my opinion now.
Okay.
It really should be Kendall. his pitch in Barbados is actually spot on, what he says to them. He has admittedly compromised a lot to get here, maybe too much.
And that is, I know Shiv is kind of the ultimate villain of the show.
To us, yeah.
To us, but it is ultimately what does Kendall in, is that he sacrifices too much of himself.
Yes.
He becomes too like Logan.
Yes. Treating Roman as Logan did, berating him, ripping open the stitches.
Yeah.
So he looks kind of unreliable.
Yeah.
He does have hubris. He likes being liked, and he's a bit full of shit. And I don't know if he knows who he is. He was promised a kingdom as an infant, and that's all that's ever been. No personality development outside of that.
Yeah.
As a leader, he would be a bit insufferable. Maybe that would settle down as he matured into the role. He's not totally incompetent. He's not Logan, and he'd never be considered in the same breath as an industry titan. He's been an absentee father. He's very, very far from perfect. But he doesn't deserve what happens to him. I don't think.
Yeah, it does feel...
It's a gut punch. He loses his children. Perhaps he deserves to some extent. He loses his father, his siblings, his eternal assistant.
Yeah.
His principles, his company, and his future.
Yeah.
The principles are the key dimension, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, just again, the distance between Kendall from Series 1 weeping because he was unable to save that guy.
Yeah.
And then being confronted by Shiv in the finale and going, oh, I made it up, it didn't really happen.
Right. So, yeah, and that would be seen, I think Jeremy Strong himself said that was his no real person involved moment, which is something that Logan says. I have a different take on it. I know that's what it's meant to be, but in that final explosive scene between the three of them, he tosses a lot out the window, right? So saying he'll end up killing himself as like please, I'll kill myself, which is juvenile, but is incidentally probably true, considering what his entire life has been.
Well, as you say, Kendall doesn't really exist outside of the context of being the next in line.
Right.
And now he's not.
He has his no real person involved moment. And it's fucking horrible what he says, but I kind of get it. He's so close.
Yeah.
And they've agreed.
They have there is an agreement that Shiv is betraying.
And he's being fucked over again.
Yes.
Again. I'm just putting myself in his head, right? I've got it. The siblings have agreed. We're on good terms. It's all good. And then she just says no. For no reason, really, other than to spite him.
Yeah.
And they fuck him over again. And I can understand that desperation that you would say anything.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's morally right. Shiv is truly hideous in those final moments.
Yeah.
Smug.
She gets what she deserves.
Yeah. But that's the thing. She does it to herself.
Yeah.
You do it to yourself. she is cutting her nose off to spite her face. Because they're losing the company. Her husband will be... maybe she thinks, oh, I can get my way in that... But no, that's not.
I think
Tom isn't even going to be around that long.
No,
probably.
I think that final moment between them in the car where he kind of puts out his hand and she doesn't even hold his hand. She kind of places hers limply in his. That's what they'll be now.
Yeah,
forevermore.
She's the wife.
She is the wife.
She's her mother. She'll have the kid. She'll probably be a shit mother.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
she's no one now.
She's nobody.
Taken her own reputation.
And she does it just because Kendall is like a little bit smug when he's in that boardroom.
Yeah.
Where Roman says no, he's like, yeah, that's right. And
that's the thing,
he's cocky.
She didn't even see him rip open Roman's stitches.
No. It's just,
she's got nothing to go on other than she doesn't like that
he put his feet up on the father's desk, you know, that kind of thing. It's a bit... He's cocky. He's a bit cocky.
Yeah. But
all things considered, it was the best thing for her to do was to vote no on the deal.
Yeah.
And I think, Romans has the big, revelation of the show, which is, we're bullshit. You're bullshit. She's bullshit. I'm bullshit. To me, she's the most bullshit. She's portrayed a lot of the time to be the most kind of mature and the most with it. But no way. No. She's the ultimate child.
Well, I think that's the opinion that she holds of herself.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that's the horrible thing, because, with Roman, his kind of shittiness is very apparent.
Well, because he's self-loathing. She isn't.
Outside of that, I'm just talking about on the surface, the way he speaks to people, the way he treats people. It's like, oh, that's a shitty person.
Yes.
And then you've got all of this, trauma and self-loathing buried underneath. At the end of episode 6, where he's listening to his father berating him on repeat. Because it's like, he needs that in his life.
It's masochism, yeah.
Yeah,
it's self-flagellation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then getting himself beaten up by the protesters in episode 9, because again, he needs that kind of like antagonistic force to just exist.
Because he hates himself.
Because he hates himself so much. But
he's outwardly... Yeah, this is good. I'm saying it. It's the most sexist thing ever. He's a man and she's a woman. And that's how their evil is expressed in different ways. That's not sexist, actually. Like the comedian, the joke about boys, they break shit.
Yeah.
A girl will fucking mess you up.
Yeah,
inside, will break your heart. And that's what she's like. She's more insidious.
No, yeah, but that's the thing. The kind of the evil is kind of, it's portrayed in different ways. With Roman, it's kind of very surface level. It's like, right, he's an unlikable person, but I know what I'm dealing with Roman.
Yeah, like he shows signs in the final season he might actually be a good person beneath it all.
Yeah.
He might be a decent... Of the three of them, he might be the most decent.
Well, when Carrie is like... When she drops off all of her stuff in Logan's apartment, he's like straight in there, helps her out.
He's the one that rejects the tactic of dragging their father through the mud.
Yeah.
He's the one that is genuinely always for the three of them doing something together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kendall is just broken by what's been promised to him.
Yeah.
And Shiv is just a bitch.
Well, yeah, but I think that the insidious thing about Shiv is that she probably thinks because she's been estranged from the company for so long.
And she's a liberal.
And exactly. She doesn't hold the values that the company holds. She's liberally minded. She's, she's been a political consultant for the good guys, quote unquote, for all this time. She thinks that she's in the right.
Shit don't stink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what's so insidious about her.
I know, and that's the thing. When she says that to Kendall, like, no, I'm not doing it, and he becomes a baby, just like, why? This makes no sense.
Yeah.
And she has this look on her face.
Yeah.
Just like, no, don't want it. You're not gonna have it. No. You just want to hit her because it brings back people that have done that to you. You know, that face. And then when he tries grabbing her, and Roman's like, she's pregnant, you dick, and like holding him back, she walks off and goes, fucking child. I was like, you were just as childish. You just did it because you didn't like the look of him.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then Kendall walks back into the boardroom, and again, lightning in a bottle improvisation, right?
Yeah.
With Frank, you don't have it.
Yeah.
You'd think that's scripted. That's like
it says so much.
It punctuates the whole thing.
And it seems like there was more. Again, it was like a behind the scenes thing where they said that Frank kept going after that.
Right.
But that's all you need.
That's all you need.
And it's really nice that they got rid of all of that, and you're just left with Kendall's devastated reaction.
What's really nice about it as well is that it shows that though in the main cast, not one of the central characters, is so engaged with the story that they know enough, like, it's not just learning the lines, and when he walks in, he says, Gojo, 7 to 6. Like, he remembered the number.
Yeah.
Like he was obviously in it.
Yeah.
And that's really impressive. I have one thing about the finale that I think would have been an interesting extra ingredient.
Go on.
So, they have their little fight, Greg and Tom, and then at the end, Tom kind of agrees that he's going to keep Greg around with the implication that you're my property, you're mine now. I think a nice little detail would have been Greg using leverage against Tom, the document destruction.
I feel like that's already been played out, though, isn't it?
Well, he's still got documents. They used it with Kendall, right?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe not that, but like, or everything he knows about him. I know you did coke, the hookers at the party. Like, I know everything about you. I've done your dirty work. I know everything. And it would have been nice, like, that toxic marriage forever. Like, they can't let go of each other.
Yes.
They're married forever. Again, I'm just saying this would have been a nice extra thing.
I don't know. To me, that feels like, that's the next chapter of Succession.
Well, maybe.
And the kind of the point of the finale is, Jesse Armstrong put it brilliantly. As far as I'm concerned, he said that their lives will continue, but the show doesn't care about them anymore.
Yeah,
it knows what it needs to know.
I think. I get you, and I think maybe just a hint. Literally, what I've written as all of that could be condensed to seeing Greg with a folder.
Okay.
Because when Kendall gave a speech, you see Greg holding a folder, and you know what's in it.
Yeah.
That's it. Not even a niggle, just a suggestion. But,
okay.
So...
Why? Do you think the finale needed more, Sam? Was it not...
Only
satisfying
because
enough for
I think
you?
you and I would... No, it was. Well, it wasn't satisfying is the word. Heartbreaking, but in a good way.
Fucking devastating.
I think devastating. I think we would both agree that Greg is the only character that didn't really get a big thing to do in the final season.
I hesitate to call him a weak link, but I
Yeah.
think given his presence in the first 3 seasons, it does feel like he didn't get as much attention.
No. And it's understandable because of
As you'd
what's going
expect,
on.
yeah.
Right? So it's fine. But I think just that little thing would have been okay. He had like a final thing. You know what I mean?
I suppose.
Okay, so in the end, there's so much more we could talk about.
Oh, God,
Jerry,
yeah.
Frank, Carl, Mattson and Shiv, that whole thing. List goes on and on. A lot of the commentary around Succession ultimately settles on, but who gives a fuck? They're all just rich bastards.
Well, that's the irony of it, isn't it? The perverse irony is that them not getting what they want is a corporate takeover that's going to make them millions and millions of dollars. More money than they will ever be able to spend.
Yeah. But a lot of people, that's what it comes down to, right? Now, I don't have the contempt for wealth that a lot of people do. The fact they're rich makes no difference one way or another to me. And I think what's interesting recently in the news, the jokes about the Titanic submarine,
Oh, yeah.
these past few weeks, they're a disgusting reflection of how society regards the rich. Would they be making those jokes if it was just like a normal... I'm seeing memes of it everywhere because it was a rich dude that went down to see it.
Yeah. Not just memes of that, but like memes memeing people that daren't speak out against it. Or dare speak out.
Yeah.
It. Like, I've seen, like, I can't remember the formats of it, but I've seen a meme where it's like people defending rich billionaires who don't give a shit about them. And, like, the meme is implying that those people are, like, foolish.
Yeah.
Or that they're being ignored or whatever.
Look, our right as the unrich is to happily punch up at the rich. That's fine. But there's a line, isn't there? I don't know. It just, to me, it bespoke a lot. It's like, oh, yeah, people... Succession doesn't matter what they did. They'd always hate them because they're rich.
Yeah.
And I just don't have that. I don't have that in me.
I think you just need to have the, like... Again, like you said, punch up at the rich, punch up at whoever.
Yeah.
But I think you just need to have the understanding, or like you need to think about, like, if you were in that position, would you be any different?
Exactly.
Would you be any worse? Like, would the people that are like complaining about billionaires, would they turn down billions?
Well, that's what it comes down to.
Would they not be doing the kind of frivolous nonsense that billionaires are doing?
Yeah,
now?
never mind the kind of people they are. Like, everyone wants to be a billionaire. I don't care. Everyone wants to be rich.
Like the type of people that complain about billionaires being leeches on society will also talk about just like, oh, I don't think we should have jobs. I think I should just be allowed to stay home and drink coffee all day.
Like free healthcare, free everything.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, fuck multi-billion-dollar corporations. Corporations shouldn't exist. I'm going to Disneyland for the 3rd time this year.
Well, it's... Disneyland. The thing, Mark Corrigan says it in Peep Show, so if it wasn't for the miracle of consumer capitalism, you'd all be wallowing in the mud. So maybe Armstrong's a bit more, I don't know. So beyond the soapy interest in who ends up in charge, this isn't Game of Thrones where there are clear or clearer cut hate or love candidates for the Iron Throne. Anyone that cared about who ended up running ATN, it wasn't based on who'd most successfully run the business on a financial level, right? It's based on who's the best person, who do I like the most?
Yeah.
Not the best person for the job. And Kendall, for the kind of things those people would care about, Kendall would have represented an improvement culturally. He is better than Logan in that sense.
Yeah.
You know? It's like bad parenting, right? You hope that it improves over generations. And there's an irony in the fact that Kendall, to an extent, echoed his father's parenting, but he wouldn't have been as monstrous as Logan. That almost certainly would have produced less success, but on the human level, it's an improvement. The show ends up being about cycles, right? The same stories told again and again.
Yeah.
It nevertheless somehow remains fresh and compelling and exciting all the way through.
Yeah.
Because things could change, right? You always think things could change. But it is evidently the opinion of Mr. Armstrong that fundamentally people do not. I just think it was nice that we were able to appreciate one of the greatest shows of all time before it ended.
Yeah.
You know, I said this to you. We got to enjoy it in real time for that final stretch.
Yeah.
And who knows when that will happen again.
I mean, I feel like we said a similar thing about Breaking Bad.
Yeah. That was 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And it goes to show that it can still happen.
It can still happen.
You never know when, and you never know in what form. But yeah, to sort of, I mean, like, I pitched to you, didn't I? Like, let's watch Succession together. You come over mine.
Yeah.
In an environment where we don't usually coexist.
Like, so we can watch it as quickly as possible, basically, right?
Yeah. Also, it's like, so it's the earliest opportunity we have to watch it, but also this is a novel.
It becomes an event, yeah.
Yeah, it becomes something. Because it deserved that.
Yeah. No, we got to, I think I said to you loads of times, let's appreciate this.
Yeah.
You know, like, we're excited for the next episode. We're talking about what might happen. How often does that happen? And
yeah,
it would appear once in a decade.
Maybe, yeah.
You know, I'm fine. Give me a Succession every decade. I can just about cope with that. A Parasite and a Succession once every decade.
Yeah.
And I won't kill myself.
Okay.
And on that note...
Oh, the pressure's on.
I think that's everything. I think we're done.
Yeah, like you said, there's so much more we could talk about, but don't listen to us. Go watch the show.
Just go watch it.
Go watch Succession. Go watch Mrs. Davis. Go watch Spider-Verse.
Don't watch Transformers.
Don't watch Transformers. Don't watch the Full Monty TV show. But watch the Full Monty film if you haven't.
Yes. And continue listening to us every week.
Yes. Every week?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even know it was going to be a week before this one's out, let alone before we record the next
Continue
one.
listening to us whenever we put one out. Whenever that is.
Okay.
Every 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. Just please. Please keep listening.
Please.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.